Hey everyone, I sincerely appreciate your support. If you enjoy my audiobooks, I would be truly grateful if you could subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support even further, you're welcome to become a Patreon member, where you can access audiobooks of novels as long as they are freely available on the internet. Your kindness and support mean so much. Thank you.
The day after you left Allinson City, you woke up to Krisha's apologetic greeting. She was deeply sorry for falling asleep without permission while you were speaking last night. She even requested that you punish her for her behavior. You reassured her that it wasn't necessary, but the girl insisted on being disciplined. So, you lightly tapped her forehead with your index finger, calling it her punishment. After that, you began your day with washing and eating. From the top of the mountain, you looked toward Allinson City and saw that it was still ravaged by monsters. Twisted, mournful flames continued to burn without showing any sign of subsiding. You decided to remain patient, communicating with the elements atop the mountain as you worked to create broader and more comprehensive magic. Your elemental perception continued to activate. Mortal wisdom continued to activate. Your understanding of magic deepened further. On the third day after leaving Allinson City, heavy rain fell from a gloomy sky. The torrential downpour extinguished the fires in Allinson City, but the monsters lingering in the ruins didn't leave. They seemed to be waiting for something. You resolved to wait patiently as well. Meanwhile, you noticed a change in Krisha's eyes. The previously chaotic mix of black and gold seemed to have shifted into a more orderly arrangement. The girl's eyes looked even more beautiful, almost captivating. In your spare time, you read magic books and attempted to develop your own magical tools. On the fourth day, the skies cleared. You began to wonder if you had miscalculated. From what you could observe, Allinson City still appeared as a desolate ruin, overrun by monsters, with no signs of significant change. Nonetheless, you chose to stay. The food in your space ring was plentiful, ensuring that you and Krisha could endure life in the wild for an extended period. However, the lack of stability was undeniable. Krisha, determined to be of greater help to you, devoted herself to magical training with increased fervor. Her progress accelerated noticeably. On the fifth day, your patience was rewarded. The earth trembled violently. Mountains quaked, and a dark wave emerged on the horizon. A deafening roar filled the air as thousands of steam-powered armored vehicles rolled forward, their massive wheels crushing everything in their path. Towering columns of steam hissed into the sky, and sharp, piercing whistles echoed. Underneath the relentless cacophony of grinding gears and shrieking steam, legions of soldiers marched in unison, their iron boots pounding the earth in a dull, oppressive rhythm. From above, mages stood on floating platforms, chanting praises to their gods, their voices rising in a chaotic symphony of prayers, roars, and marching orders. Finally, all the voices unified into a single, resounding cry. Gods above, destroy these heretics. Dark steam cannons roared to life, gathering energy. Wands brimming with elemental magic glowed with preparation. War had begun. Human legions bearing the emblems of various gods charged at the monstrous horde that had taken over Allinson City. Explosions erupted across the battlefield, and the initial assault annihilated thousands of lesser monsters. The results appeared promising. But Sushi frowned deeply. Something was wrong. The sight of human armies and divine magicians battling monsters might have seemed normal, but to Sushi, the situation reeked of inconsistencies. Why had the orcs breached the Church of God's border defenses? Why had the legions arrived so late, when it was clear that no survivors remained in the city? And most importantly, Sushi murmured to himself, why are these forces so inadequately prepared? Their weapons and magic are insufficient for reclaiming Allinson City. During his escape, Sushi had encountered these monsters firsthand. While he had been able to overpower most of them, he had also sensed beings among them with power rivaling a Grand Magister or even a Holy Domain Magister. The human legion's best efforts barely matched the power of a single great magician. Their equipment might clear out weaker monsters but stood no chance against the true threats. It's impossible that those in power didn't anticipate this, Sushi mused grimly. So what is their real objective? You observed the battle closely and found your suspicions confirmed. Despite their initial success, the human forces quickly reached a stalemate. Their advanced weapons couldn't penetrate the monsters' defenses. Enormous subdragon species rampaged through their ranks, effortlessly smashing armored vehicles to pieces. Flying creatures like poisonous dragons and blood bees harassed airborne mages, who retaliated fiercely but found themselves outnumbered and overwhelmed. The tide of battle shifted. The land was filled with chaos and death. Sushi's unease grew. Are these legions being sent here to die? He wondered, his brow furrowing. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, Sushi heard the fervent prayers of the soldiers. Save me, great gods who created the world. Please save me, I don't want to die. Adana, Adana, help me, I beg you. Don't come any closer, monster. Ah! Cries of desperation echoed across the battlefield. Soldiers and mages alike, faced with the terror of death, abandoned all pretense of courage. Their spirits cracked under the pressure, and they screamed for salvation. Would the gods hear their prayers? Sushi wasn't sure, but at that moment, he witnessed something extraordinary. The sky turned dark. Clouds swirled violently as thunder rolled across the heavens. Lightning flashed, illuminating the chaos below. And then, from the stormy sky, a small, radiant particle of light descended. The earth trembled as the light fell, and for a brief moment, everything became silent. Sushi's eyes narrowed. He was about to witness the arrival of a god. What is a god? A power that transcends all things. A being who controls the world. Indescribably sublime. God said, "Let there be light." In a world shrouded in darkness, only the blazing white light remained. Everything rose and fell within its radiance, warm, yet searing. Thunder rolled through the clouds. The sun blazed in the sky. The boundless earth shook, water vapor rose, and storms howled. All was swallowed by pure light. 3 days later, Sushi and Krisha arrived at a new city called Mage, chosen as their new settlement. In their newly purchased house, Krisha meticulously examined each room, checking for missing furniture and noting what still needed to be purchased. Meanwhile, Sushi sat in a soft chair in the living room, lost in thought about the divine punishment he had witnessed 3 days earlier. Incredible, he murmured. Truly worthy of being called a god. They accomplished such an overwhelming feat, so effortlessly annihilating the monsters in Allinsson city in one blow while simultaneously protecting the surviving soldiers. He shook his head, still amazed. The terrain around Allenson has practically reshaped itself. How much power did it take? 10%? No, not even 1%. Closing his eyes, Sushi tightened his grip on his nearly shattered wand. That day, though the god's main attack targeted the monsters, the resulting shockwave had been so immense that even from a great distance, Sushi had to exhaust all his resources to protect himself and Krisha. Dozens of level 7 spells were unleashed in rapid succession just to offset the aftermath of the light's descent. Though dangerous, the experience had been enlightening. Witnessing the arrival of a god and the soldiers' blind fanaticism made Sushi understand the truth behind the events. Extra, extra. Outside, newsboys shouted as they ran down the streets, their voices full of excitement. Allinsson city in the north was invaded by monsters. Large legions were defeated, and the city was nearly destroyed. The great god of light descended and saved the survivors. Extra, extra. The grace of the god of light has been bestowed. Crowds of passers-by eagerly purchased newspapers, poring over the details. Some wore solemn expressions as they read about the invasion of Allinsson city and the legion's defeat. But as they read of the god of light descending to save the survivors, their faces lit up with reverence. Praise the great god of light, the lord of infinite brilliance. May the light endure forever, protecting the weak even unto death. Thank you for saving us once again. Believers of the god of light sang praises in the streets, their voices swelling with emotion. Passers-by paused to sigh and pray, their expressions growing increasingly devout. Some even burst into tears of gratitude, and even non-believers were swept up in the fervent atmosphere, murmuring quiet thanks to the gods. All of this, Sushi observed from the window. He understood the gods' plans perfectly. They orchestrated this entire scenario, he mused. They created the monster invasion, allowing human legions to fall, making the situation appear dire and hopeless. And then, at the critical moment, the gods intervened, not only harvesting faith but also solidifying humanity's awe and dependence on them. Sushi sighed deeply. A cruel method. The gods' psychological control over humans was chillingly precise. They knew that if humanity grew too comfortable, belief in the gods would wane. Thus, the gods manufactured danger and chaos, presenting themselves as saviors at humanity's most desperate hour. This ensured the continuous harvesting of faith and reinforced the devotion of believers. It was an undeniably effective tactic. From his point of view, Sushi saw countless people flocking to join the Church of God, eager to draw closer to divine power and become faith-driven magicians. Perhaps, he muttered, that was their intention all along. He tapped the armrest of his chair, the sound echoing softly. Faith mages and elemental mages could both wield magic, but their paths were fundamentally different. A faith mage's power stemmed from their deity. The mage could only access the power granted to them, meaning the peak of their potential was limited to the level of a demigod. Dependents could never surpass their masters. But elemental mages walked a separate path, one of observing the world and uncovering its truths. Through their own understanding, they could ignite divine fire and wield the authority of creation itself. The gods, unwilling to face new challengers, subtly promoted the faith mage's path while gradually suppressing elemental mages, ensuring their supremacy remained unthreatened. If that's truly their strategy, I'll need to tread carefully, Sushi muttered. He felt certain that his growing strength as an elemental mage would eventually attract the gods' attention. The thought of facing dozens, perhaps hundreds, of true gods made him shudder. The gods love the world? No, they love themselves. Standing slowly, Sushi stretched and glanced out the window at the bustling streets filled with fervent believers. He shook his head. Such deceptions, carefully crafted lies, weren't entirely malevolent. Faith provided people with power, and for the vast majority who couldn't take the path of elemental magic, divine favor offered a chance at greatness. The cost, however, was fear. Fear of becoming the next sacrifice for a miracle. In Allinsson city, nearly 1 million citizens and soldiers had perished. A staggering, tragic number. The soft hiss of steam broke his thoughts. Mist filled the room as Krisha activated the new home steam equipment. Master, everything is set up. There are no issues, Krisha reported calmly. Thank you, Krisha. Sushi looked at her, his eyes lingering on her long silver gray hair and those enigmatic eyes. As before, the only thing he saw reflected in them was his own figure. Let's go, he said. I'll cook tonight. Krisha blinked in surprise but nodded, following him obediently. The house, the city, and the people around them were unfamiliar, but the familiar figure before her gave her courage. As she followed Sushi to the kitchen, she heard the distant cries of believers singing praises to the gods. She ignored them. To her, only one god mattered, the one standing right in front of her. To celebrate the first day of moving into your new home, you decide to cook. Mortal wisdom is activating. Observer is activating. You prepare a table of delicious dishes with remarkably precise techniques. Your cooking skills have improved, and you feel more adept with the kitchen utensils. Unfortunately, for you, the concept of a god of cookery does not exist in this world, or else you might have given it a try. At the dinner table, Krisha praises your cooking. The food made by the master is the most delicious. Her words are calm but sincere, and as she eats too quickly, traces of soup linger on her lips. You gently wipe her mouth with care. This dinner is thoroughly enjoyable not only because of the delicious food but also because, after living in the wild for so long, you finally return to the comfort of a home. During the post-dinner chat, you explain the nature of gods to the witch, hinting that you might become their enemy in the future. Krisha's understanding is limited, her wisdom processing it slowly, but in her heart, the answer remains unshakable. As long as you need her, she will always stand by your side. The witch's response is as simple as ever, yet filled with determination. Even if you face the world as an enemy, she vows to accompany you to the end of the world. Krisha, this is very dangerous. I know, Master. Then, don't you need to think it over? No need, Master. For Krisha, danger and hesitation are meaningless concepts. Having endured a childhood trapped in malice and nearly destroyed by torment, she now focuses solely on her resolve. Her purpose is clear: to stay by the one she views as her Sunday. The witch has her own steadfast rules of conduct. You are proud of her determination, yet you worry that she might attract the attention of the gods. You resolve to protect Krisha more carefully in the future. You continue conversing with her, sharing knowledge about the gods, enabling her to understand the enemy so she won't be left in ignorance. Krisha listens, astonished by the immense power of the gods. She recalls the punishment of the god of light she witnessed near Allinsson last time. Master, the witch asks, is there a power greater than the gods in this world? You ponder the question deeply before giving a light-hearted answer. Maybe the power of love. Emotions sometimes hold limitless strength. You say this with a smile, recalling the passionate anime you watched before your time travel where heroes defeated enemies with shouts of friendship, bonds, love, and justice. Unfortunately, reality is harsh. Strength is built incrementally, not conjured from raw emotions. Unraveling begins again. Simulating the 11th year, you are 25 years old, and Krisha is 17. Time flies quickly. In the blink of an eye, you and Krisha have lived in Mage City for a year. You use fabricated identities to avoid past complications. 1 year is enough to adapt, allowing you to settle into a peaceful routine similar to life in Allinsson City. In spring, you take Krisha to enjoy the mountain flowers' fragrance. In summer, you relax in the courtyard, listening to cicadas while Krisha pours you iced juice. In autumn, as the air cools, you both watch the leaves fall, accompanied by the rhythmic hum of steam equipment. In winter, you savor hot drinks made by Krisha while studying magic books amid the snowy scenery. Everything feels serene and harmonious. You hope this life continues forever. With enough time, your talent will lead you to higher realms. To your delight, Krisha advances from an official mage to an elite mage this year. Mage City. In your new courtyard, you observe the 17-year-old gray-haired witch. Sushi nods slightly, sensing her growing mental power, signaling her advancement to an elite mage. Krisha, relax more and focus on sensing the elements, Sushi advises. Standing under a massive tree, Krisha's cold, delicate face alternates between light and shadow as the wind stirs the leaves above. Yes, Master, she replies softly, channeling her mental power to perceive the elements around her: earth, wind, water, and fire. Gradually, her mental power begins capturing these elements. However, without realizing it, her eyes shift dramatically, blending black and gold into a swirling vortex. Plop. Krisha successfully achieves a mental breakthrough, advancing to an elite mage. But, for unknown reasons, she collapses into unconsciousness. Krisha, Sushi exclaims, rushing to her side. You are elated by her progress. Based on her rapid cultivation, you believe she can reach the great mage level before you leave this world. This strength would enable her to protect herself even in your absence. As you prepare advanced magic books for her, an unforeseen event disrupts your plans. At the moment of her breakthrough, her eyes undergo a peculiar transformation, and she falls into a deep coma. You urgently use life magic, but it reveals no injuries and proves ineffective. Confusion and concern grip you. The mortal wisdom activates, continuously activating. Recalling her strange eyes, you hypothesize that the demon blood within her may have triggered this state, giving you a new direction for research. You place Krisha in the meditation room to rest, then scour your collection of demon-related books. Feeling inadequate, you visit the Magicians Association and uncover 2 more ancient tomes. Mortal wisdom continues to activate. You dive into in-depth research on demons. Compared to the old meditation room in Allinson City, the new meditation room was brighter and more refined. The soft glow of mithril, the golden shimmer, and the rising white vapor from the steam equipment made the room feel dreamlike. Click. Sushi turned the knob, activating the glass lamp embedded with light crystals. The soft, hazy light dispersed slightly through the vapor, casting a gentle glow on Sushi and the unconscious gray-haired girl lying nearby. Occasionally, the girl's face twisted in pain, and she would briefly regain consciousness, only to fall back into a deep coma. This cycle repeated endlessly, like a torment without respite. Strangely enough, though it appeared perilous, the girl's life was not in danger. There were no signs of death. Sushi had already examined her thoroughly. Both life attribute and death attribute magic confirmed that Krisha's condition was stable. But why is this happening? Those eyes and the demon blood, what's going on with Krisha's body? It was a relief that Krisha's life was safe, but her painful coma was far from acceptable. Sushi turned to the corner of the meditation room. The young witch, pale and fragile, lay unconscious on a makeshift magic stone slab. Her forehead was damp with sweat, her breathing irregular and rapid, her fingers trembling involuntarily. As Sushi gazed at the weakened 17-year-old witch, his mind drifted back to a distant memory. He recalled the little girl he had once found in a filthy alley, ragged, scarred, stepping through mud with empty eyes, praying desperately for salvation. Now, the image of the grown witch overlapped with that of the helpless child in his mind. It was all so heart-wrenching. I'm truly worried about you, Krisha. Sushi sighed softly, his voice echoing faintly in the quiet meditation room. The sound of mechanical chains clattering accompanied him as he unfolded a table and chair embedded in the wall. Sitting down, he placed several ancient books before him, flipping through their pages in search of information about demons. Occasionally, he stood to observe and record the girl's condition. During her brief moments of consciousness, he stayed by her side, chatting softly. But most of the time, he sat alone under the dim glow of the glass lamp, reading, taking notes, and muttering to himself. I see. So, this is how it is. Demons existed even before the gods descended into this world. It seems the creation myth promoted by the Church of God can't be trusted. The gods are merely a product of this world's evolution. With the assistance of mortal wisdom, Sushi's research abilities had significantly improved. His understanding of demons deepened as he tirelessly studied. You are worried about the unconscious witch. You begin to study the information of the demon race. While seeking to help the witch recover from her coma, you inadvertently uncover truths about the world that you had never known. There are two versions of the creation myth in the magical world. The first, widely known, claims the gods worked together to create the world, all living things, and the sky and earth, making them the world's rulers. The second, hidden in obscure texts, suggests the world was born from chaos, and elements gave rise to all things on their own. The so-called gods appeared much later, even after demons. Surprised by these revelations, you continue researching the demons. The information is obscure, written in ancient and forgotten languages, which slows your progress. Mortal wisdom continues to activate. You learn Ejebigane, the ancient Yuancho language, and Ingla. Your research on demons begins to progress smoothly. You delve into their mating habits, talents, and racial characteristics. Sushi immersed himself completely in his studies. When he was hungry, he endured it temporarily. When thirsty, he used water magic to quench it. When tired, he meditated to stay awake. Apart from essential meals, he remained in this state, his strong mental power sustaining him, though he grew visibly haggard. Master, have I caused you any trouble? Krisha woke briefly, her voice blank, her eyes empty, but her concern evident. Even a girl who had lost her emotions cared for the one she held dear. She didn't want to be the reason for his exhaustion. It's okay, Krisha. You're very well behaved and never cause me trouble, Sushi replied gently. His steady palm, warm and reassuring, stroked her head, bringing her weak but precious comfort. The warmth soothed Krisha, and she soon drifted back to sleep. After confirming her condition remained stable, Sushi resumed his research with renewed focus. Day after day, the cycle continued. The sun rose, the moon set, and Sushi pushed himself to his limits. After 9 days of relentless study, he finally finished reading all the materials on demons. He had sorted out the fundamental ideas and developed theories about Krisha's coma. However, his overworked mind clouded his thinking. Recognizing the need for rest, Sushi decided to sleep, his body too exhausted to make it back to his bedroom. He fell into a deep, peaceful sleep in a sitting position, his consciousness swallowed by the tides of fatigue. The meditation room grew eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of steam equipment and the occasional distant rumble from the city's central steam plant. An hour later, the slab engraved with life restoration magic vibrated faintly. Krisha woke. Her black and gold eyes continued their endless spiral, like a vortex reaching upward. Her first instinct was to look for Sushi, the one she cared for most. Each time she woke in the past, she heard his voice or the sound of him flipping through pages. This time, the silence worried her deeply. Fearing Sushi might have collapsed from overwork, Krisha forced her frail body to sit up, supporting herself on trembling arms. Master. Krisha's legs were so weak they seemed ready to collapse with each step. Her movements were shaky, her pace unsteady. Physically, she was frail. Her voice was soft, barely audible. Krisha's condition was dire. She struggled even to walk, moving forward with great difficulty, taking one step at a time while breathing rapidly. The scene was quiet, yet it carried a profound emotional weight. Through her actions, the witch proved a simple truth. In the presence of true will, even a weak body cannot hold someone back. The light fell on her figure, highlighting her pale, bloodless face. Trembling, she stretched out her slender fingers, resting them on the chair where Sushi sat. Using the chair for support, the pressure of her arduous journey lessened, allowing her to finally reach Sushi. Then, Krisha saw his familiar face, now haggard from exhaustion, as he slept deeply. Master, it's okay. She tilted her head and blinked. The truth was far less grave than she had feared. Sushi was unharmed, he had simply fallen asleep. Very good. Her calm voice echoed in the room. The weight of her worries dissolved, returning her to her usual detached state. Now, what should she do? Krisha hesitated. After confirming Sushi was fine, she was at a loss. Should she lie back on the stone slab and wait for him to wake up? Light and shadow go together. When light appears, shadow follows it closely. But once light disappears, shadow loses its existence. So, when the light falls silent, where does the shadow belong? Krisha had no answer. Her life revolved entirely around Sushi. Beyond his presence, nothing else interested her. However, in her current fragile state, what could she even do? She struggled to care for herself, let alone assist with anything else. Abandoning unrealistic ideas of helping with chores, Krisha stood quietly by Sushi's side. She crossed her hands in front of her, leaning against the table, her expression calm and indifferent. The dim room, illuminated by hazy lights, seemed like a fleeting memory. The soft glow gently enveloped the man and the girl, the former fast asleep, the latter standing still. This quiet act was all the witch could manage and all she wished to do. Since the light was resting, the shadow would remain by its side until it could shine again. But there was something strange about this moment, a subtle and unfamiliar feeling. Master's face, Krisha murmured. Standing, she now observed Sushi closely. Typically, she could see his face, but not in such detail. This was her first time studying him from this perspective. She noticed his swollen eyes, a result of overworking himself with books. She noticed his hands, calloused from holding a pen for countless hours, even in sleep. She saw his pale lips and his haggard face, signs of intense fatigue. She saw it all. She saw the years etched at his temples, the shallow breaths escaping his nostrils, and the weight of his exhaustion. Watching him sleep so deeply, she could feel everything he had endured. So, this is what it is? A heavy sensation pierced her heart, dilating her pupils slightly. Krisha once believed that without light, the shadow would be lost. But now, she realized the truth. Even when the light dims, its lingering warmth penetrates the soul, providing the shadow with a path forward. The witch didn't know how to express her gratitude for the blazing warmth she felt. Emotions swirled in her chest, confusing and overwhelming her. Not knowing what else to do, Krisha acted on impulse. She gently stretched out her hands, cupping Sushi's face with utmost care. Lowering herself, she let their foreheads touch, their noses brushing lightly. Her silver-gray hair draped down, a few strands brushing his face. May you be well, Krisha whispered softly. Though her voice was calm, it carried a flicker of emotion, fleeting yet profound. For a moment, time seemed to stop. In those brief seconds, countless new feelings erupted within the witch's heart. What were they exactly? She couldn't say. Clinging to the warmth of their closeness, Krisha felt a pang of guilt. She knew that, as personal property, such an act was out of line. Suddenly, Sushi's expression shifted slightly, and he let out a faint groan. Startled, Krisha panicked. Her weak legs carried her faster than she thought possible as she scrambled back to the stone slab. She pulled the bedding over herself, curling up tightly like a cocooned silkworm, leaving no gap for the outside world to see. Her small form trembled slightly under the covers. It was an adorable sight, despite her fear. Her heart pounded violently, a tension she had never experienced before. Though her action had been small, just a touch on his forehead, she was overcome with panic. Master. After waiting for what felt like an eternity, there was no reprimand. Sushi remained soundly asleep. Peeking out from the quilt, Krisha cautiously observed him. Seeing that he hadn't woken, her nerves slowly settled, her calm demeanor returning. Still, so strange, so warm. Krisha touched her flushed cheeks, surprised by their heat. Was she running a fever? She wondered if this was the cost of overstepping her master's boundaries. The witch decided that as long as she wasn't caught, the price was worth it. In Wage City, the towering steam tower pierced the clouds like a massive steel volcano, spewing thick fog that shrouded the entire city. Engines roared, gears spun relentlessly, and bullets streaked through the dark sky. The dim stars were illuminated by bursts of shining magic. At night, the city's great bell rang out, echoing across the steel expanse. Its sound shook through the mist, scaring away the sneaky creatures lurking in the shadows. 15 hours had passed since Sushi had fallen asleep in the meditation room. The instinctive sensation of thirst stirred his body awake. I didn't expect to sleep this long, Sushi murmured as he opened his eyes, the familiar environment of the meditation room coming into view. Glancing at the mechanical wall clock, he couldn't help but sigh. It wasn't surprising he had worked non-stop for 9 days and nights. Gilyala, Gilyala. Summoning a large sphere of water, Sushi stretched his stiff body while drinking deeply. The sleep had worked wonders. All his physical fatigue had disappeared, and his once drained spirit was completely restored. It's time to move forward. After studying so many historical records, I finally have a clue. Sushi turned to the corner of the meditation room. There, Krisha lay quietly on the temporary magic stone slab, her long silver-gray hair spread out like silk. Sushi approached her and conducted a quick check. Confirming that her life condition remained stable, he returned to his desk, focusing on the piles of handwritten notes. The manuscripts, densely filled with fine text, contained detailed information about various categories of demons. Sushi had delved deep into demonology, achieving a level of knowledge that far exceeded most scholars. Obscure and incomplete information had been clarified and expanded with the help of his observer and mortal wisdom entries. The term demon clan is humankind's own label, Sushi wrote on a fresh sheet of paper. More accurately, they should be called the ancient clan or the original clan. The meditation room felt emptier in the stillness of the night. Sushi sat under the dim light, his pen gliding over the paper as he documented his insights. The idea that gods created the world is clearly flawed, he continued. If the gods were truly omnipotent, they wouldn't rely on the faith of mere mortals. History aligns more closely with what is described in the biography of Master Lebguo. The world emerged from chaos, and elements gave rise to all things. The so-called demons were the first creatures of this world, gifted with powerful bodies and extraordinary innate abilities by the very nature of the world. From birth, they possessed strength surpassing other races, with the strongest even able to rival gods. Their only flaw lies in the instability of their emotions and desires, which makes traditional magical practices impossible for pure-blooded demons. Only unique cases like Krisha, with her diluted demon bloodline and suppressed emotions, can learn magic without interference. The steam equipment occasionally surged, the copper covers emitting crackling echoes, while Sushi's pen scratched softly against the paper. He paused, lost in thought. The demon's flaws didn't feel accidental. In the development of the world, chaos always gives way to order. In its infancy, the magical world was incomplete, and demons were a manifestation of that initial chaos. Later, gods emerged as symbols of order and law, embodying the world's orderly progression. With this perspective, Krisha's condition becomes clearer, Sushi concluded, setting his pen down. Looking up at the dim ceiling, he sighed deeply. Krisha's coma was neither a disease nor a curse. It was the result of a clash between her demon bloodline and her growing mental power. Disorder and order, represented by demons and magic, were fundamentally incompatible. In the past, Krisha's weak body and fragile mind had kept these forces dormant. But the events in Allinsson City and the influx of despair had awakened her demon bloodline. Simultaneously, her promotion to elite mage had significantly strengthened her mental power. Now, her body and mind were at odds. Disorder and order, demons, and gods, two opposing forces vied for control within her, leaving her trapped between coma and wakefulness. Her life wasn't in danger yet, but Sushi knew this equilibrium wouldn't hold forever. This is difficult, Sushi muttered, rubbing his temples. Though he now understood the cause of her condition, finding a solution was another matter entirely. This domain of gods and demons was well beyond the scope of conventional magic. Yet, Krisha wasn't harboring a true god or demon, and Sushi was no ordinary magician. With the power of his entries, there was still hope. You have discovered the truth behind the witch's coma. Your understanding of the magical world has deepened. Your knowledge of the world's truth has expanded. Due to your exceptional insight, your observer entry has improved, increasing your range of observation. You contemplate how to effectively rescue the witch and consider two possible methods. The first is to strengthen either the demon bloodline or mental power, allowing one to completely overpower the other. This would remove the internal conflict and awaken the witch. The second is to balance disorder and order, enabling the powers of demons and magic to coexist within her. After careful thought, you choose the second method. For Krisha Christina, both body and spirit are essential. Losing either would cause irreparable harm, something you cannot bear to witness. Mortal wisdom is activating. Observer is activating. You begin exploring the essence of balance. You are pleased to discover that, even in her unconscious state, Krisha instinctively reconciles the two forces, weaving them together. This is why her eyes exhibit the rotating colors of black and gold. You quickly decide on a plan. You arrange a unique magic circle in the meditation room to suppress her demon bloodline. Simultaneously, you burn Qingshen grass to awaken her mind, helping her consciously control her mental power. This will allow her to guide and harmonize the opposing forces. The way to balance lies within this process. Overlay. Staggered. Intertwined. Under Sushi's watchful eye, Krisha successfully awakened, freeing herself from the chaotic state of intermittent unconsciousness. But the problem wasn't fully resolved. The moment the magic circle was withdrawn or the effects of Qingshen grass faded, the conflict between order and disorder would still drag Krisha back into her coma. Sushi knew the issue had to be addressed quickly while this window of clarity remained. Krisha, listen to your instincts. Relax and guide the forces, Sushi instructed firmly. If you feel anything wrong, tell me immediately. Yes, master, the witch replied obediently. Her pale face lacked its usual healthy color, yet it carried an ethereal, fragile beauty. Guiding her mental power, she began calming the blood within her body. With her will, she created a neutral zone between the two opposing forces, a space where fire and water could coexist. She bridged the gap between gods and demons. Her mind and body began to find harmony. With Sushi's guidance and the insights provided by mortal wisdom, Krisha painstakingly led the two forces within her to intersect. Eventually, a balance emerged. Sushi observed her closely. Her black and gold eyes began to settle, their chaotic energy dissipating. Black formed the core, and gold became the ring encircling it. The black depths resembled a sea of stars, shimmering faintly, hinting at infinite mysteries. The golden ring radiated nobility, binding the dark core and sealing it firmly. However, a faint gap existed between the two, imperceptible but present, preventing their complete fusion. Despite this, the witch's transformation and elevation were undeniable. Her eyes, once emotionless and empty, now carried a depth that hinted at divine power. Her expression remained calm and unshaken, reminiscent of the god of light Sushi had encountered before. Divinity, Sushi murmured to himself. No, it's something beyond that. He sighed softly. A witch who could perfectly balance disorder and order, with both a powerful body and spirit, would one day surpass even the gods. But such a miracle would require time and development. One day, though, her existence would astonish the entire world. Master, am I okay? Krisha's calm voice was tinged with confusion and hesitation. She sat on the magic stone slab, looking at her hands and then at Sushi, her helplessness apparent. Even if she could achieve miraculous feats, the witch instinctively sought reassurance from the one she trusted most. Her eyes, clear as mirrors, reflected Sushi's figure. You're okay, Krisha, Sushi reassured her. He gently held her cold hand, his warmth easing her anxiety. Thank you, Krisha, for enduring this. Now, let's go home together. Sushi's voice was soft as he guided her out of the meditation room. To him, the meditation room was not home, it was a place for study and emergencies. He wanted to bring Krisha back to the warmth and comfort of the sun, allowing her to heal from her ordeals. Krisha started, but her words trailed off. Instead, she silently held Sushi's hand, following him closely and walking within his shadow. Wherever you are, that is my home, she thought, though she never said it aloud. After leaving the meditation room, Sushi personally prepared a sumptuous meal for Krisha. Now fully awake, the girl initially lacked much of an appetite. However, Sushi's cooking was irresistibly tempting. Before she realized it, Krisha had eaten 2/3 of the meal, a far greater portion than usual. Confused, she stared at her empty plate. Why am I so hungry all of a sudden? Observing her reaction, Sushi smiled knowingly. It seems the demon blood in your body is starting to show its effects, he explained. Your body is evolving and transforming, so it naturally needs more nourishment. He comforted her, telling her not to worry. The fusion of demon and god bloodlines was an unprecedented path. Physical changes were only the beginning. In the future, Krisha would undoubtedly display abilities that defied conventional understanding. You successfully saved the witch and created a miracle beyond all others. You achieved balance between order, chaos, and even the world itself. You wonder what impact the witch will have on this world as she grows. Perhaps she will become someone who surpasses everything. Smiling at the thought, you prepare a feast for the witch. She eats heartily, filling her stomach. The next day, you examine the witch, now returned to normal. To your surprise, her magical talent, already exceptional, has improved to an incredible degree. Her wisdom surpasses that of ordinary people, even reaching extraordinary levels. Additionally, her once fragile body is now stronger. Although her outward appearance remains unchanged, internally, she is no longer human. You realize you no longer need to worry about her catching colds or fevers. You feel relieved and happy. You had always been concerned about Krisha's safety, fearing she wasn't strong enough to protect herself. But her newfound transformation gives you peace of mind. You continue living with Krisha in Wage City, enjoying a relaxed and hopeful life. You believe that the two of you can remain in peaceful seclusion here until your strength grows even greater. 2 years later, however, an incident involving the witch disrupts your tranquil life. Simulating the 13th year. Sushi was now 27 years old, and Krisha was 19. Time inevitably left its mark on the body. Even with life magic and boundless vitality, Sushi's face, body, and movements bore traces of age and maturity. This was natural, as it should be. But Krisha was different. At 19 years old, she still looked the same as she had at 17. Her figure had grown slightly fuller from nutrition and exercise, but her body no longer aged. It had stopped at 17, forever frozen in time. Immortality. Sushi mused. Or perhaps, eternal life. Standing in the courtyard of Wage City, Sushi gazed at the flowers wilting in the breeze. A sense of wonder filled him, though he wasn't entirely surprised. Krisha's lifespan had always been much longer than his. Now, it seemed her existence had stretched into infinity, an eternity far beyond human reach. Life withers away in the blink of an eye. In the autumn wind, the sea of withered flowers swayed, struggling against the breeze. Petals fell one after another, tumbling through the air. Some hesitated mid-flight, while others drifted far away to unknown destinations. Sushi watched this scene and felt the unique sadness and loneliness of autumn. He extended his fingers, catching a petal mid-fall. The flowers in Wage City are more fragrant than those in Allenson City. Is it because of the widespread belief in the goddess of nature and the goddess of life here? However, when it comes to withering, their timing is remarkably consistent. Beautiful flowers eventually wilt. Vibrant green leaves turn yellow and fall. The majority of life in the world is fleeting, hurried, and short-lived. Even though human lifespans are longer than many creatures, they pale in comparison to the eternal existence of gods. It's like a drop of water splashing out of a mighty river, small, humble, and unnoticed. Sushi didn't crave an extended lifespan. Even if the simulation were to end here, he wouldn't consider it a loss. Since entering this simulation, he had gained immense abilities and knowledge: magic manipulation, elemental control, mental power techniques, magic device crafting, mysterious observation, and multi-element integration, among others. Sushi had mastery over 10 elemental attributes of the world, including life and death. Only time and space remained beyond his grasp. Wasn't such an achievement already rich enough? And besides, Sushi was still only 27 years old. His life had a long way to go before its true conclusion. The opportunities for growth and discovery ahead were limitless. Thus, when it came to his own lifespan, Sushi remained content. He didn't lament the finite nature of mortal life. What unsettled him was the witch with her eternal lifespan. Could she endure being alone after he was gone? Would the loss devastate her? Countless nights, beneath the moon's light, Sushi pondered these questions. Master. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. Startled, he released the petal in his hand. It floated away, brushing his cheek and nose before settling gently into the soil below. What's wrong, Krisha? Sushi turned to face the speaker. The witch stood before him, her appearance frozen at 17. Her silver-gray hair gleamed with an otherworldly luster, cascading down her back like a waterfall of light. Some strands softly framed her collarbones, faintly accentuating her pale complexion. Eternal youth lent Krisha a beauty that would never fade. Sushi thought this should be considered a blessing. But Krisha, unsettled by the changes in her body, saw it differently. Master, I don't want this. Krisha's limited life experience made it hard for her to grasp the implications of eternal life. All she understood was that it made her different from her mentor, something she could never accept. Her entire existence revolved around being near her Sunday. The idea of being distanced from him was unbearable. Seeing her unease, Sushi spoke gently to comfort her. It's all right, Krisha. Eternal life isn't a bad thing. Many people in this world would give anything for it. Really? She asked hesitantly. So, it's actually a good thing. Sushi remained silent for a moment, his gaze shifting upward. He watched birds soaring over the treetops, their movements precise and graceful as they darted through the sunlit sky. It's neither good nor bad, he finally said, his tone vague. The witch's life stretched far into the future. Sushi believed she could experience it for herself and decide whether eternal life was a blessing or a burden. Krisha feels uneasy about her changes. She senses the growing distance between you and herself. Despite your reassurances, her unease does not fade. Determined to bridge the gap, the witch begins working harder. Her strength improves. Her skills in housework improve. Krisha pushes herself in every way, striving to grow closer to you. You can't help but smile at her efforts. One afternoon, you tap her gently on the head, telling her to stop overthinking and simply live each day well. Krisha listens, her frantic energy subsiding slightly. In the 14th year of the simulation, you are 28, and Krisha is 20. Despite her age, she still retains the appearance of a 17-year-old. From this year onward, Krisha begins to reduce her trips outside. She realizes that her unchanging appearance over the past 3 years has drawn attention. To avoid unwanted scrutiny and protect you from gossip, she chooses to stay within the courtyard, limiting her outings. In a world where immortality existed, there were items like Zuyundan, blessings from the god of beauty, or the spring of life that slowed aging. But even these miraculous items couldn't achieve true eternal youth. They merely slowed aging to an imperceptible degree. Internally, the body still grew and decayed. Krisha, however, was different. She had achieved true immortality, her time frozen at 17. To ordinary mortals, the difference might go unnoticed. But for mages, with their heightened sensitivity to mental energy, her immortality was unmistakable. They could see that her nature was far from human. After all, what ordinary person could live forever? In the magical world, only gods or rare immortal beings could attain such a state. To avoid trouble and protect Sushi's peaceful life, Krisha chose to confine herself to the courtyard. She no longer ventured out for shopping or errands. This secluded life lasted 2 months. Watching her diligently handle housework, train in magic, and sweep the courtyard every day, Sushi made a decision. Krisha, let's prepare to move to another city. The news caught the witch by surprise. Her usually calm face showed rare confusion. Why, are we moving? She asked blankly. Sushi didn't hide the truth, his voice warm. If we go to a new city, no one will know us. This way, Krisha, you can go out again. But, Krisha hesitated, her tone earnest. You don't need to do this. The witch had little interest in going outside. Her sole purpose was to assist her master. Even if she remained in the courtyard for the rest of her life, she would feel content. To her, moving was unnecessary, especially if it was solely for her sake. What defines an item? In the 3 perspectives shaped by Krisha's tragic childhood, items were things meant to be used by their owners, as long as they served a purpose. Only those with utility were allowed to eat, and only those who proved their worth could avoid abandonment. Having witnessed countless discarded items during her wandering and fleeing, Krisha understood this grim reality all too well. Though Sushi had assured her she would never be abandoned, and though his words were gentle and filled with sincerity, the lingering humility in Krisha's heart drove her to prove her usefulness. She couldn't bear the thought of being a burden. For this reason, she resisted Sushi's idea of moving away, believing it unnecessary and fearing she might be holding him back. But then, Sushi smiled and said to her, Krisha, do you know why birds can fly? Even though she didn't understand his intent, Krisha answered truthfully, because they have wings. Her reply was simple, grounded in the essence of what made birds soar. Without wings, even the lightest bird could never take to the skies. Sushi nodded in agreement. You're absolutely right. Birds can fly because they have wings. These wings give them limitless possibilities. But the meaning of flying, or its destination, those aren't what matter. What truly matters is the freedom of their wings, unrestrained and open. If you cage a bird and bind its wings, it loses its ability to stretch and soar. And when that happens, the essence of being a bird is taken away. His voice softened. His warm, familiar hand gently rested on Krisha's head, stroking her silvery gray hair with a touch that carried both hope and affirmation. Krisha, you are like that caged bird right now, restrained in ways you shouldn't be. And that's not what I want for you. So, come with me. I want to see you fly free once more. Sushi's voice was soft and kind, carrying the warmth of a spring breeze. Krisha stood still, her thoughts a blur. A gentle draft lifted her long gray silver hair, and the light refracted off the ocean blue necklace resting on her chest. Her eyes stung slightly, perhaps from overuse that day. She couldn't fully grasp Sushi's words. After all, she saw herself not as a bird meant to soar, but as an item belonging solely to him, a shadow destined to remain by his side. Still, even as doubts clouded her heart, Krisha clung to one defining trait she considered valuable: obedience. Yes, obedience was her strength. Without questioning further, the witch chose to follow Sushi's wishes. She packed her belongings and prepared to leave Wage City. For the first time in a long while, she stepped out of the courtyard gate, walking hand in hand with Sushi under the sun. It reminded her of the late autumn day years ago when Sushi had pulled her from the filthy alley, offering her a new life. As long as Sushi was by her side, Krisha could face anything without fear. Together, they walked past falling flowers and swirling leaves, moving toward a future she had never dared to imagine. You saw how eternal life troubled the witch and decided to change her circumstances. You abandoned your plan for long-term seclusion in one city. With your limited lifespan, you resolved to let Krisha experience more of the world's wonders. You left Wage City, boarding a steam train to a coastal city further south. For the first time, the witch saw the sea. Though her emotional deficiency kept her face stoic, you could tell her mood had significantly lifted. Feeling validated in your decision, you decided to settle in the new city, Apigo City. In the common language of the magical world, its name meant City of Water. Unlike the icy winters of Allenson or Wage City, Apigo enjoyed a warm, pleasant climate year-round. It was situated by a vast ocean, rich with extraordinary water-based materials. The waves sparkled, the tides surged, and the scenery was breathtaking. Sushi was very satisfied. The city's beauty, high elemental concentration, and distance from their previous lives made it an ideal choice. No one here knew Krisha, allowing her to move freely without fear of scrutiny. Of course, their stay in Apigo would only be temporary. Over time, local magicians would inevitably notice something unusual about Krisha. When that happened, they would move again. Let's go, Krisha, Sushi said softly, leading her toward their new home. The bright sunshine, surging sea, and howling sea breeze welcomed you to your new life. After years of living in Allenson and Wage City, you felt rejuvenated by the change of scenery. You began arranging a magic circle for your new residence. The witch took on the task of purchasing furniture and supplies. Over the following days, you noticed that the witch's sense of restraint had faded. With the freedom to run errands again, she felt useful and content. Her renewed activity brought you great joy, but you couldn't ignore the underlying concern that she might never achieve true independence. You and the witch settled into a peaceful routine in Apigo City. Occasionally, however, the witch's behavior required your guidance. For example, you discovered that she used water magic to catch seafood directly from the ocean. The witch insisted fresh seafood was more nutritious, but you firmly discarded any poisonous fish that could endanger your simulation. In the 15th year of simulation, you were 29, and the witch was 21. Krisha's appearance remained unchanged, frozen at 17. But since your stay in Apigo had been brief, no one suspected anything unusual. Your magical progress reached a bottleneck again. You sensed that your mental power was about to break through, advancing from a great magician to a great mage. This would bring you closer to achieving the Holy Land Mage status and, eventually, the demigod level. Apigo City. Steam Manor by the Sea. In the deepest meditation room, the dark floor was inscribed with a light blue spiritual meditation array using the blood of a supernatural beast. Sushi, now 29, sat cross-legged in the center, his magic wand resting flat before him. Invisible waves of mental energy created a distorted field, pulling and merging with surrounding elements. Rising and falling, sinking and floating, the mental energy intertwined seamlessly with the elements. A sudden tremor echoed through the air, signaling the breaking of a barrier. The trembling sound grew sharper, reverberating through the room. It struck Sushi's eardrums and penetrated deep into his mind. As the vibration's frequency reached its peak, Sushi's mental power surged. What began as a gentle stream quickly transformed into a torrential river, wild and uncontrollable, sweeping, crashing, consuming. The energy wrapped around the surrounding elements, drawing them into its flow. It's not enough, Sushi murmured, gripping his magic wand tightly. In an instant, over a dozen contract magic circles appeared in midair, and elemental spirits materialized from the void. These were the elemental spirits Sushi had contracted over his years in the simulated wizarding world, thanks to his elemental perception and mortal wisdom. Earth, wind, water, and fire. Light, darkness, thunder, and air. Life, death, nature, and destruction. The sheer number of elemental spirits was staggering. They poured in from their respective planes, providing Sushi with an overwhelming tide of elemental energy. Only this immense surge of energy could satisfy his vast magical reserves and unparalleled mental strength, which far exceeded that of ordinary magicians. Boom! The elements roared, and magical power surged. After repeated waves of elemental flushing, Sushi's mental power became purified. He successfully gained control over the once violent elements. This was not the passive communication of an apprentice, nor the resonance of a formal mage. This was dominance imposing his will to command and control the elements entirely. He had ascended. Grand Mage. Promotion successful? I didn't expect this breakthrough to bring such a massive improvement in strength, Sushi remarked, exhaling deeply. Cracking sounds echoed faintly around him. His immense mental power continuously influenced his surroundings, manifesting a subtle, invisible aura of brightness and sharpness, even when his eyes were closed. After 10 minutes of meditation, Sushi calmed the euphoria of his breakthrough. When he opened his eyes again, they had returned to their usual appearance. Great Magician. Grand Mage. The difference in names is just a single word, but the gap in strength is as vast as heaven and earth, Sushi thought inwardly. A Grand Mage leaves behind ordinary spellcasters entirely, embarking on the path of godhood. Familiarizing himself with his newfound power, Sushi extended a hand. A soft, hazy light appeared in his palm, radiating a gentle warmth. The light morphed into fire, then water flowed from the flames. Under Sushi's will, the elements shifted effortlessly, fire and water, wind and earth, light and dark, life and death. Finally, all the elements condensed into a single point, flickering at his fingertips before dissipating with a faint sound as he withdrew his mental power. This was the privilege of a Grand Mage, the ability to manipulate familiar elements at will, shape them, extend them, control them. If perfected, this control could create an individual elemental domain, marking the next step to becoming a holy domain magician. It's incredible, Sushi murmured. From this stage onward, the magic system began to mirror the divine path, elevating its status and essence step by step. Ultimately, this journey led to igniting divine fire, ascending to godhood, and becoming a true master of the world. This was the road to immortality. Condense knowledge, master laws, and grasp the essence of the world. But the journey was extraordinarily difficult, no less challenging than achieving physical immortality. No extraordinary path is ever easy, Sushi acknowledged. He sighed lightly. It's a pity I can't ignite divine fire this time and experience godhood for myself. With a wave of his magic wand, the elemental spirits dispersed, returning to their respective planes. The remaining elemental energy lingered in the air, shimmering dreamily in vibrant colors. Sushi watched this beautiful display in silence. In just 15 years of simulation, aided by mortal wisdom, he had risen from an ordinary mortal to a grand mage capable of commanding elements. With his current trajectory, Sushi felt confident he could one day ascend to a holy domain magician. But that was likely his limit. Becoming a true god or even a demigod was far beyond his reach. Mortal wisdom had given Sushi unparalleled talent. Whether it was cultivating mental power, mastering magic, or understanding the world's truths, this entry provided immense support. But there was a cost. Everything Sushi achieved was confined to mortal limits, including his lifespan. In the dimly lit meditation room, Sushi gazed at his 29-year-old hands under the yellowish light. They remained slender and agile, seemingly untouched by time. But a closer inspection revealed faint traces of age. The river of time is truly insurmountable, Sushi muttered regretfully, raising his eyes to the ceiling. The ceiling, made of reinforced steel and stone, was thick enough to block out all external disturbances. Yet Sushi's gaze seemed to pierce through it, reaching far beyond. He envisioned the heavens above, where the gods reigned, coldly observing the world below. At my current pace, I could break through to a holy domain magician without much delay, Sushi speculated. That would leave me time to explore ways to transcend mortality and achieve godhood. But, he sighed deeply, the gods of this world have thoroughly suppressed the elemental laws. This truth had been imperceptible before. But as a grand mage, Sushi could now sense the stagnation in the world's elemental laws, a deliberate restriction imposed by the gods. This yoke made advancing as an elemental mage exceedingly difficult, let alone uncovering the world's ultimate truths or igniting divine fire. With limited mortal lifespans and divine interference blocking the path forward, Sushi couldn't envision any realistic chance of godhood. It seems I'll have to settle for stopping at the holy domain magician, he said with a calm smile. It was enough. Though a faint regret lingered in his heart, Sushi was satisfied with his accomplishments. Still, part of him couldn't help but dream of the glory of ascending to godhood, a fantasy fueled by years of reading heroic tales. If godhood isn't an option, I'll turn my focus elsewhere, Sushi resolved. A rare red entry like mortal wisdom must not go to waste. And there's one more thing. Before my time runs out, I'll make sure Krisha is ready to stand on her own. How should Krisha be raised? How should a witch be nurtured? Sushi had pondered these questions countless times and crafted detailed plans. First and foremost was magic. After Sushi's breakthrough to Grand Mage, the magic he commanded had advanced to level 9. Beyond that lay the forbidden spells exclusive to holy domain magicians. Sushi intended to teach Krisha every spell he had mastered, from level 1 to level 9, along with forbidden spells he had yet to grasp. Her talent, now bordering on terrifying, allowed her to go beyond the basic elements of earth, wind, water, and fire. She could now aspire to command more complex attributes. But there was another critical goal: curing the emotional void that plagued her before this simulation ended. Click. The door to the meditation room creaked open. Sushi stepped out, his slow but deliberate footsteps echoing in the corridor. The sound was like the steady beat of a small drum, reverberating deep in his chest. Seabirds perched on the eaves scattered in alarm, while tiny insects hurriedly scurried away. Krisha. Rounding the corner, Sushi saw the girl waiting patiently. Her silver-gray hair shimmered faintly under the sun's rays as she stood upright against the wall. Though her face was obscured in shadow, strands of hair gleamed brilliantly in the sunlight. "Master, congratulations on your promotion," she said. Her tone was flat, devoid of emotional inflection, as plain as water. It was so uncolored that it might have left others wondering if they had misheard. But Sushi understood. This was the best Krisha could offer. She had once tried to greet him with a smile, but her stiff and awkward expression had looked so unnatural that it resembled a lifeless mask. Sushi had remained silent at the time, refraining from criticism or admonishment. Instead, he had gently encouraged her to abandon the idea of forcing a smile. Obedient as ever, Krisha had complied, reverting to her expressionless demeanor and monotone speech. Whenever Sushi achieved a breakthrough or completed a new magical study, the witch would quietly wait near the meditation room, patiently anticipating his return. "Thank you, Krisha, for waiting for me. This is my duty, master." They walked side by side toward the main hall, exchanging casual conversation about daily life and magical practice along the way. "Krisha, was everything outside quiet while I meditated?" "Please rest assured, master. Everything remained normal." "Good. How is your recent magic practice? Any challenges?" "Yes, I have some questions regarding ice magic derived from water elements," she replied in her usual calm, mechanical tone. As Krisha explained her doubts, Sushi patiently addressed them, pointing out her errors and suggesting areas for improvement. This was their typical routine, a mundane yet comfortable daily life. Upon reaching the main hall, Krisha stopped her questions to prepare a refreshing hot drink for Sushi. She worked with meticulous focus, washing and drying the porcelain cup carefully before pouring the light green drink infused with Qingshen grass. The brew carried a slight bitterness but was known for relieving fatigue after intense meditation. "Thank you, Krisha," Sushi said as he accepted the cup. His gaze fell upon her striking black and gold eyes, momentarily freezing. It wasn't because her eyes were unusual, he had grown accustomed to their unique beauty over the years. What stunned him was his reflection in her eyes. Compared to his appearance when they had fled Allinsson city, his image had visibly changed. The alterations weren't drastic, but they were undeniable. Through Krisha's unchanging gaze, Sushi realized that time had begun its relentless countdown. At 29 years old, he was at the peak of life. But soon, in just a few years, this body would unknowingly begin its gradual descent into aging. Such was life, fleeting and ephemeral. "Is something wrong, master?" Krisha's calm question pulled him from his thoughts. She mistook his pause for concern over the drink. "No, it's fine," Sushi replied with a small shake of his head. "I just remembered something." Taking a sip, he felt the bitter liquid spread across his tongue. There was no sweetness to follow, only the numb astringency of the Qingshen grass. Sushi drank slowly, his gaze shifting to the view outside. Unlike their previous courtyard, where urban architecture obstructed the scenery, their new home in Apigo City offered a clear view of the sea. It was a scorching summer day. The blazing sun distorted the air, making it shimmer and blur. Boom, boom, the central steam unit of Apigo City roared to life. Towering plumes of steam rose like a mechanical Tower of Babel, swirling into the sky before dissipating into a thick, humid mist carried by the sea breeze. Beachgoers scattered in haste, unwilling to endure the oppressive heat and fog. Those who lingered too long found themselves engulfed in the stifling haze, their bodies drenched in sweat. "Time is running out." Sushi's voice was soft, almost a whisper, as he stared into Krisha's blank eyes. The witch tilted her head, failing to grasp the weight of his words. She silently took his empty cup and prepared another drink. "It's so bitter," Sushi muttered, unable to suppress a quiet complaint. "You have successfully broken through to Grand Mage, significantly enhancing your strength and mental power. You feel a brief swell of pride. The pride quickly fades. You realize the gods have suppressed the elemental laws, rendering any plan to ascend to godhood futile before it could even begin. Strangely, you do not feel sorrow. In your heart, achieving the rank of Holy Domain Magician is a perfect enough accomplishment." After leaving the meditation room, you meet Krisha waiting patiently by the door. You see your reflection in Krisha's eyes and notice the subtle changes in your appearance since your time in Allinsson city. You hear the echo of your mortal lifespan. For a moment, you are dazed and absent-minded, but you smile and accept this truth calmly. You resolve to accelerate your plans to train the witch, uncertain of how much time remains in your mortal life. "Master, what exactly is time?" "Well, it's probably a joke." "A joke?" "Yes. Too much, and it overwhelms you. Too little, and it slips away before you notice. It's fickle, unpredictable. Don't you think it's like a joke? Your training of the witch has officially begun. You have high hopes for Krisha, wanting her to learn all your magic not for glory, but to give her greater self-protection. Element, spirit, and magic. Under your careful guidance, Krisha has delved deeper into magic. Her talent grows stronger with time, and her progress surprises and gratifies you. Simulating the 16th year, you are 30 years old, and Krisha is 22 years old. The 22-year-old witch still looks like a 17-year-old, youthful, fair, and full of beauty. Now, when you go out together, people often assume you are siblings. At 30 years old, Sushi's appearance had matured. His calm eyes and tempered demeanor felt foreign, even to himself. Strange. Through this simulation, I've seen a preview of my older self. It's fascinating. I almost look forward to seeing myself at the end of my journey. He said this to himself while watching Krisha practice magic in the courtyard. She had been working tirelessly since the training began. With her extraordinary talent and relentless effort, Krisha's strength improved rapidly. Bang! A deafening explosion shook the courtyard. The air trembled with power, signaling the successful casting of level 7 magic. This year, Krisha had advanced once again from an elite mage to a great mage. Her progression was astonishingly fast, driven by the harmonious interplay of disorder and order within her. Krisha's strength has broken through once again. This gives you a sense of relief. You have always feared that when you are no longer in this world, Krisha might be unable to protect herself. But her progress eases those worries. You are proud of her growth, but also feel a tinge of melancholy. You begin to understand the complex emotions your own mentor once had for you: anticipation, reluctance, nostalgia, and sighs all rolled into one. Simulating the 17th year, you are 31 years old, and Krisha is 23 years old. Thanks to your teachings and her evolving talent, Krisha successfully learns new magical attributes, her repertoire expanding steadily. You decide to leave Apigo City with Krisha, traveling across the vast ocean to new lands. The training plan for Krisha had two parts: strengthening her abilities and addressing her emotional void. In terms of strength, Krisha excelled, practicing diligently and quickly mastering new spells. With time, she was destined to become a formidable mage. This allowed Sushi to shift his focus toward healing her fragile emotional state. How to nurture her emotionally? After much thought, Sushi decided to show her the beauty of the world, allowing those experiences to nourish her delicate soul. Woo! On the vast sea, the resonant call of a conjured water beast echoed through the skies. Sushi, wand in hand, cast level 8 magic, water beast generation. The spell transformed the ocean into a massive elemental whale, which carried him and Krisha across the endless blue expanse. The boundless sea stretched in all directions, its surface shimmering under the sun. Waves crested white against the deep azure, creating a breathtaking display. Beneath the surface, extraordinary sea creatures darted in intricate patterns, their shadows weaving through the water. So beautiful, Krisha murmured, mesmerized by the scene before her. It was unlike anything she had ever witnessed: vast, radiant, and alive. Above them, a vivid rainbow arched across the sky. Its 7 colors sparkled like a bridge to the heavens, so close it seemed within reach. The witch extended her hand, trying to touch the ethereal colors, but her fingers met only air. The rainbow, as beautiful as it was intangible, a mere play of light and water. Suddenly, Krisha clutched the corner of Sushi's robe. The fabric was real, solid, and reassuring. Unlike the rainbow, it could be touched and held. The witch let out a quiet sigh of relief. "What's wrong, Krisha? Are you feeling unwell?" Sushi asked, concerned. "No, I'm fine," she replied softly, shaking her head. Her silver-gray hair swayed like a cascading waterfall in the sunlight. Still, her hand remained tightly gripping the corner of Sushi's robe, unwilling to let go. "You used level 8 magic, water beast generation. You manifested a massive water whale to carry you and Krisha across the ocean to an unexplored land. Along the way, you passed through the waters of Little Britain, a bustling sea teeming with merchant ships seeking extraordinary materials. You recalled the first gift you gave Krisha: the aquamarine pearl adorning her necklace originated from these waters. Krisha, would you like a new aquamarine pearl?" Sushi offered. "Thank you, but just one is enough," Krisha replied. She gently touched the necklace she always wore. Its blue glow shimmered faintly in her hands, casting a soft, dreamy light into her vacant eyes. To Krisha, the necklace itself held no particular value. What mattered was the warmth and care imbued in it, the affection from her Sunday. It was unique and irreplaceable. You and the witch continued your journey. The massive water whale surged through the waves, its speed increasing as it drew on your magical energy. Its powerful movements stirred the ocean, causing minor chaos in the local marine ecosystem. Simulating the 18th year, you are 32 years old, and Krisha is 24 years old. After a long voyage, you finally reached the distant shore. The sight of solid ground was disorienting yet comforting. Steam-powered airships hovered overhead, while roaring trains sped across the landscape. This new land was a hub of advanced steam technology and divine churches renowned for their craftsmanship in wands and magical instruments. You and Krisha settled in this city, eager to learn the secrets of wand-making and magical devices. Mortal wisdom continued to guide your studies. 4 years later, at the age of 36, you mastered the art of crafting wands and magical guides. Having achieved your goal, you and Krisha departed from the city. Simulation year 22. Sushi was 36 years old, and Krisha was 28 years old. Sushi's appearance had changed drastically, a transformation aptly described as aging. His once youthful features now carried the marks of time. In stark contrast, Krisha remained the same. She still looked like a 17-year-old girl, her silver-gray hair and youthful complexion untouched by the years. Now, when the two went out together, no one mistook them for siblings. The difference in their appearances was too pronounced. Instead, people confidently assumed they were father and daughter. Whenever Krisha overheard such comments, her hollow eyes grew even darker. Her fingers clasped together unconsciously, and a dull ache spread through her chest. But the witch couldn't pinpoint the source of her pain. It was an indescribable heaviness that she buried deep within, retreating behind Sushi's shadow as if it were the only place of solace. Let's keep moving, Krisha, Sushi said gently, sensing her discomfort. He reached out his hand, just as he had when they first met, and led her forward with quiet reassurance. Life's road was long and full of pain, twists, and uncertainty. Sushi knew that Krisha would struggle to walk it alone. So, for as long as he could, he would continue to guide her step by step, leading her through the darkness toward the light. Simulating the 23rd year, you are 37 years old, and Krisha is 29 years old. You deeply feel the effects of aging, though it does not yet hinder your abilities. As a mage, your vast mental power continues to grow, even as your body begins to slow. This year, Krisha achieved another breakthrough. She advanced from a great mage to a grand mage, entering the same realm as you. Unlike you, however, she faced no significant barriers. You speculate that the balanced forces within her bloodline have shielded her from the usual obstacles. You marvel at the power of balance. To celebrate Krisha's growth, Sushi decided to craft a meaningful gift, her own exclusive wand. It was summer. Cicadas chirped incessantly, and waves of heat shimmered in the air. Under the dappled sunlight, the leaves of the trees gleamed emerald green, swaying in the breeze like rippling waves. Sushi and Krisha rested beneath a massive tree, its sturdy roots offering cool shade. Krisha, here's the new wand I made for you. Give it a try, Sushi said, retrieving the slender wand from his space ring. The wand was crafted from a branch of the tree of life, its yellowish-brown surface smooth and durable. It offered a recovery effect and enhanced meditation for its wielder. At its tip was a round, crystal-clear orb formed from the essence of an elemental fairy's life, designed to amplify magical power. Thank you. I like it very much, Krisha murmured. Whatever you give me, I will always like it, she thought silently. The witch held the wand delicately, her fingers brushing against its textured surface as she adapted to its feel. Sushi left the wand nameless, allowing Krisha to choose its title. Cradling the wand, she looked at Sushi with her empty, emotionless eyes and softly said, "The Resurgence of Grey." It was the name of her first wand, the one she had lost during the crisis in Allinsson city. Giving this new wand the same name felt like honoring its legacy. Sushi smiled and gently tousled her silver hair. It's perfect, he said. Simulating the 26th year, you are 40 years old, and Krisha is 32 years old. Your body has grown slower, but your mind remains sharp, and your mastery of elemental control has reached new heights. You and Krisha continue your travels around the world. You lead her to Lake Island, home to Dragon Island, a perilous place teeming with sub-dragon species and pure-blooded dragons. Krisha, don't worry. Dragons are very docile, Sushi said reassuringly. As long as we tap them gently, like this, they'll understand what we mean and behave better than any domestic pet. Today, Dragon Island, which once resounded with roars, was eerily quiet. Sub-dragons lay trembling on the ground, their eyes filled with fear as they watched the pair of master and disciple conducting a lesson nearby. Look, Krisha, Sushi said, perched atop the head of a pureblood red dragon. He waved his wand and effortlessly cast 4 level 9 spells simultaneously. Gravity Field, Earth Magic, Sky Flame, Fire Magic, Thunder Roar, Lightning Magic, and Holy Thorn Penetration, Light Magic. The red dragon let out a pained roar as its scales shattered, and its blood splattered everywhere. Soon, the dragon's powerful physique allowed it to recover from its injuries. It bowed its massive head to Sushi, submissive and terrified of another strike. See, dragons are very obedient, Sushi said with a grin. I understand, mentor, Krisha replied calmly, committing his dragon-taming secrets to memory. You taught the witch how to interact with ferocious monsters and dragons. She understood your teachings and remembered them well. You and the witch became dragon riders for a time, bringing you both a rare sense of joy. After leaving Dragon Island, your reputation among dragon-blooded species became deeply ingrained. Simulating the 30th year, you are 44 years old, and Krisha is 36 years old. Your aging becomes more apparent. One day, while drinking water, you notice a strand of white hair at your temple reflected in the surface. You pause momentarily, pluck out the white hair, and move on. Krisha notices nothing. You travel with Krisha to a nation untouched by steam technology. Its people rely on manual labor for farming, but its unspoiled scenery captivates you. For the first time, Krisha sees the golden waves of wheat swaying in the breeze. The harmony of soil and wind teaches her to observe the world with newfound serenity. Simulating the 35th year, you are 49 years old, and Krisha is 41 years old. The passage of time has not affected Krisha's miraculous appearance. She still retains the youthful beauty of a 17-year-old. However, her inner self has matured significantly after years of travel by your side. You notice that, at some point, Krisha began watching you closely, whether walking or resting, as if silently worried about something. Simulating the 38th year, you are 52 years old, and Krisha is 44 years old. You are preparing to break through to become a holy domain Mage. Good morning, Krisha. Good night, Krisha. Good morning, Master. Good night, Master. Each day began and ended with this exchange of simple greetings, marking the passage of time in an unassuming rhythm. Days turned into months, and months into years. In the moment, time felt sluggish, but in hindsight, it moved faster than a fleeting shadow. The witch grew up. Sushi grew old. At 52 years of age, Sushi was not yet at the end of his life, but he could already feel the slow decay deep within his body. Fortunately, there's still something worth celebrating, he murmured to himself. After so many years, I've finally reached my limit and have the chance to go further. The realm of the Holy Domain Mage was within reach. To prepare for this monumental breakthrough, Sushi stopped his world travels. Along with Krisha, he settled in a quiet city, meditating and refining his spiritual power to ensure the best conditions for the advancement. The city was called Laash, a place steeped in religious fervor. Most of its citizens were devout followers of various gods. Churches, adorned with divine emblems, dotted the landscape, sun patterns for the sun god, hammers for the blacksmith god, and vines for the goddess of nature. The grandest sight was a towering stone statue of the god of light, a marvel of craftsmanship imbued with the prayers and devotion of countless believers. Praise the god of light, Lord of endless glory. Great Lord, I humbly pray for your blessing. May your eternal light guide me even in my dreams. The holy light shines upon me from above. Kneeling before the statue, worshippers chanted with fervor, their voices filled with awe and longing. Sushi observed the scene in silence, then shifted his gaze to the heavens. From his perspective, he could see golden threads of faith rising like beams of light, converging far above where the gods resided. However, despite the outpouring of devotion, the divine aura here was faint, a clear indication that the gods were indifferent to the city's pleas. Master, why do they do this? Krisha asked, her voice soft but tinged with curiosity. Krisha, not everyone can face the world on their own, Sushi explained. They need a purpose, a belief to anchor their hearts. It's not a matter of right or wrong, it's just another way to live. His voice, deeper and heavier with age, carried the weight of his years and his reflections on the nature of existence. Krisha nodded, feeling as though she understood. She, too, was someone who sought solace in something greater. But unlike these fervent worshippers who were often met with silence, Krisha felt blessed. Standing beside Sushi, her son, she basked in a warmth that filled both her body and soul. Let's go, Krisha. There's still much to prepare before the breakthrough, Sushi said, gesturing for her to follow. Yes, master. Her black dress fluttered as she kept pace, her long silver-gray hair glinting in the sunlight. Wherever Sushi led, she followed closely, as though tethered by an invisible bond. You decided to make your breakthrough in Laash City, far from the gods' notice. This city is insignificant in the eyes of the divine, making it an ideal place to minimize interference during your promotion to Holy Domain Mage. The breakthrough would grant you unimaginable control over elements, second only to the gods themselves. But you remain cautious, suspecting the gods have other ways to hinder mortals like you. Let's review everything carefully, Sushi muttered to himself. First, a large-scale linked concealment magic array. Using the shadow orb as the core and a water aspect siren's skull, I've created a field to suppress my aura. Second, the breath-retaining forbidden spell I devised. It will activate immediately after the breakthrough to delay detection. Finally, the distractions I've set up in other cities should draw the gods' attention away from here. 3 days later. On the outskirts of Laash, Sushi stood in an expansive wilderness. His eyes closed, he mentally reviewed his intricate preparations, ensuring nothing had been overlooked. Krisha, holding the grey rekindling wand, stood nearby as his vigilant guardian. Her expression was emotionless, her focus unwavering as she watched for any potential disturbances. Finally, Sushi exhaled deeply. It's time. The promotion to Holy Domain Mage began. The winds howled. Clouds churned. The ground trembled. Flames roared. Water surged, light shone, darkness spread, and thunder cracked. Sushi's mastery over numerous elemental attributes created a domain of extraordinary complexity. Gather. With a commanding wave of his wand, Sushi unleashed a surge of mental power, forcing the chaotic elements to converge. Again and again, his spiritual energy battered the elemental forces, compressing and shaping them until they aligned in perfect harmony. Finally, with a thunderous explosion, the transformation was complete. Now I have everything I need, Sushi said, more than 10 elemental powers swirling around him. With a mere thought, he restored the chaotic elements to calm, his control absolute. This is the power of a Holy Domain Mage, second only to the gods, he murmured, awed by his newfound strength. But there was no time for celebration. Without hesitation, Sushi activated his concealment spells and left Laash with Krisha. In the heavens, the gods stirred. Not one, not two, but all the gods descended their gaze. Invisible wills clashed in the skies above Laash, searching for the source of the disturbance. Yet, their efforts were in vain. On the ground, the citizens of Laash mistook the divine presence for a response to their prayers. They knelt, their voices filled with joy and gratitude. But their praises were drowned by the booming wrath of the gods. Find him. He must be found. This world will not tolerate any new gods claiming our authority. Your plan succeeded. The concealment arrangement blocked the gods from immediately pinpointing your location. The chaos you caused around the world distracted their attention. When the gods finally focused on Laash City, you and Krisha had already vanished from their search range. You remained cautious, hiding with Krisha for a month before emerging again. Looking at the sky, Sushi noticed the gods had further tightened their control over the elemental laws. His ability to perceive the true essence of the elements had diminished significantly. You regret this development, understanding that the chance of becoming a god is now infinitesimal. The only consolation is that Krisha's unique balance of power surpasses that of the gods, allowing her progress to remain steady and unaffected. Emerging from their hiding place, Sushi and Krisha entered the nearest city. You observe that the divine churches are acting on the god's will, mobilizing to hunt down elemental mages. You realize your days of traveling the world with Krisha are coming to an end. The risk of attracting the god's attention by continuing as before has grown too great. Simulation year 39, you are 53 years old, and Krisha is 45 years old. Holding Krisha's hand, Sushi returned to Allinsson city, the place where his journey had begun. The city, once a ruin, had been rebuilt into a bustling metropolis over the decades. Though the city had changed and the people from the past were long gone, you still felt a deep connection to this place. You decided to live in seclusion, spending the remainder of your life quietly, far from the reach of the gods. Settling near the city center, Sushi and Krisha moved into a home with a modest courtyard, much like their old dwelling. Through his mastery of the domain, Sushi crafted an illusion of aging for Krisha, disguising her immortal youth from prying eyes. Krisha, this will be our home from now on, he said gently. Yes, master, Krisha replied with her usual calm demeanor. It might get a bit dull, Sushi added, studying her expression. No, master, she answered simply. They stepped inside together. The witch remained unchanged, and Allinson city still bore echoes of its old self, but time's inexorable march had transformed everything else. Even the sun's warmth seemed fainter than before. Simulation year 41, you are 55 years old, and Krisha is 47 years old. 2 years passed since settling in Allinson city. The Church of God continued its relentless hunt for elemental mages. You remained calm, unfazed by their efforts. What could ordinary elemental mages have to do with a holy domain mage like yourself? This year, Krisha quietly mastered the essence of the domain under your guidance. Her balance between order and disorder allowed her to bypass the god's blockade and achieve the realm of the sanctuary mage without attracting notice. You marveled again at Krisha's potential, silently acknowledging that she could one day surpass all gods. Simulation year 46, you are 60 years old, and Krisha is 52 years old. Your face had aged noticeably, though your sharp mental acuity masked the effects of time in many ways. Each year, mortal wisdom allowed you to acquire vast new knowledge, culminating in a complete collection of forbidden spells across all attributes. You shared these forbidden spells with Krisha, who diligently absorbed and practiced them. Simulation year 48, you are 62 years old, and Krisha is 54 years old. Despite decades of effort, your plan to restore the witch's emotions had failed. Krisha remained devoid of smiles or tears. You reflected in solitude and ultimately decided to abandon this pursuit. Perhaps, for Krisha, an emotionless existence was her true nature. Long years of seclusion brought a creeping monotony. In his idle moments, Sushi attempted to comprehend the divine laws, striving toward godhood. But the path remained blocked. The god seal is too strong, Sushi murmured, lying back in his study, exhaustion evident on his face. The signs of aging had become more apparent. Wrinkles marked his face, and his body felt weaker with each passing day. Even without seeing his reflection in Krisha's hollow eyes, he could sense time slipping away. On the other hand, Krisha's strength continued to grow. Her balanced power seemed to draw the world's elements toward her effortlessly. Forget it, Sushi sighed, this outcome was always expected. Instead of lamenting the god's cruelty, I should focus on teaching Krisha everything I can in the time I have left. Simulation year 49, you are 63 years old, and Krisha is 55 years old. You noticed Krisha acting strangely. She had begun maintaining her disguise of aging even while at home, refusing to return to her true appearance. Looking into her eyes, Sushi saw the unspoken reason and understood. He smiled gently, reaching out with his weathered hand to pat her head as he always had. You don't need to hide from me, Krisha, he said softly. I like the 17-year-old you. You're as beautiful as ever. Krisha's body trembled slightly. Her lifeless eyes reflected Sushi's aged visage. After a long pause, she finally shed the illusion and returned to her unchanging youthful FO. The illusion faded, peeling away layer by layer, like scattered petals or the shards of a broken mirror. Amid the soft, flickering haze, Krisha's true appearance emerged, a 17-year-old girl, untouched by time, her delicate features still holding the familiar indifference that Sushi knew so well. Beautiful, isn't it? Sushi said softly, his voice filled with warmth. Standing before the immortal witch, he looked aged and frail, his white hair and lined face forming a stark contrast to Krisha's timeless youth. The gap between them was palpable, as though the boundary of life and death had quietly materialized, separating their existences. The silence between them was heavy, laced with unspoken sorrow. Sushi reached out his hand and gently patted Krisha's head, attempting to soothe the faint trembling in her body. Outside, the autumn leaves rustled, marking the arrival of fall and heralding the impending winter. Simulating the 50th year, you are 64 years old, and Krisha is 56 years old. You begin using life magic daily to restore your vitality, but your body continues its inevitable decline. Outside, the Church of God remains relentless in its search for your traces, but your concealment remains successful. Simulating the 51st year, you are 65 years old, and Krisha is 57 years old. You develop hobbies typical of the elderly, such as sitting in the sunlight for hours or planting flowers and plants. Krisha continues to serve you daily, ensuring you have a cup of the bitter Qingshen grass magic drink whenever you need it. Simulating the 52nd year, you are 66 years old, and Krisha is 58 years old. Your body remains healthy, albeit slower and less capable than in your youth. You feel optimistic, believing you may live longer than expected. Simulating the 53rd year, you are 67 years old, and Krisha is 59 years old. Krisha's culinary skills improve further. She ventures to the market alone for ingredients and has learned never to confuse poisonous items again. Simulating the 54th year, you are 68 years old, and Krisha is 60 years old. Unable to progress further in magic, you immerse yourself in gardening, planting dragon blood grass in your flower bead, using materials gifted by a mysterious red dragon. Krisha stays by your side, carefully cleaning the blood from her wand, Grey Resurrection, with practiced precision. The years blurred together, passing like a film set on fast forward. When Sushi tried to recall them, only fragmented memories remained. His body aged steadily, resembling the setting sun, still radiant, still warm, but with the inevitability of nightfall creeping closer. By the 61st year of the simulation, Sushi was 75 years old. His once dark hair was now completely white, and deep wrinkles lined his face. He sat half-reclined in the courtyard, sunlight reflecting off his silvery hair, his steady eyes holding all his concealed spiritual power. So tiring, Sushi muttered. He had long known that aging would bring challenges, but the reality of it was far more harrowing than he had imagined. Tasks that were once simple now seemed insurmountable. If not for my strong mental power and magic to assist me, this retired life would be unbearable, he thought wryly. With a surge of the wind element, Sushi lifted himself to his feet. Dust from his robe scattered as the earth element responded. Then, wrapped in a gentle breeze, he floated back into the house. Master, welcome back, Krisha greeted him. She opened the door, her calm demeanor unchanged. The dining table was set with a hot meal, the enticing aroma filling the room. Krisha, your cooking has improved yet again, Sushi complimented her with a smile after taking a bite. Thank you, Master. I will continue to work hard, Krisha replied, her voice steady and emotionless. Sushi knew this wasn't indifference but her natural inability to express feelings. After the meal, Krisha cleaned up with the efficiency of water and wind magic. Sushi shuffled to the living room, eased into a wooden lounge chair, and closed his eyes to rest, surrounded by sunlight and blooming flowers. His aging body made him feel perpetually tired, especially in the afternoons when sleep seemed to call him irresistibly. Let's sleep a little longer today, he thought. Lying on the cool, wooden rocking chair, Sushi quickly succumbed to the quiet pull of sleep. Darkness enveloped him, and the world faded away. Master. Master. Through the haze, he faintly heard Krisha's voice but dismissed it as an illusion. He was too tired to respond. Sinking deeper into sleep, Sushi's consciousness floated aimlessly, only to return after what felt like an eternity. I am. Sushi opened his eyes groggily. He found himself lying in bed rather than the living room. Piecing it together, he realized Krisha must have moved him. He tried to speak, but a burning sensation in his throat triggered a violent coughing fit. Master, here's some water, Krisha's calm voice reassured him as she handed him a glass. Drinking deeply, the cool liquid soothed his throat and refreshed his parched body. Thank you, Krisha, Sushi said, setting the empty glass down. But then he noticed something unusual. Krisha looked different. Her clothes had changed, and her face appeared haggard, as if she had endured immense sorrow. You're finally awake, Master, she said, her voice tinged with something he couldn't quite place. You napped as usual, but this time, your sleep was unusually long and peaceful. After waking up, Krisha informed you that you had slept for 3 entire days. You were shocked and began investigating the cause. Mortal wisdom activated. You discovered the truth. Your aging mortal body can no longer sustain your extraordinary spirit. In response, it initiates prolonged sleep to recover and protect itself. Machines running at high speed heat up from prolonged use. Living bodies ache and tire from exhaustive effort. These were the natural laws of the world. But for Sushi, the situation was far worse. His body, aging steadily year by year, was no longer capable of supporting the vast spirit of a holy domain Mage. The imbalance between a weakening body and an overwhelmingly powerful spirit created an unavoidable condition. His body sought reprieve through deep, prolonged sleep. This cycle was irreversible. In the study room, Sushi sat silently, staring at the results of his calculations. The conclusion was as grim as it was clear. His time awake would become shorter and shorter, stolen away by slumber, until the inevitable end. He let out a long sigh. Who can guarantee that the next sleep won't be my last? The sense of comfort he once felt before these extended slumbers now seemed ominous, a subtle precursor to the soul's departure from the mortal world. Annoyed, Sushi burned the paper with a flick of his finger, watching as the calculations turned to ashes. He had long prepared himself to face death. What truly worried him was Krisha, the immortal witch who lacked the ability to process emotions, joy, or sorrow. If he were to suddenly die, he dreaded imagining what would become of her. This can't be kept from her, Sushi murmured. If I tell her now, she'll have time to prepare. Hiding it will only make her despair when the day comes. Turning off the lamp in the study, he stepped out into the quiet night. You told the witch the full truth. To your surprise, she showed no signs of distress. Her strength surpassed your expectations. You were relieved. You realized you had underestimated her maturity and the life experience she had gained from traveling the world with you. Master, what is it, Krisha? Please allow me to take over everything in the courtyard, including caring for you while you're asleep. Her tone was calm but carried a note of determination. Sitting across from Sushi with her hands folded neatly, she spoke with quiet resolve. I will take care of you, and everything else too. Moved by her devotion, Sushi smiled. Thank you, Krisha. I'll leave it all to you. Simulating the 62nd year, you are 76 years old, and Krisha is 68 years old. Under your approval, Krisha assumed responsibility for everything in the courtyard, your books, plants, magical research, and even your care. Sometimes you wondered if this was a form of inheritance, but you dismissed the thought, reminding yourself you were still alive. Simulating the 63rd year, you are 77 years old, and Krisha is 69 years old. Your slumbers became more frequent and longer. Most recently, you slept for half a month. Upon waking, you were disoriented by how much time had passed. Simulating the 67th year, you are 81 years old, and Krisha is 73 years old. Half a month of sleep once seemed extraordinary, but now it is your shortest slumber. Often, you wake to find entire seasons have passed. The witch diligently tends to the dragon blood grass in the courtyard, even ensuring sustainable harvesting practices after your guidance. Simulating the 71st year, you are 85 years old, and Krisha is 77 years old. You set a new record, sleeping for half a year. When you finally woke, the witch was there, greeting you as always. Welcome back, mentor, her calm voice echoed softly in the quiet room. Sushi stirred awake, her words grounding him. For him, it felt as though no time had passed since yesterday, yet half a year had slipped by. The dissonance left a tightness in his chest, which he eased with a cold glass of water. I'm losing so much strength, Sushi muttered, gazing at his wrinkled, yellowing hands. If not for the rare moments when he could activate his mortal wisdom to learn something new, or his lingering concern for Krisha, he might have long since chosen to end the simulation. Clearing his thoughts, he turned to Krisha. Krisha, what were you doing while I was asleep? Being with you. I mean, what else? What have you been doing recently? I stayed with you. Her answer left Sushi momentarily stunned. Her calm voice carried no embellishment, only a simple truth. From the moment you fell asleep, I remained by your side, Krisha continued. I only left to tend to the courtyard or handle necessities. Otherwise, I stayed with you yesterday, today, and until you woke up. Her words were clumsy but sincere. For countless lonely days and nights, the immortal witch sat silently in his room, her expression blank, her gaze fixed on his aged face. She waited, patiently, for the fleeting warmth of his return and the rare, cherished moments they could still share. Why was it that every time Sushi woke, the first thing he heard was Krisha's gentle greeting? Why was it that when he opened his eyes, hers were always the first he saw? The answer was simple, astonishingly simple. Every time Sushi drifts into sleep, Krisha sits silently at his bedside. On a small wooden chair, she waits through the passage of time, through the sun's rise and fall, through the world's changing seasons. She waits. She watches. She remains, unmoving, while time marches on. Painful? Boring? Krisha does not think so. For her, the moment Sushi falls silent, her world becomes a barren gray. Life ceases to move. Color drains away. She actively shuts herself off from everything, unable to feel or perceive the flow of time. It was only when Sushi awakens that her lifeless world begins to turn again, that the gray gives way to color, and that the witch feels a semblance of life. I've been waiting for you. The sunlight poured through the window into the bedroom, its angle creating a beautiful contrast of light and shadow. Sushi, now 85 years old, lay on the bright side of the room, every wrinkle and strand of gray hair illuminated in stark detail. Across from him, in the shadowed part of the room, sat Krisha, her silver gray hair faintly shimmering in the light. Her face remained calm and emotionless, but the faint movement of her hair in the breeze seemed to express countless unspeakable emotions. She waited for him. She always waited. Krisha Christina, the witch without a heart, without her own joy or sorrow, existed solely to follow her master's will. It was her purpose. She waited through countless days and nights for Sushi to awaken, to receive his next order. That was her only reason to live. For a moment, Sushi gazed at the witch who had waited endlessly for him. His heart wavered between two thoughts: should he criticize her for such an unnecessary and meaningless habit, or praise her for her unwavering devotion? In the end, he did neither. Instead, he reached out and gently held her hand, allowing her slender fingers to catch the sunlight. Come walk with me, Krisha. I've been lying down so long I think my body has forgotten how to move. Yes, she responded obediently. Together, the two left the bedroom, passed through the silent corridor, and entered the sunlit courtyard, where flowers and plants thrived under Krisha's careful care. Sushi walked slowly, each step accompanied by a wave of weakness spreading through his body. His legs felt heavy, as if carrying the weight of an ending performance. It's beautiful, he murmured, stopping before a cluster of vibrant flowers. The dragon blood grass swayed gently in the breeze, like rippling waves. You've done well, Krisha. I'm very satisfied. Thank you for your affirmation. Sushi turned to her, taking in her unchanged features and her ethereal, detached expression. She seemed as isolated from the world as she had been the day he first met her. Yet the frail, malnourished girl from back then had grown into someone strong and capable. As he gazed at the courtyard, the flowers, the sunlight, and the grown witch, Sushi closed his eyes. The warmth of the sun fell on his aged, wrinkled skin, bringing a fleeting sense of peace. He had no more worries. Plop. You and the witch walk through the courtyard. Everything is well maintained under Krisha's care, even better than what you could have done yourself. In a moment of reflection, you recall the younger days of the witch, comparing them to her present self. You realize she has grown into someone who no longer needs your guidance. Your lifelong worry about her future fades, and you feel a deep sense of relief. You sigh and chuckle softly, knowing that the witch can now live a good life even without you. With your final worry lifted, your consciousness begins to fade. Your body collapses forward, but the witch catches you in time. After being awake for less than an hour, you fall into another deep sleep. Master, Master. The witch's desperate cry echoed through the encroaching darkness. But Sushi could no longer respond. Like a boat tossed in the waves, his soul was swallowed by the void, slipping deeper into a tranquil, eternal silence. Only a fragile fragment of himself remained, clinging to existence. Simulating the 72nd year, you are 86 years old, and Krisha is 78 years old. Since collapsing in the courtyard, you have been asleep for an entire year without waking. Krisha said nothing. She simply sat by your bed, waiting for your return. Simulating the 73rd year, you are 87 years old, and Krisha is 79 years old. You remain asleep. The witch, unchanged in appearance, reaches the peak of the holy domain Mage but fails to break through to the demigod realm. The balance within her prevents her from ascending. Simulating the 74th year, you are 88 years old, and Krisha is 80 years old. The furniture in your home ages and becomes unusable. Krisha ignores it, her attention fixed solely on you. Simulating the 75th year, you are 89 years old, and Krisha is 81 years old. The witch continues to wait. She continues to wait. And she continues to wait. Simulating the 79th year, you are 93 years old, and Krisha is 85 years old. Your body is unrecognizable, time having stripped away every familiar feature. Your face is wrinkled, your skin rough like tree bark. Yet Krisha doesn't give up. She gently holds your withered hand, calling out to you and praying for your return. Finally, your cloudy eyes open once more. Sushi was going to die. This wasn't a joke or a poetic metaphor, it was death, inevitable and absolute, marking the end of his simulation. No one needed to tell him. The moment he opened his eyes, the frailty and decay within his body made him keenly aware of it. To wake up again was already a miracle. In his previous sleep, Sushi had felt his soul slipping away, drifting toward an endless void, the eternal silence of death. My current state. It must be the so-called return of light. Pain, tightness in his chest, suffocation, dizziness, every symptom crashed into him, leaving Sushi heavy-lidded and struggling to stay awake. He knew. This sleep would not be like the others. There would be no waking this time, no continuation. It would be true, final death. Krisha, he rasped, his voice barely audible, like a faint ripple in the air. Master, I'm here, Krisha responded softly, her tone as gentle as a whisper. She seemed afraid that speaking too loudly might hurt him. The day was beautiful. The sun streamed through the window, its golden light brightening the room and chasing away the gloom. But despite the warm glow, Krisha's heart felt heavy. The mentor she had waited so long for had awakened, yet an inexplicable dread clawed at her. I'm sorry, Krisha, Sushi said, his voice frail, his lips trembling with the effort. For letting you see me like this. With her help, Sushi struggled to sit up, his movements labored and slow. His attempt at a smile was weak and forced. Please, don't say any more. The sadness in Krisha's chest grew unbearable. Her heartbeat seemed to falter as she gazed at Sushi's aged, weathered face and heard his voice, so fragile it seemed ready to vanish. You don't need to worry about that, she managed, her voice trembling. To her, his appearance didn't matter. His aging body didn't matter. What she cared about was Sushi himself, her light, her sun, her salvation. But his frailty meant something far worse. It was a stark reminder of the one thing she couldn't face but knew was inevitable. Master, I'll prepare lunch for you, Krisha said abruptly, standing and heading for the door. She couldn't bear to hear more. She couldn't face the truth. So, she chose to flee. But Sushi's voice stopped her. No, Krisha. I don't think I'll have the chance to eat it. His words, spoken with a smile, were light-hearted, almost casual, yet they carried the weight of finality. Krisha froze, her body trembling violently. Are you sleepy again? Don't worry, I'll wait for you. No matter how long it takes, forever, always. Krisha, Sushi interrupted, his voice so faint it seemed to waver like smoke in the wind. Krisha, he called again, his tone pleading. Her trembling stilled. Slowly, she turned, her back still to him, her body motionless, though her shoulders quivered with suppressed emotion. Come here, Krisha, Sushi said gently. I need to talk to you. The harsh inevitability of winter settled over the room, freezing everything in its icy grip. Yes. Krisha returned to his bedside. Sit down, he said, gesturing to the small wooden chair beside the bed. She obeyed, lowering herself into the chair without protest. Sushi reached out a frail, trembling hand and rested it on her head, stroking her soft silver-gray hair one last time. Krisha, I'm going to be gone for a long time, he said softly. Her body trembled but gradually stilled under his touch. I've caused you so much trouble. I should have been the one taking care of you, but instead, you've cared for me all these years while I've been asleep. It's finally over now. You can rest. No, I don't want to rest. Please. Please let me remain as I am your tool, your servant. As long as you stay, as long as you're here. I'll be gone for so long that I can't say how long it will be. So, Krisha, take care of yourself while I'm away. In the study room, I've left notes that might be useful to you. I've modified the magic circle in the meditation room. It will still work even if you reach the demigod realm. In the bedroom, in the desk and cabinet, I've left my collections. Use them as you see fit. They're all yours now. Stop. Stop talking. The weight in Krisha's chest grew unbearable. She tightened her grip on her chest as if to hold her heart together. Though Sushi hadn't spoken the word aloud, Krisha understood. Her master, her son, the only one who had illuminated her life, was about to leave her forever. I don't accept it. Her voice trembled, cutting through Sushi's words. It was the first time she had ever defied him. I don't accept what you're saying. Everything of yours belongs to you alone. I'll wait for you forever, always, endlessly. Her empty, lifeless eyes shuddered violently, brimming with an emotion she couldn't name as she stared at him. Sushi's hand, still stroking her hair, paused, surprised by her rejection. Parting was unbearably heavy. It was like a boulder, like a mountain. It presses down on the heart, stealing breath and crushing the soul. When the moment of farewell finally arrives, it becomes clear that no amount of preparation can lessen its weight. All the imagined rehearsals seem insignificant, as fragile as feathers, not even a fraction of what's needed. Krisha braced herself for a scolding. She had defied her master's decision. As an object, this act was unforgivable. The moment the words left her lips, guilt and regret consumed her. Yet, she still couldn't accept Sushi's instructions. It felt as though refusing his words could prevent his departure, as if it could anchor the sun in the sky, keep its light shining forever. Please, she murmured, her delicate face brushed by his thin, frail hand. Her voice trembled as she continued, stop saying these things. I won't accept them. Her rejection stunned Sushi. His expression shifted first surprise, then confusion, before softening into tenderness and relief. There was no trace of the scolding Krisha had feared. Ha ha ha, ah ha ha ha. His laugh was weak but genuine. Yet, his body couldn't endure it. A violent coughing fit racked his fragile frame, his face contorting in pain. Master. Krisha quickly cast life magic, her trembling hands working frantically to ease his suffering. Each ragged breath, each pained expression, was a blade slicing into her heart. She was desperate, helplessly casting the strongest healing spells she knew. Soon, Sushi's coughing subsided. I'm fine, Krisha. I'm just so happy, he said weakly, his voice barely a whisper. His heavy eyelids drooped further, exhaustion clouding his vision. He reached out, grasping her hand lightly, signaling her to stop the magic. This is the first time, he murmured, looking into her eyes. The first time you've disagreed with me. Krisha, it's wonderful, you've found your own will. An object doesn't have its own thoughts or the courage to object. By standing against him, the witch had proven something profound she had become. Human. Sushi's blurry eyes could barely see. Drowsiness washed over him like a tide, pulling at the last threads of his consciousness. Krisha, he said softly, his voice warm despite its weakness. You've graduated? The room fell silent. The words hung in the air, heavy and incomprehensible to the witch. No, Krisha's voice trembled. Tears she didn't understand burned her throat. Her face, still calm and expressionless, was a mask for the storm within. I still need you to teach me so much. Without you, I'm nothing. Her words were hoarse, breaking under the weight of her grief. She clung desperately to her identity as his student, as his object, anything to deny the inevitable separation. Sushi said nothing. Instead, he reached out, his frail hand trembling as it rested gently on her head, stroking her soft, silvery gray hair. Gradually, her words faded. The room grew still, the sunlight from the window illuminating her anguish. True despair isn't a sudden calamity. It's the slow, crushing realization that a disaster is inevitable, no matter how hard you fight. Please, her voice cracked, breaking under the weight of her sorrow. Don't leave me. Or, let me go with you. Her plea was soft, almost a whisper, but it carried a deep, unyielding sadness. Krisha was ready to die with him. She didn't care about the world or her own life. To her, nothing mattered more than staying by Sushi's side. But his response was gentle, firm. Krisha, you know I won't allow that. His voice, though faint, was resolute. Each breath grew weaker, each word a struggle. Yet, he smiled, his face old and worn, but in the sunlight, it carried a shadow of his youth. Live well, Krisha, he whispered. That's my request. There's no need to mourn me. This isn't goodbye, only a long separation. One day, we'll meet again. His frail hand, which had rested on her head, fell limp. The light in his eyes dimmed, the shadow of death descending. I'm sorry, he murmured, his final words barely audible. I never made you truly smile. For a moment, Sushi's fading gaze sharpened as if caught off guard. Master, please look. This is my smile. In the golden sunlight, her gray-silver hair flowing like a waterfall, Krisha sat by the bed. Her hands trembled as she raised them to her face. She bent her fingers, using her index fingers to pull the corners of her mouth upward, forcing a smile. The expression was stiff and unnatural. Tears streamed from her hollow eyes, soaking her hands as they quivered. It was a smile made of sorrow. What a beautiful smile, Sushi whispered. In the calm of the afternoon breeze, his breathing stopped. His eyes closed. This time, he would never wake again. You are dead. End of simulation. You performed a complete simulation. Your life is like a shining master. Although brief, it left an unforgettable mark. You were a holy domain mage, mastering numerous elements with unparalleled comprehensiveness, a true master of the arcane. You were respected by the Dragon Clan, one of the rare mortals to gain their acknowledgement. You possessed profound knowledge across many fields, becoming the most erudite mortal in the world. You successfully raised the witch, teaching her to be independent. You passed away under her watchful eyes, leaving no regrets. The simulation ends. Generating statistics of key moments. Simulation evaluation in progress. Simulation rewards are being prepared. Am I back? Sushi's eyes fluttered open, and in an instant, the world around him shifted. The intricate architecture of the magical world gave way to the familiarity of his living room in the real world. He was slouched on the sofa, his head buzzing faintly as his consciousness adjusted. Within moments, the vitality of his youthful body surged through him once again. No wonder so many emperors in history sought immortality, he muttered, clenching his fist and marveling at the strength in his grip. The feeling of aging is unbearable. He exhaled deeply, shaking off the memories of frailty. In the magical world, he had experienced the relentless march of time firsthand, his body growing weaker, every step a struggle. I never want to feel that again, he murmured. Lying back on the sofa, Sushi let his thoughts wander. I wonder how Krisha is doing now, he thought aloud. After I died, what happened to her? He sighed, a pang of worry tightening his chest. Would the witch, left alone, fall into despair? Would she be discovered by the gods and forced to flee endlessly once more? In the stillness of his home, Sushi's mind remained clouded with concern until the simulator's evaluation process completed. Meanwhile, in the simulated world, silence engulfed the room where Krisha sat. Absolute silence. Only the soft sound of tears hitting the floor broke the stillness, a quiet symphony of despair and sorrow. Her heart ached. The witch sat by the bed, her hands trembling as they clasped Sushi's now cold hand. She tried desperately to share her warmth, to reignite the life that had slipped away. But it was futile. Completely and utterly futile. The sun that had once illuminated her world was extinguished. The warmth that had saved her was gone forever. Master, she whispered hoarsely, her voice trembling. You lied to me. The power of love is not infinite. Tears cascaded down her cheeks, glistening as they fell onto the aged, lifeless hand she held. Her love for Sushi was profound, unwavering, eternal. Yet even such love had failed to save him. The witch sobbed softly, her chest tight with unbearable grief. Her hands shook, regret coursing through her as she clung to the bitter truth of her own helplessness. Master, I will wait for you, until we meet again. The words escaped her lips in a whisper, carrying the weight of her shattered heart. Her voice cracked as she cried, her hoarse wails reverberating in the empty room. Her sobs, once restrained, broke free. Ah, ah, ah. Her fingers clawed at her face, desperate to suppress the overwhelming pain. But the sorrow was relentless, seeping into every fiber of her being. Her tears pooled on the floor, glistening under the dim light, while the black and gold hues of her eyes began to distort. A vivid red emerged. It was the color of blood. The color of a heart. The color of love. Her eyes transformed, glowing with the three ethereal shades of black, red, and gold. An enigmatic power surged within her, breaking the chains that bound her potential. Without a sound, the witch ascended beyond the holy domain Mage, stepping into the realm of demigods. The elements bowed to her. The world leaned toward her. All creation acknowledged her. Yet before her, Sushi's body began to crumble. The once vibrant mortal vessel, weakened by decades of strain, disintegrated into fine, invisible powder. Bit by bit, it faded from existence, leaving only emptiness. The witch remained still. Master, she murmured softly, her voice devoid of life. Her heart had nearly stopped, her spirit tethered to a fragile hope. Yet she resolved to wait. To wait endlessly. To wait until they met again. The master's instructions, Krisha whispered to herself, breaking the stillness. She remembered Sushi's many preparations, his plans for her. Though the world felt hollow, she mechanically followed his last wishes, collecting and preserving everything he had left behind. The magic circle in the meditation room. The dragon blood grass in the courtyard. The treasures in the bedroom drawers. The manuscripts in the study. Each task was completed with a mechanical precision, her mind numb with grief. When she entered the study, a pile of handwritten manuscripts caught her attention. Carefully, she gathered them. Among them were Sushi's notes on magic and his research into the path to godhood. Just as she was about to leave, a faint bulge in the wall's lining drew her gaze. What is this? Using her mental power, she extracted a hidden stack of papers buried deep within the wall. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Sushi's. Failed again. It seems the god's blockade is unbreakable. If only I had Krisha's ability to bypass such restrictions. I tried once more this year and failed again, as expected. My body continues to weaken. Even if I broke through the blockade, I doubt I could ignite the divine fire. I have to give up. Godhood feels so distant. It's impossible for me. My body grows more lethargic. My time is running out. I must pave the way for Krisha's future. This is the last thing I can do. The words on the paper were numerous, written densely, line after line. It was a carefully constructed guide for Krisha's life, outlining her growth, her path forward, and every aspect of her existence, down to food, clothing, and shelter. Each crooked word and uneven line revealed how Sushi, in his final moments, struggled to write. The pressure of the gods, the final cries of a failing mortal body, made it almost impossible for him to pen even a single coherent thought. Yet, even in that fragile state, he had written these words. His thoughts were consumed by concern for Krisha's future, his love and care lighting a path for her even after his death. Master. Krisha's trembling fingertips traced the ink, brushing over every letter. It was as though she could feel the lingering warmth of her master, the sun that had illuminated her life. Tick, tick. The faint sound of her tears landing on the paper echoed in the quiet study. Krisha stood motionless, clutching the sheets. Her tears fell freely, yet she made no sound, her sorrow consuming her in silence. Outside, the summer sun poured through the windows, its warmth spreading over the trees and filling the world with light. Birds chirped in the distance, insects buzzed a serene harmony of life. But Krisha remained in the study, engulfed in her grief. Her eyes were vacant, and the light in them had dimmed. Tears glistened like crystals, reflecting the sorrow etched in her heart. I don't deserve this. Her voice trembled as she spoke, her hands gripping the papers tightly. You gave me the meaning of my existence. That should have been enough. I don't deserve more. Krisha's words hung in the air, laden with despair. Her grief seemed to envelop the room, an unspoken pain that resonated with the soul. The witch's tears fell silently, her body trembling as she reflected on her own perceived inadequacies. She felt utterly unworthy of the love and care Sushi had shown her. She had been powerless, unable to stop his passing. She had no emotions, offering him only a false smile in his final moments. She believed she had failed him, over and over again. Her pale, trembling hands clutched the pages tightly as her knees buckled under the weight of her despair. I'm so weak. Her heart ached with regret as she read each word Sushi had left behind. Even with his life slipping away, he had thought of her, crafting a future for her in painstaking detail. Krisha wanted nothing more than to succumb to the darkness, to remain still forever. But she couldn't. Her master wouldn't have wanted that. He had believed in her, encouraged her, and hoped she would soar beyond the boundaries of the world. So, Krisha stood up. Despite the crushing weight of sorrow, she straightened her back and resolved to follow his instructions. She would live, as he had wished. But what was the meaning of this life? The witch didn't know. It wasn't until her tear-filled eyes landed on the word God in his notes that her gaze hardened. I want to. Her voice trembled. I want to do something for my master, even if it means opposing the gods. In the haunting silence of the study, Krisha clutched the ocean blue necklace around her neck. Her fingers caressed it one last time before slipping it into her space ring. Her wand appeared in her hand. The creak of the courtyard door echoed sharply as she pushed it open. The rusty bolt groaned, its sound grating in the otherwise still air. Krisha stepped outside. The bright sun bathed her in light, but she felt only cold. Her steps faltered, her mind clouded with a haze of grief. She didn't notice the uneven ground beneath her feet and stumbled. For a moment, she lay motionless. Then, slowly, she pressed her palms against the earth, forcing herself to rise. From now on, no one would help her stand. She had to do it herself. The noon sun blazed fiercely, casting light and shadow in intricate patterns on the ground. Rays of sunlight filtered through the canopy above, falling on Krisha's slender shoulders as though silently bearing witness to her journey. From that day forward, the witch became an immortal, wandering monster. She left the courtyard. She left what was no longer her home. No one knew where Krisha went. Years passed, and the house remained untouched. Curious villagers eventually climbed over the walls, only to find dust and silence. The Magician Association conducted investigations but found nothing. All of Sushi's belongings, from manuscripts to artifacts, had been taken by Krisha. Only the empty house remained, its doors and windows creaking in the wind. 30 years later, under the gods' relentless command, their churches continued searching for Sushi's traces. They sought the holy domain Magister who might ascend to godhood. But one fateful night, an event shocked the magical world. The entire northern region's divine churches were obliterated. Not merely destroyed, annihilated. In a single moment, a terrifying power descended, obliterating the faith of the gods. The gods descended in rage, their fury shaking the heavens. Who dares? Disrespect to the gods is a death sentence. Wait. This power. Could they have ignited the divine fire? Even though these were not their true forms, the gods' incarnations were still incomparably powerful. But even with their strength, they could not defeat Krisha. The gods and the witch clashed, their battle shaking the heavens. When the smoke cleared, neither side had triumphed. Krisha vanished without a trace. This confrontation sparked a crisis of faith. Countless mortals began worshipping the witch as the true god, further enraging the deities. Another 20 years passed. Krisha returned. Standing high in the sky, she struck the void with her wand. Elemental magic roared to life, shaking the heavens and earth. With a single blow, she obliterated the foundations of the gods' power. No church was spared. Panic gripped the world. The gods themselves quaked with fear. She'll come for us next. Run, we must escape. Even the gods, who had once seemed invincible, trembled at the witch's power. Some sought refuge in other planes, while others desperately plotted their escape. But it was too late. The elements roared. The heavens themselves were sealed, trapping the gods within their own domain. Master, I will repay you for the injustice you have suffered. Above the vast expanse of the magical world's ocean, waves surged endlessly, crashing against one another, creating immense turbulence. Yet, amidst the chaos, a thin and delicate figure stood unwavering. Holding her wand aloft, she calmed the unruly waters as if commanding their submission. The sea, previously consumed with rage, now lay still under her control. The so-called gods are nothing more than that, Krisha murmured. Her voice was calm, but her eyes, filled with the brilliance of countless stars, carried an unshakable determination. She saw through the heavens, into the very depths of the gods' arrogance and frailty. Krisha still bore the unchanging appearance of a 17-year-old girl. Time, it seemed, could not touch her. Her long silver-gray hair cascaded like a waterfall, and her cold, delicate features radiated an aura of detachment. The earth supported her, the sky shielded her, and the ocean carried her forward. Everything bent to her will, exalting her beyond the gods themselves. Then, let us begin, she said softly. Her tone was calm, as if discussing something mundane, yet the sheer power behind her words caused the world to tremble. She raised her wand, and the vast ocean behind her roared to life. The waves surged higher, propelling the witch skyward, ascending towards the heavens themselves. Call. A chilling wind howled as water froze into glistening ice, and the towering waves transformed into a magnificent ice dragon. It unfurled its immense wings and carried Krisha through the skies with unmatched speed, breaching the heavens above. How dare you? That is my authority, yelled Poseidon, his divine wrath palpable. He was the most arrogant among the gods and charged at the witch without hesitation. Together, we must stand. There is no retreat. The gods of the heavens, led by the god of light, unleashed their full might. Their combined powers tore through the fabric of reality, shaking the heavens and the earth. Light brighter than 1,000 suns, darkness deeper than the void, and all the elements of creation converged into a divine assault. Yet, to the witch, their attacks were mere trifles. Die, she whispered. The gods fell. The heavens began to crumble. The earth below quaked, and the oceans roared in rebellion. The elements of earth, wind, water, and fire merged into a chaotic symphony, tearing apart the heavens. Poseidon was the first to perish. Then followed the gods of fire, blacksmithing, and harvest. Even the Mother Earth, the god of wind and snow, and the god of death were consumed by the witch's wrath. Krisha wielded the equilibrium of disorder and order, bending the fundamental forces of existence to her will. Earth, wind, water, and fire no longer functioned as mere elements but became harbingers of the world's ultimate demise, a fate shared by mortals and gods alike. I refuse to accept this, roared the dragon god, a deity born from the golden holy dragon and worshipped by all dragonkind. Its immense body resisted the onslaught, its ferocity undiminished as it lunged at the witch. It believed that by reaching her, victory would be assured. Yet, as it closed the distance, the witch calmly extended her wand. The laws of earth, thunder, light, darkness, death, and fire converged upon its tip. With a simple touch to the dragon god's forehead, it fell lifelessly to the ground. Ignoring the fallen dragon god's remains, Krisha turned her attention to the god of light, the last and most formidable opponent. Her gaze was cold and unwavering. Her master had taught her never to underestimate an enemy, and she adhered to that lesson. With calculated precision, she absorbed the authority of the slain gods, consolidating their powers within herself. Desperation gripped the god of light. Casting aside all pretense of dignity, he abandoned his divine might and focused solely on escaping. Transforming his essence into pure light, he fled the heavens. But Krisha's retaliation was swift and merciless. A grey pillar of chaotic light swept through the heavens, obliterating everything in its path. No, I haven't transcended yet. I haven't become the supreme god. I can't die. The god of light's anguished cries echoed as the chaotic light pierced his divine form, erasing his authority, his existence, and his very essence. At last, the heavens fell silent. All the gods had been eradicated, even the most powerful among them. Master, I have reclaimed justice for you, Krisha whispered to the memory of her master. In the desolate expanse of the sky, her soft voice resonated with unwavering resolve. This act of vengeance was the only tribute she could offer to her fallen master. Suddenly, a radiant crown materialized from the remnants of the gods. The worlds will manifested, acknowledging Krisha as its new ruler and offering her the crown of ultimate authority. Yet, Krisha refused. I don't need this, she said simply. She grasped the crown lightly between her fingers and crushed it, scattering its fragments into oblivion. The consciousness of the magical world trembled in confusion. It could not comprehend why she would reject such power after avenging her master. But Krisha's answer was clear. She had no interest in ruling. Her only purpose was to wait for the day she would reunite with Sushi. Carrying her master's memory, Krisha stepped beyond the confines of the world. Before her stretched an infinite expanse of realms, their radiance weaving through the chaos of time and space. Her journey began, driven by the promise of finding Sushi. Along the way, she eradicated other unjust gods, each act of vengeance a tribute to her master. There seem to be many gods over there, Krisha murmured to herself. With a blank yet determined expression, she navigated through the boundless chaos, her broken crown trailing behind her like a radiant halo. Mortals had their own limits. Gods were bound by their realms. Divine power was categorized into tiers: tiny, weak, moderate, powerful, and great. Mortals dream of igniting divine fire, acquiring divinity, and wielding authority to define their existence. Yet, these were merely the basics of becoming a god. The journey of divinity was long and arduous. Even the god of light, who had ruled the magical world for countless millennia, only attained moderate divinity. At the time of his death, he was consumed with regret for not ascending to the rank of a powerful god. But now, the gods of the infinite planes no longer concern themselves with promotion. The chaos brought by Krisha Christina has signaled the twilight of the gods. A witch who defies divine authority has risen, wandering through the chaos and bringing death to all gods indiscriminately. How dare you challenge the majesty of the divine? I am the king of the ancient gods. None have dared to kill me since the dawn of time. You devil, you walk the path of your own destruction. The gods' fury was unrelenting. They united to hunt the witch, chasing her into the chaotic void. Yet, no matter how many times they pursued or wounded her, Krisha returned stronger each time. Years passed in the timeless chaos. The infinite planes of existence became scarred and fragmented, bearing the marks of her battles with the gods. Ultimately, the witch emerged victorious. She absorbed the authority of the chaos gods, consolidating the concepts of order and disorder within herself. Only a handful of benevolent gods were spared, and from then on, the world sang her praises. The age of the gods had ended. The Supreme One had risen. Immortal, singular, omniscient, omnipotent, creator and destroyer. Krisha stood atop the corpses of fallen gods, indifferent to the crown offered by the worlds. She waited. She would always wait. Master, I will always wait for you, always and forever. Her voice, soft and resolute, echoed through the chaos. Time and space bent at her fingertips. Memories materialized fragments of her life with Sushi. Immersed in these echoes, she clung to their false warmth. Even with supreme mastery over time and space, she knew she could not bring Sushi back. So, the ever-obedient Krisha chose to wait. For the next day, the next year, or the next era, she would wait. Master, eternal life seems not so bad. At least it gives me another chance to meet you. Krisha, frozen forever at the age of 17, sat quietly in the boundless chaos. Time did not pass for her. The brilliant crowns offered by countless worlds lingered behind her, unclaimed and shattered. They symbolized her undeniable supremacy, but she had no need for them to define her worth. In the real world, Sushi lay on the sofa, still worrying about Krisha. I hope that after I'm gone, that kid Krisha will know how to take care of herself. Even if she can't defeat the gods, she should at least know how to escape quickly. With her talent, as long as she has enough time, she should be able to stand on her own. His thoughts were interrupted by the familiar chime of the simulator. Ding! Second simulation statistics completed. Congratulations to the host for activating the following achievements: Master of Elements, Beginning and End, Witch's Redemption, Dragon Whisperer Physics, Creator of Ragnarok, His Only. Master of Elements, your unparalleled mastery of elemental magic astonishes even the gods. Beginning and End, your mortal life began and ended in Allinsson city, peacefully closing the cycle. Witch's Redemption, you became the light that illuminated the witch's path, giving her hope and purpose. Your place in her heart is irreplaceable. Dragon Whisperer Physics, your encounters with dragons always ended in bloodshed. Creator of Ragnarok, your death marked the beginning of the gods' demise, shaking the very fabric of the worlds. His Only One, to the Supreme, all worlds bow, yet to her, you are the only one. So many achievements. Sushi murmured, surprised. The first simulation had only yielded 4 achievements, but now there were 6. Having more achievements is always a good thing. It means a higher settlement evaluation. He pondered over what might have happened after his death. The end of the gods? A witch rising to power? His curiosity deepened. The gods extinguished, the supreme reigning. Could Krisha have done all that after my death? His concerns for the witch began to dissipate. The achievements alone proved that Krisha had surpassed all expectations, carving a legacy that even the gods revered. He turned his attention back to the simulation panel. Simulation summary: you maximized your talents, becoming the strongest holy domain Magister in human history. Although you failed to transcend mortality and become a god, your death paved the way for the birth of the supreme god, earning you the reverence of countless worlds. Simulation final evaluation, S. Rewards are being generated. Choose 4 of the following 5 rewards to receive immediately. 1. The pinnacle state in The Sims. 2. All magic in The Sims. 3. Enhanced elemental perception. 4. Power of faith control method. 5. A broken and burnt wand. 4 choices this time? The evaluation must have improved from S to S. His gaze lingered on the options. Each held immense value, and he weighed them carefully. The memories of his time with Krisha flashed through his mind as he prepared to make his decision. After some thought, Sushi made his decision. He chose option 1, option 2, option 3, and option 5. These were the realm of the Holy Domain Magister, all magic including forbidden spells, the enhanced version of elemental perception talent, and the first Grey Resurrection Wand. The first 3 were selected to improve his strength, while the wand was chosen for commemorative purposes. As for why he didn't choose the power of faith, the reason was simple. The so-called faith was essentially harvesting the wishes and piety of believers. This process takes time, is complicated, and requires establishing a church, spreading doctrine, and maintaining the purity of believers' faith. With the simulator's natural cooldown of 10,000 days over 27 years, it was impractical to expect significant progress in raising faith. Even in the magical world, gods worked tirelessly to purify their faith through events like alien invasions and miraculous occurrences, yet the results were marginal. This demonstrated how time-consuming it was to rely on faith for strength enhancement. Actually, if I wanted a streamlined plan, the magic in option 2 could be omitted, Sushi mused. After all, I have all the memories of practice. Starting over wouldn't be an issue. But since I can choose 4 rewards, it's always better to save more time. Ding, the selection of rewards has been completed. Distribution is beginning. With the confirmation, the simulator's panel began to flicker, and each text line disappeared, replaced by tangible rewards. The spiritual chi of the sanctuary from the simulated world surged into Sushi's real body. Earth, wind, water, and fire coursed through him, while light, darkness, and thunder became powers he could summon at will. The elements emerged from the void, falling under the control of his spiritual power. Holy Domain Magister breakthrough accomplished instantly. Sure enough, with the simulator's assistance, these two extraordinary systems, immortal cultivation and magic, not only coexist without conflict but actually complement each other. Cultivation elevates me, and magic transforms me into a god. This is truly fascinating. Sushi felt a lightness in his body, a sign that his essence of life had evolved. Without the limits of mortal wisdom or interference from the gods, the extraordinary attributes of the holy domain Magister began to bless his body. Simultaneously, his cultivation realm advanced. His mana surged from his dantian, propelling him into the late golden elixir stage. In the blink of an eye, the golden elixir reached its peak and shattered, breaking through to the nascent soul stage in an instant. Knowledge from the simulation crystallized into instinct, becoming muscle memory. With a casual move, Sushi summoned magic from the simulated world. Unlike the immortal cultivation system, where power stems from oneself, magic is about communicating with and controlling the world, like solving a problem by applying a formula to manipulate the elements. This explained why there were so few mages in the real world. The magic obtained from the Extraordinary Control Bureau used parameters from another world. Applying it in the real world required recalibration, which was no small task. Surprisingly, the simulator bypassed this process, enabling me to use magic effortlessly, anywhere. Examining the earth, wind, water, and fire floating in his hand, Sushi was pleasantly surprised. On reflection, it made sense. Real-world extraordinary beings relied on slow cultivation, leading to weak foundations. Sushi, however, had transformed directly into a holy domain Magister through the simulator, resulting in a rock-solid foundation. This is the difference, he thought as he withdrew his immense spiritual power and dispersed the surrounding elements. With the strength of a holy domain Magister, I can navigate the real world effortlessly. Even if I encounter demigods or rogue immortals, I have eternal safeguards to protect my life. Am I invincible now? Sushi smiled, appreciating the advantages he gained, even from his sister's influence. He opened his palm, and the last simulated reward appeared, a charred, grey wand. Though rough and burnt, traces of its original form remained. If Krisha were here, she'd be delighted, he murmured, recalling his time teaching the witch. After a moment, he placed the wand on the bedside table, near a porcelain sugar bowl. Master, brother. Sushi's heart suddenly trembled, and a familiar voice seemed to echo faintly in his ears. Krisha, Molly. The bright sunlight streaming through the window hit his face, but in the heat of summer, Sushi felt no warmth. Startled, he examined the wand and the sugar bowl, finding nothing unusual. Is this a simulation after effect? Did I hallucinate due to the prolonged simulation? He pondered this, realizing that even with his current strength, it might be wise to rest before the next simulation. Even a nascent soul realm cultivator and holy domain Magister needs rest. Otherwise, hallucinations and exhaustion are inevitable. Adjusting the wand and sugar bowl to ensure they wouldn't fall or be exposed to sunlight, Sushi left the room. One souvenir per simulation. I'll need a larger storage cabinet soon. Keeping them beside the bed isn't ideal, they'll get dusty. Also, I need a better wand. While I can cast spells unaided, a high-quality wand would boost my magic by 20 to 30%. With thoughts of combining weapon refining and wand making to create a hybrid flying sword wand, Sushi quickly began preparing for the future. He didn't notice the subtle movement. The distance between the grey resurrection wand and the sugar bowl had shifted slightly, but undeniably. After leaving the bedroom, Sushi felt a sudden sense of relaxation as the summer heat greeted his face. He reaffirmed his belief that the earlier hallucinations were nothing more than fatigue catching up with him. I didn't expect simulations to be so energy-consuming, he thought to himself. But considering this one lasted nearly 100 years, it's natural to feel this drained. He pulled out a bottle of refreshing King's-in-Dan, swallowed it, and refined its essence to rejuvenate his spirit. Feeling reinvigorated, Sushi left the house and headed to a nearby Tai Chi steamed bun shop, a popular eatery. He ordered 3 large meat buns, sat down, and began eating. The food in the magical world wasn't bad, but after spending so much time there, he found himself craving the familiar taste of Chinese cuisine. The bustling streets outside were filled with the sounds of traffic and chatter as the steaming buns were quickly brought to his table. Not bad, Sushi nodded in approval. The skin is thin, and the filling is generous, as always. He also enjoyed the smooth and tender sweet tofu pudding that accompanied his meal. The warm, savory gravy bursting on his tongue provided a moment of culinary bliss, easing the tension caused by the earlier auditory hallucinations. Cultivation, magic, he pondered aloud. With my cultivation now at the nascent soul realm, my golden core stage withered vine sword has become outdated. This is a good opportunity to merge it with the wand. He considered the differences between the two systems. In immortal cultivation, the weapon's form is less important than the restrictions and deo patterns engraved within it. Meanwhile, in magic, the material used to craft the wand is critical. Its elemental conductivity amplifies the power of spells. Combining these two approaches could lead to a truly unique weapon. Taking another bite of the meat bun, Sushi reflected deeply. The simulations had transformed him from an ordinary person into someone with exceptional expertise. He now possessed both advanced weapon refining skills for cultivating immortals and master-level wand-making techniques. This combination could create weapons equally suited for immortality and magic. However, finding suitable materials for such a weapon presented a challenge. As a holy domain Magister, I'm already at the pinnacle of the magic system. Beyond this lies immortality. Locating materials of sufficient quality won't be easy, he thought. To explore his options, Sushi took out his phone and accessed the Extraordinary House, a trading network exclusive to extraordinary beings. After verifying his credentials, the interface displayed a variety of items. Good news, good news, Uzi Tianli Special Edition now available? Not for 998 points, only 98 points. TCTD1 Button Chi Transformation Device on sale. Omnic Magic Turret Pre-sale. Launch hundreds of fireballs per second and let enemies experience true despair. 6-turn cleansing bullets consecrated by eminent monks. Double damage against ghosts and evil entities. Limited time offer. 555 points. Bullets sold separately. The platform was filled with promotional offers for advanced weaponry and a wide range of extraordinary items, from magical mounts to immortal world weeds, displayed in an overwhelming array. If things keep developing like this, the style of the real world is going to get even stranger, Sushi remarked with a sigh. He filtered the search to focus on extraordinary wood-based materials. His spiritual root aligned with wood, and wooden ones were ideal for his purposes. He found several options. Remains of a lightning-struck willow tree. Withered trunk of an unknown tree, exceptionally strong. Seed containing high concentrations of wood attribute energy. The descriptions were vague, which indicated that even the Extraordinary Control Bureau didn't fully understand the value of these items. They were priced modestly, balancing between uselessness and potential. These materials might work, but if I guess wrong, I'll just waste my points, Sushi thought. Then it struck him he could buy them all. In his second simulation, Sushi had pushed mortal wisdom to its limits. While he hadn't learned everything, his understanding of magic had reached a level far beyond the mortal realm. Techniques like full attribute magic from levels 1 to 9, dragon blood grass cultivation, wand optimization, magic weapon amplification, and spiritual power purification were all within his grasp. These techniques are outdated for me but invaluable to officials. Aside from sanctuary level forbidden spells and secrets about gods, the rest can be traded for what I need. Mutual benefit. It's a win-win. The more Sushi considered it, the more practical the plan seemed. He wasn't afraid of sharing his knowledge and attracting trouble. His confidence came from his strength. As a holy domain magister at the peak of the mortal world, there was no need to hide or pretend to be weak. If I don't capitalize on this, wouldn't my efforts and even my sister's support be wasted? He chuckled. Of course, a sudden increase in strength and official transactions required plausible explanations. Sushi exited the Extraordinary House website and scrolled through his contacts. He soon found the number for Zhang Yaokuo, the director of the Inshan City Extraordinary Management Bureau. Hello, Director Zhang. Sushi greeted warmly. Yes, I've had another breakthrough. How? Oh, just luck, I guess. I was lying at home, napping, and when I woke up, I'd inexplicably advanced to the nascent soul realm and received a magician's inheritance. On the other end, there was a sound of something dropping, followed by hurried breaths and the rustling of medicine bottles. After a while, Zhang Yaokuo's shocked voice came through. Inheritance? Another inheritance? It's only been a few days. Even if you're lucky, Brother Su, this is too much. Though skeptical, Zhang Yaokuo couldn't dismiss the memory of Sushi's astonishing solo annihilation of the world ruins. Compared to that, acquiring a magical inheritance seemed less extraordinary. What's the realm of this inheritance? Zhang Yaokuo finally asked, trying to stay calm. Not much, Sushi replied modestly. After waking from the dream, I barely managed to become a holy domain magister. Life felt dreamlike, and for Sushi, the simulator truly was a dream made real. If Sushi wanted, he could live his entire life without revealing his strength. He had always been a person who valued keeping a low profile. However, after careful consideration, he abandoned this idea. It wasn't because of youthful arrogance or a desire to show off his newfound power, but rather because his strength had progressed too rapidly. With each simulation, he underwent a complete transformation. Ascension? Becoming a god? Transcendence? Even Sushi himself didn't know where the simulator's limits lay. In such a situation, hiding his true strength felt pointless and might even hinder further improvement. In this ever-changing world, without strength, there is no true security, he reflected. After finishing his steamed buns and tofu pudding, Sushi stood up and gazed at the bustling street ahead. People filled the lively scene, and the air was filled with the chatter of diners debating the merits of sweet versus savory tofu pudding. In the past, Sushi might have cherished this kind of ordinary life. He would have embraced a peaceful and low-profile existence, believing that a quiet life was all he needed. But those days were gone. Ever since the extraordinary disasters that left him in a wheelchair for 5 years, he had come to a painful realization. Without strength, a peaceful life was nothing more than a fragile illusion, a mirror that could shatter at any moment. Instead of worrying about staying safe, it was better to grow strong enough that no one could disturb him. Of course, the real reason Sushi could afford to reveal his strength to the authorities was his sister's incredible support. With the eternal teardrop on his wrist, a miraculous artifact with tenfold attributes and protection strong enough to withstand the attacks of an immortal emperor, he felt invincible. Even if the world were to explode, he would remain unscathed. Invincibility. There was no need for further explanation. Emily, I'll be counting on you for the rest of my life, Sushi murmured, glancing at the eternal teardrop. He couldn't help but smile. Being able to rely on his sister's support was a wonderful feeling. The midday sun shone brightly, casting its light onto the artifact. Within the eternal teardrop, a faint, hazy blood-red glow seemed to flicker in silent response. The strength Sushi chose to reveal was soon reported to the General Administration of Extraordinary Control in the capital by Zhang Yaokuo. The General Administration was home to the strongest extraordinary beings in China, as well as the most abundant resources. It also welcomed visitors from other worlds during the ongoing integration, many of whom joined as members of the Extraordinary Control Bureau, exchanging their strength for generous treatment and benefits. The Bureau was always eager to recruit top experts, and today, the news about Sushi sparked the interest of one of their most formidable members. Oh, a holy domain Magister. Haha, interesting. Leave the task of testing his strength to the great me. Within a vast, awe-inspiring hall, piles of gold coins and dazzling gemstones filled the space. Spotlights illuminated the room, creating a kaleidoscope of shimmering gold and silver. The radiant display was almost blinding. Suddenly, the glittering mountains of wealth collapsed. With a loud clatter of metal, a massive figure emerged from the treasure, shaking off the gold that had buried it. A ferocious red dragon with thick limbs and partially spread wings revealed itself. Its dark red scales glinted ominously, and its sheer size exuded an oppressive presence. As the dragon inhaled, a scorching mist of fire escaped its nostrils, melting the gold coins beneath it into molten puddles. I am the great sacred dragon. The wings of hell that conquer worlds. Rugzank Asteruts Neltharian Akonalakia Kakalagada. He, I haven't encountered a powerful magician since leaving my world. I hope this so-called holy domain Magister proves entertaining. GGG, foolish mortals, feel the wrath of the red dragon. The red dragon's roar echoed across the world. With a powerful flap of its massive wings, Sanchez soared into the sky, heading directly for Yinshan City at an astonishing speed. As it flew, a faint memory tugged at the edges of its mind. The name Sushi seemed familiar, though it couldn't recall why. But it didn't matter. The fury in Sanchez's eyes burned like molten fire, leaving streaks of red light in the sky. The humiliation it suffered when it was weaker had festered for years, unresolved. Its sworn enemy was long gone, leaving the red dragon to seethe with unvented rage. It resolved to take out its anger on this new human Magister. GGG? Poor humans, blame your ancestors for your misfortune. The clear blue sky turned a dull crimson as flames engulfed the dragon's flight path. With its fire domain boosting its speed, Sanchez moved faster than lightning, tearing through the air toward Yinshan City. Suddenly, its dragon eyes widened. An overwhelming instinct compelled it to stop mid-flight. Unable to resist, it crash-landed onto a barren mountain, rolling several times before coming to a halt. Its once pristine scales were now covered in dust, leaving it in an embarrassing state. What just happened? Sanchez muttered, its heart pounding as if in warning. Its body seemed desperate to prevent it from flying any farther. Could there be danger ahead? Ridiculous, the dragon scoffed. The arrogance ingrained in its dragon blood made it sneer. It seems this holy domain Magister isn't as weak as I thought. This revelation only excited Sanchez. Fierce battles, violent domination, and overcoming powerful foes were the only ways to cleanse its past humiliation. Suppressing its trembling instincts, the red dragon resumed its flight toward Yinshan City. As a guest of a human empire in another world, it was careful not to harm ordinary humans, using silent wind magic to conceal its massive frame. Arriving above Yinshan City, the red dragon hovered, scanning for its target. Found it, it growled. This immense magical energy and profound spiritual power, it must be the holy domain Magister. Grinning, the red dragon folded its wings and dived toward its target, ready to unleash its fury in a devastating first strike. But mid-dive, the expression on Sanchez's face froze. The Magister had turned around, revealing a face that filled the dragon's heart with fear. Dragon Whisperer. The red dragon's breath represented its rage. Its high-speed dive reflected its bravery. Its thunderous roar was a testament to its violence. The great red dragon, Sanchez, would prove its fearlessness and strength even in a foreign world. Yes, that was exactly how it should be. I didn't expect us to meet again. It's truly nostalgic, a calm, young voice echoed, startling the dragon. It was Sushi's voice, the voice of the man known as the first beneath the gods, the demon who had once single-handedly subdued Dragon Island. At this moment, Sushi had just received word from Zhang Yaokuo to assess his strength as a holy domain Magister, one of the top powerhouses from the Extraordinary General Administration. The sanctuary-level red dragon was rapidly approaching Yinshan City. Sushi remained unfazed. His strength was built on solid foundations forged through rigorous simulations. Even if a demigod appeared, he had full confidence in his ability to win. What Sushi hadn't expected, however, was that this so-called sanctuary-level red dragon was a familiar figure from the simulated world, the very dragon who had helped him cultivate dragon blood grass in his courtyard. Fate is truly wondrous, Sushi remarked. It seems I'll have the chance to grow dragon blood grass in the real world as well. With a casual wave of his hand, the grey resurrection wand appeared in Sushi's grasp, its surface gleaming with the brilliance of multiple elements. It was instinctive for Sushi to recreate actions from memory upon encountering familiar faces. The wand shimmered, charged with the forbidden spells of 4 elemental attributes. Earth attribute, disintegration of all things. Fire attribute, flame of silent destruction. Thunder attribute, thunder of doom. Light attribute, thousand blades of radiance. As the elemental powers converged, Sushi smiled faintly and flicked the wand with practiced precision. The tip lightly struck the dragon's head. A soft tap. The forbidden spells version. Ding. The world fell silent, save for the dragon's cry. Woo. The red dragon's scales shattered, its blood sprayed into the air, and its enormous body was sent hurtling backward. The power of 4 forbidden spells exploded at the point of contact, tilting the dragon's head and propelling its body like a blazing red meteor across the sky. The air roared with the force of its trajectory, and the wind howled in Sushi's ears. The dragon crashed into a distant mountain with earth-shaking force. Rocks tumbled down, dust billowed skyward, and the dragon was deeply embedded in the mountain's side. Dizzy and disoriented, Sanchez groaned. But years of battles had given it a remarkable ability to endure head-on attacks, and it quickly regained its senses. By the dragon god, I must retreat immediately. Strategic retreat. The dragon flapped its damaged wings, struggling to lift off. Its scarlet scales were tarnished, and its movements were shaky. Yet, as soon as it took to the skies, a figure appeared above it, wreathed in volatile magical elements. Flames crackled, lightning surged, and explosions filled the air with a palpable intensity. The red dragon's eyes widened in terror. With a forced laugh, it stepped back. Ha ha ha, what a coincidence? I didn't expect to meet you here. It seems I've come at a bad time. No, you've come at the perfect time, Sushi replied with a smile. Hovering in the sky, Sushi looked down at the trembling dragon. His expression was gentle, almost kind, but the overwhelming aura of magic surrounding him told a different story. In the simulated world, Sushi had become a sanctuary mage by his 50s. However, relentless pursuits by gods and churches had denied him the opportunity to unleash his full power. Now, with the red dragon as his sparring partner, he finally had a chance to test his strength. Domain, expand, Sushi said softly. In an instant, a super-complex domain of a dozen elemental attributes engulfed the surroundings. The red dragon's fire domain was crushed as Sushi's domain established a small world where his power reigned supreme. The red dragon roared in defiance. No, you can't do this. I demand a complaint. Curse you, human. I'll show you the true power of a dragon. Sanchez charged forward, its enormous body shrouded in surging flames. Every muscle bulged, and the air around it vibrated with the force of its dragon language magic. Sushi's expression turned serious as he prepared for the attack, but before he could respond, there was a sudden bang. The dragon had abruptly stopped its charge, flapping its massive wings as it retreated at full speed. Ha ha ha, you've fallen into my trap? This was my escape route all along. Dragon Whisperer, goodbye. Hearing the dragon's triumphant voice, Sushi was momentarily confused. Strange. Do I look that scary? He shook his head, suspecting that the red dragon's fear stemmed from the second simulation, where Krisha's relentless attacks had left a psychological scar. Sushi raised his hand slightly, and the power of his domain surged forth. It bound the fleeing dragon midair and sent it crashing heavily to the ground. Sanchez was stunned. Its bewildered expression was almost human-like as it realized how effortlessly it had been subdued. The dragon broke into a cold sweat and hastily adopted a flattering demeanor. Rubbing its claws together, it began praising Sushi's skillful capture, desperate to save itself. Your name is Sanchez, right? Sushi asked. No, that's too formal. Just call me Xiaohong, the dragon stammered, trying to appear docile. Despite its efforts, its ferocious face made any attempt at looking pitiful seem laughably ineffective. Don't worry. I'm not interested in your life, Sushi assured. I captured you for a simple test. Thank you for your kindness, the red dragon exclaimed in relief. But its joy was short-lived. Sushi's test involved using the red dragon as a target to analyze forbidden spell evasion and defense techniques. Sanctuary-level magic battles often involved forbidden spells, and Sanchez had witnessed many in its clashes with human mages. But this, gulp. The dragon nervously swallowed as it looked up at the 20 forbidden spells descending from the sky. With a resigned smile, Sanchez muttered, by the dragon god. I Sanchez astart Neltarian Akonologia Kakalagada am no coward. The brave red dragon roared with determination. Compared to dying outright, the challenge of surviving 20 forbidden spells didn't seem so bad. It unleashed its most potent dragon language magic and red dragon breath to counter half the spells, then flapped its wings furiously, doing its best to dodge the rest while helping Sushi measure their range and speed. The test of forbidden spells concluded quickly. Sushi gained a solid understanding of his abilities but realized he lacked a direct point of comparison with others at the same level. Thanks to the red dragon's cooperation, he could gauge his standing and the practical effects of numerous forbidden spells. As I expected, compared to other sanctuary-level mages, my strength is undoubtedly in a league of its own, Sushi thought to himself. He reflected on the specifics: tenfold magical power, near-perfect control over all elemental attributes, a composite field with unparalleled suppression, and the invincible protection granted by the eternal teardrop. Not bad, he thought with a smile. When I step into the realm of cultivating immortals, my combat power will be even more outrageous. Truly, I've become a noble statistical anomaly. An hour later, far from Yunshan City, in a desolate suburb, Sushi stood over the battered red dragon lying motionless in a massive crater. The earth around them was charred black, and the surrounding mountains lay in ruins. Holding his wand, Sushi channeled a gentle green light to cast life magic, healing the dragon's injuries. Slowly but steadily, the wounds on the dragon's massive body closed, and its vertical pupils regained clarity. As for the dragon blood spilled during the battle, it hovered in midair, gathered under Sushi's mental control. He collected it with ease. Although dragon blood grass was no longer particularly useful to him, given his current status as a holy domain magister, the habit of cultivating it persisted. Planting something, he felt, was oddly therapeutic. I wonder if there are other western dragon species in this world, Sushi pondered. If not, I might need to keep using Rex Sanchez as a source for dragon blood in the future. His gaze darkened as he turned to the dragon. Trembling in fear, Rex Sanchez suddenly regained consciousness. With a slight motion of Sushi's fingers, his immense mental power dragged the massive dragon toward him, causing the creature to shiver even more violently. Don't worry, Sushi said calmly. I keep my word. I won't kill you. The air was thick with brown dust from their battle, hanging faintly in the sunlight. With a wave of his hand, Sushi summoned a breeze that cleared the haze, revealing the ruined landscape. He looked at the dragon and asked, Xiaohong, do you remember how you came to this world? I do, the red dragon replied hurriedly, nodding as if its life depended on it. It scratched its head with sharp claws, carefully recalling its memories. After the gods disappeared, a long time passed, the dragon began, and then, one day, the sky and earth suddenly collapsed. Before I could react, I found myself here. Sushi's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Suddenly collapsed? Sounds like a spatial rupture. This kind of phenomenon seemed far beyond the realm of sanctuary-level power, leaving even a creature like the red dragon completely unaware as it was passively transported to the real world. It seems I won't learn much more from the red dragon, Sushi concluded silently. Then he asked another question. You mentioned the gods disappearing. What exactly happened? The dragon's eyes widened in surprise. You don't know? It was the one who landed on Dragon Island with you and overthrew the rule of the gods single-handedly. Sushi froze. The gods were dead, that much was common knowledge in the magical world. But hearing this direct account left him stunned. The red dragon continued its story, detailing the events of Ragnarok. As an elder dragon born during the Age of Gods, Rex Sanchez had grown from an infant dragon to an adult under the guidance of the golden dragon god. Even now, despite the god's absence, the dragon still instinctively offered prayers for protection. But it was Krisha, the witch, who had become the most feared. Stronger than the gods themselves, her power was beyond comprehension. Even the most devoted believers of the gods dared not resent her, for her existence surpassed that of any deity. According to Rex Sanchez, Krisha had destroyed the gods 50 years after Sushi's death in the simulated world. His Sushi sucked in a sharp breath. Outwardly, he remained calm, but inside, he was in turmoil. No way, he thought. Is this really my Krisha? She destroyed the heavens? Why didn't I notice anything about her potential when I was alive? A wild yet plausible thought emerged in Sushi's mind. Could it be that my presence slowed down Krisha's growth? Sushi was momentarily at a loss. Should he feel proud of her immense progress or frustrated by the idea that his life might have held her back? The situation felt surreal, and he couldn't help but wonder if the gods had played a part in this irony. Now I finally understand what the creator of Ragnarok achievement in the simulation referred to, Sushi muttered, deep in thought. He wanted to ask more about Krisha, but Rex Sanchez had little information. After defeating the gods, Krisha had left the magical world to venture into the mysterious, boundless chaos, a realm far beyond mortal comprehension. That's all I know, the red dragon said timidly. She became stronger by connecting with the elemental planes, but the extent of her power is unknown to me. Sushi nodded. That's enough. Knowing that Krisha was thriving and had surpassed the gods was already comforting. While the simulator had hinted at her achievements, Rex Sanchez's account provided clarity and detail that left Sushi satisfied. Returning to the present, Sushi decided it was time to address his certification as a holy domain magister. His battle against the red dragon had left no doubt about his qualifications. Should I wait in Yunshan City for the general administration's results? No, that'll take too long. I'll head directly to the capital, he resolved. Besides, I need advanced magic materials that Yunshan City can't provide. Trading directly with the general administration will be much faster. With that, Sushi climbed onto Rex Sanchez's back, letting the dragon carry him to the capital. What he didn't notice was the subtle change in his grey resurrection wand. The charred wand, originally a temporary tool, was undergoing an inexplicable transformation. Its surface, scorched by fire, began to flicker faintly, as though responding to something. Master. Found. Wait. I. Already found. No need to wait anymore. Whether it's the lonely autumn or the bitter cold of winter, all hardships eventually fade with time. The warm sun has returned, and even the immortal monster seems to glow with life once more. Master. I've finally found you. The surface of chaos rippled endlessly, converging into unity, a symbol of both the beginning and the end of all things. It bore witness to the passage of time and the immeasurable duration of the witch's wait. Now, however, the supreme witch had awakened from her eternal slumber. Her long, light gray-silver hair flowed in the chaotic currents, brushing against her calm face as it moved through the shadows of time. Her expression conveyed profound emotions without words. Was it joy, love, or anticipation? Krisha herself couldn't tell. All she knew was that dim shadows must eventually return to the light, and lost items must find their way back to their rightful owners. Only then could they retain their value and purpose. Please wait just a little longer, Her soft voice echoed in the silent chaos. I will be there soon. The witch departed, her figure traversing vast distances of time and space. Breaking through the barriers of countless dimensions, she sought the light she had once lost. Pft, cough, cough. On the way to the capital, Sushi was flying atop the red dragon. The sky was bright blue, and the wind rushed past him as they soared toward the extraordinary general administration. But all of a sudden, Sushi coughed violently and felt a chill run down his spine. Strange. Why do I have an ominous feeling? He steadied his breathing, trying to calm his nerves, but confusion clouded his thoughts. Could a new extraordinary disaster be on the horizon? It seemed unlikely. With his current strength, defeating any ordinary extraordinary foe would be child's play. Only enemies from another time, gods or immortals with power beyond mortal comprehension, could justify this unease. Still, I don't think it's that, he muttered. What is it, then? It can't be. Is my body just acting up for no reason? Sushi frowned as he delved into his thoughts, searching his memory for anything he might have overlooked. Yet after several reviews, nothing seemed out of place. His plans for crafting a hybrid weapon of a flying sword and wand were already taking shape, and all that remained was acquiring the necessary materials from the extraordinary general administration. His combat abilities and cultivation level were also progressing steadily. Suddenly, a realization dawned on him. I almost forgot I was so focused on preparing dragon blood that I neglected to gather grass seeds. He sighed, a little relieved. Ordinary seeds can't endure dragon blood. I'll need to source a batch from the general administration. With his thoughts clarified, Sushi felt more at ease. The red dragon Rex Sanchez flew tirelessly, carrying Sushi across the vast landscape. Its immense wings cast huge shadows on the ground below, creating waves in treetops and stirring dust and rocks across the terrain. The speed at which they traveled far surpassed any known biological limit, outpacing many modern weapons. Before long, the capital's sprawling outline came into view. A unique blend of the extraordinary and the technological, the city showcased a breathtaking mix of ancient and modern elements. High-rise buildings stood alongside floating spirit boats and flying pavilions. Sword-wielding cultivators flew in formation with New Age fighter jets, while martial artists engaged in combat against creatures from Western fantasy. The capital was the hub of the most developed extraordinary economy, home to unparalleled resources and innovation. Together, these elements fostered an extraordinary prosperity unmatched elsewhere. It's far more spectacular than it looks on TV, Sushi remarked, standing atop the red dragon and gazing at the vibrant city below. He could clearly see that the extraordinary beings in the capital far outnumbered those in Yunshan City, and their quality was equally impressive. This is what you'd expect from the seat of the extraordinary general administration, he said with a sigh. In the past, before he had the simulator, Sushi's aspirations were modest. He had only hoped to heal his legs and experience a bit of adventure. Little did he know that his simulation training would elevate him to the ranks of the most envied powerhouses. The grand adventure he had once dreamed of now seemed trivial by comparison. Modern enchanted weapons like the Holy Light Gatling gun, Thunder sniper rifle, Sunmu heavy tank, and Yelong fighter jets intrigued him briefly, but only from a technical perspective. Their power was nowhere near enough to pose a threat to someone of his level. Xiaohong, why did you join the Extraordinary Control Bureau? Sushi asked, looking down at the dragon beneath him. Dragons, known for their obsession with wealth, were more inclined to plunder than work under human authority. Naturally, it was for peace and justice, the red dragon replied. Be honest. Sushi tapped his wand lightly against the dragon's head, causing it to flinch. All right, I lost a fight. Rex Sanchez quickly admitted the truth. As Sushi had suspected, after arriving in the real world, the red dragon's first instinct was to raid and conquer, claiming territory to become a feared dragon lord. But this plan was thwarted almost immediately. A white-haired old man wielding a sword appeared and defeated the red dragon in a single strike. That had to be a true god, Rex Sanchez said earnestly. It wasn't that I was too weak, the opponent was simply too strong. The Holy Realm can't stand against a god. It's only natural. God, Sushi murmured. As they approached the extraordinary general administration, Sushi's gaze fell on its magnificent structure. Narrowing his eyes, he pondered aloud, perhaps it wasn't a god, but a sword immortal. Gods and true immortals existed on the same level of greatness. Based on the red dragon's description, the figure clad in a Taoist robe and wielding a sword seemed far more likely to be an immortal. This is unexpected, Sushi mused. To think there's a true immortal in the real world. No wonder the extraordinary outbreaks have lasted so long, yet order in the real world remains stable. It turns out the Extraordinary Control Bureau has true immortals assisting them. Could it be that humanity has inherited this legacy? Or are immortals from other worlds lending their aid? Sushi wondered. Roar. It wasn't the first time the red dragon had worked for the Extraordinary Control Bureau. As its massive, mountain-like form appeared, the vicinity of the Extraordinary General Administration activated its protocols, clearing a spacious landing area for the dragon to descend and rest. Dragon destroys the airport. Rex Sanchez bellowed excitedly, repeating a phrase it had picked up somewhere. With an impressive burst of speed, it accelerated, dove, and executed a flamboyant landing maneuver. Its powerful impact gouged deep ravines into the ground with its claws, showcasing the brute strength and overwhelming presence of a holy-level dragon. Nearby staff were unfazed by the spectacle. They were accustomed to such scenes and immediately began working to repair the damage caused by the dragon's arrival. But soon, something caught their attention. A civilian staff member assigned to coordinate with Rex Sanchez approached the dragon and casually asked if the strength test had gone well. Rex Sanchez nodded solemnly. That lord is incredibly strong. I regret losing to him. The civilian was stunned. What? Not only is he a real holy domain Magister, but he also defeated you. The revelation left the staff member shocked and elated. His voice trembled with excitement. He fully understood how monumental the emergence of a holy domain warrior was for humanity. This is incredible. No, I need to report this immediately and contact this holy domain powerhouse again. He turned to leave when a calm voice drifted from above. No need to contact me. I'm already here. The emergence of a holy domain Magister, a true Chinese compatriot, not an alien or someone from another world, sent shockwaves through the extraordinary general administration. When it became known that Sushi had arrived in person, the news sparked even greater commotion. Within 5 minutes of the staff member's report, the area was secured, isolating it from the growing crowd of extraordinary beings eager to catch a glimpse. Holy domain? That's practically a god. This is insane, I'm so jealous. Boss, look at me, I'm your long-lost half-brother. The chatter of envy, awe, and admiration filled the air until Sushi, escorted by staff, entered the interior of the administration building. Mr. Su, is it alright if I address you this way? Asked one staff member respectfully. That's fine, Sushi replied calmly. Inside, the corridors gleamed with bright lights and silver-white metallic walls inscribed with Buddhist scriptures and Taoist talismans, ensuring no evil spirits could infiltrate. Awaiting him was a nascent soul stage cultivator, who, though remarkable in his own right, appeared insignificant in Sushi's presence. Fully aware of this disparity, the monk kept his demeanor humble. Mr. Su, please follow me, the monk said politely. Your authority within the general administration, as well as your extraordinary house points and benefits, have been upgraded. Details are available on the platform. The process was astonishingly efficient. Before Sushi had even finished a glass of water, his status as a holy domain Magister was officially recognized, along with all associated privileges. No further testing of my strength? Sushi asked with mild curiosity. The monk chuckled. There's no need. If the red dragon acknowledges your strength, it's beyond question. Sushi nodded, understanding the weight of the dragon's respect. Dragons, whether Eastern or Western, were notoriously arrogant. Their pride in their bloodlines led them to disdain all other creatures. The only way to earn their submission was through overwhelming power. This way, Mr. Su, the monk said, gesturing down a corridor. Our director is waiting for you. The director? Yes. The one who defeated the red dragon with a single sword. Ah, I see. Sushi's earlier suspicions were confirmed. The figure who subdued Rex Sanchez was indeed a swordsman and the chief director of the Extraordinary Control Bureau. I've encountered gods in the simulated world, Sushi thought. But I've never met an immortal. I assumed I'd encounter one in later simulations, but to think it would happen in the real world. After weighing the risks, Sushi decided to proceed. With the eternal teardrop, there's no threat to my safety. He can't be an immortal emperor, otherwise, the earth wouldn't survive his presence. He advanced down the silver corridor. As he neared its end, the environment suddenly shifted, blurring into a serene natural setting. Gentle streams trickled nearby, and bamboo leaves rustled softly in the breeze. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, reflecting off the water's surface to create a tranquil, picturesque scene. In the center of this idyllic setting, Sushi spotted a thin figure practicing swordsmanship alone. The man, though elderly, moved with grace and freedom, wielding his sword with calm precision. No magical power or techniques accompanied his movements, yet the sheer sharpness of his strikes seemed capable of cutting through the heavens. What truly caught Sushi's attention, however, was the style of the sword itself, a distinct design from the forest sword peak lineage of the Heavenly Sword sect, characterized by the unique withered vine sword refinement technique. Traitor, the man said, his voice calm but tinged with reproach. It's been a long time. Don't you even greet your master anymore? The sword immortal sheathed his blade, and the surrounding sword energy dissipated, retreating into the withered vine sword. As the man turned, his familiar face came into view. Li Wanshao, Sushi murmured in disbelief. The master of Forest Sword Peak. The very master from Sushi's first simulation world. Master. Sushi was momentarily stunned before bursting into laughter. I admit my mistake. The duo exchanged smiles. There was no tearful reunion or overwhelming excitement, only a calm, familiar warmth, as if they had simply resumed their roles as master and disciple. Sit down, Li Wanshao said, gesturing to a stone table. They seated themselves across from each other. A light breeze rustled the bamboo leaves, some of which steeped in hot water, filling their cups with fragrant tea. After a brief exchange and an update on Sushi's current situation, Li Wanshao sighed deeply. I don't know what circumstances brought my rebellious disciple back from the dead, but I'm glad you're here. The old man smiled warmly but quickly switched to a stern expression, slamming the table as he stood. You traitor, he yelled. You were so promising, yet you chose to dabble in barbarian magic? It's superficial and vulgar? The immortal way is the only righteous path. Everything in life seems to follow a chain of contempt, be it the choice between fuel or electric vehicles, or even game platforms. Contempt and superiority are constant companions, deeply rooted in the very fabric of competition. Among extraordinary systems, immortal cultivators undeniably hold the highest arrogance. To Li Wanxiao, a system like magic wasn't even worth comparing to the grandeur of immortality. Change, you must change, the old man declared, his beard bristling and his eyes wide with intensity. What's the point of becoming a god? My disciples will ascend to immortality. Imagine how beautiful it will be when master and disciple become immortals together. Foolish brat, it's not too late to correct your ways now, just wait for me to rebuild your spiritual roots. Master, actually Sushi began, intending to explain that he had already cultivated both immortality and magic, and that his long-destroyed heavenly spiritual root had been fully restored. But Li Wanxiao was faster. With a sweep of his hand, the air around them shifted. Bamboo leaves trembled gently as his wrinkled fingers moved skillfully, drawing forth a crystalline jade-green light from the void. It shimmered like tenacious roots, pulsating with life. Sushi immediately recognized the material. It was something derived from a rare divine wood, perfect for creating wood element spiritual roots. However, what surprised him even more was that this wasn't raw material. It was a nearly complete spiritual root, ready for implantation. Master, you had this prepared? Sushi asked softly, his voice tinged with emotion. What's wrong with you, traitor? Li Wanxiao frowned. Nothing. I just wanted to say, thank you. At least you have some conscience. You're worthy of being my disciple, making me bend the rules. And the old man coughed abruptly, avoiding the topic. I bought this branch, of course. His face betrayed a hint of pride as he held the shimmering heavenly spirit root, ready to implant the spiritual root into Sushi. But as he approached, his expression froze. The old man's sharp eyes detected the stable presence of the wood element heavenly spiritual root already within Sushi's body. Alongside it, he saw the cultivation of a nascent soul stage monk intertwined with the overwhelming power of a holy domain Mage. This is, Li Wanxiao's voice trembled, uncertain and astonished. To see his once dead disciple alive was miraculous enough, but to discover that the heavenly spiritual root, thought to have been utterly destroyed, had been restored was beyond belief. I think it's probably just good fortune, Sushi said with a light smile, carefully omitting any mention of the simulator. He attributed everything to the power of world integration. It's completely unexpected. Li Wanxiao sighed, his expression tinged with regret as he glanced at the heavenly spirit root in his hand. With a look of disdain, he tossed it to Sushi. This is just a useless piece of wood now, the old man grumbled. It's worthless to me. You might as well take it. Sushi accepted the gift with a warm smile, fully understanding his master's gruff yet caring nature. As they sat together, sipping tea brewed from fresh bamboo leaves, the master and disciple enjoyed the serene atmosphere of green mountains and clear waters. The scent of bamboo infused their cups, its light and even flavor bringing warmth to each sip. Master, have you truly reached the immortal realm? Sushi asked curiously. Of course, Li Wanxiao replied with a satisfied laugh, stroking his beard. His expression practically shouted, finally, you've asked me. My talent isn't as extraordinary as your heavenly spiritual root, he admitted. But I have incredible luck, ha ha ha. Li Wanxiao recounted his journey. Nearing the end of his life, he had stumbled upon a miraculous elixir. Not only did it push his cultivation beyond the divine transformation realm, but it also revitalized his dying body and significantly improved his qualifications. He spoke at length about his feats, from shocking the world of cultivation to defeating powerhouses at their peak. With a gleam in his eye, he described his ascension to immortality. So, you've ascended to the immortal realm? Sushi asked again, intrigued. Would I joke about such a thing? Li Wanxiao replied, though his demeanor turned somber at the question. Then why are you here in this world instead of the immortal realm? The old man's face froze, the question hitting a nerve. He sighed deeply before answering, the immortal realm is gone. Li Wanxiao began his tale. On the day of his ascension, the heavens were bright, and countless disciples of the heavenly sword sect watched in awe. Flowers fell from the sky, and golden lotuses bloomed on the ground. His mortal body transcended, his soul reshaped as he stepped into immortality. The immortal realm was breathtaking. Its beauty and grandeur surpassed anything described in the sect's scriptures. It was a place of endless wonders, true dragons soaring in the heavens, Kylans traversing realms, and supreme immortal kings ruling immeasurable domains. Li Wanxiao had been overwhelmed by the sight, marveling at the endless possibilities. But just as he was about to explore this magnificent world, disaster struck. The immortal realm was cleaved apart by a flawless sword light. The very fabric of time and space collapsed as if the world itself had been sliced in two. Immortals exclaimed in shock, she has returned. Li Wanxiao, newly ascended and ignorant of the immortal realm's complexities, had no idea what was happening. His initial plan to reunite with Su Moli in the immortal realm and care for Sushi's family member was abruptly shattered. The collapse was catastrophic. Torn apart by the implosion, Li Wanxiao found himself powerless, his body hurled into the chaos of space and time. Eventually, he was flung into the real world, his path entirely out of his control. And just like that, the magnificent immortal realm was gone, the old man lamented, downing his cup of spiritual water in one gulp. Though I've reached the realm of true immortality, I cannot find my way back. The calamity was far too vast. For now, I can only remain in this world, serving as a guest of the Extraordinary Control Bureau. Li Wanxiao's decision was straightforward. Though the earth was not the immortal realm he knew, its culture and traditions mirrored aspects of the immortal way. He resolved to help where he could, hoping to uncover the mystery behind the world's extraordinary fusion and the ruins appearing across its surface. Perhaps, he thought, understanding the Earth's peculiarities might lead him to the answers he sought or even a path back to the immortal realm. As for the fairyland, the old man who had witnessed its destruction no longer held any hope of its survival. Your experience is truly full of twists and turns, bizarre and tumultuous, Sushi remarked after hearing Li Wanchao's story. Having experienced countless simulations and witnessing unimaginable events, even Sushi was momentarily stunned. The sequence of events was simply too outrageous to process. First, Li Wanchao accidentally came across an elixir that altered his destiny. Then, he survived the catastrophic explosion of the fairy world, two feats that were individually astounding, let alone combined. I never imagined that even the immortal realm, with all its strength, could face destruction and death, Sushi commented, his tone tinged with disbelief. Though surprised by the explosion of the fairy world, Sushi didn't dwell on it. The idea that the entity responsible for such destruction might have their sights set on Earth seemed laughable. The Earth, compared to the fairy world, was insignificant, nothing more than a speck of dust in the vast universe. How could someone capable of annihilating the immortal realm ever care about such a trivial place? Instead, Sushi turned his attention to something more pressing. Master, can you tell me about Emily? He asked. He had long wanted to know what had happened after his first simulation. The man behind him, this achievement from the simulator continued to perplex Sushi. What had Emily done to earn such a title? That child, Emily. Li Wanchao's expression turned complicated. After you left, she changed entirely. Driven by the desire for revenge, she hunted down demon cultivators with relentless determination. Her brilliance was overwhelming. She became someone who shouldn't exist. The world of immortality simply couldn't contain her. Before she even reached the realm of ascension, she was already invincible in the lower world. Using her unparalleled swordsmanship, she broke open the gates of heaven and entered the fairy world, despite my attempts to stop her. As her master, Li Wanchao sighed deeply, guilt etched across his face. I thought I would find her after my own ascension, but fate was unkind. Despite everything, I still couldn't reunite with her. The old man's voice carried the weight of his regret. He had once promised Sushi that he would protect Emily, but the explosion of the fairy world had likely sealed her fate. It's all right, master, Sushi said softly, trying to comfort him. I don't think Emily needs us to worry about her. As he spoke, his gaze drifted to the eternal teardrop on his wrist. Though he didn't know the full extent of his sister's power, the fact that a single drop of her tears could fend off the attack of an immortal emperor spoke volumes. Emily had likely embarked on an extraordinary path. She must be fine, Sushi reassured himself. But deep down, he couldn't help but recall her frail, delicate appearance from before. He worried about the possibility of her being bullied or hurt. The thought lingered, a mix of protectiveness and longing for his sister. He sometimes felt her presence nearby, as though she were silently following him, just like in the first simulation. Perhaps I really need some rest, Sushi muttered. He poured himself a cup of spiritual water and downed it in one gulp, chuckling at his own overthinking. He turned his attention back to Li Wanchao, and the two continued their conversation. They reminisced about the past, discussed the Heavenly Sword sect, the rapid changes on Earth, the extraordinary control bureau, and the ruins appearing across the world. This world is strange, Li Wanchao admitted, stroking his beard. But it's also fascinating. He marveled at the merging of worlds. Despite the wonders of the immortal realm, the Earth with its convergence of countless systems was unmatched. Magic, fighting spirit, fantasy, omnics, immortality, and undead, it was a kaleidoscope of phenomena. Even the legendary immortal emperor couldn't achieve such a feat, the old man remarked. I agree, Sushi nodded. The power that transformed the Earth into what it is today must be extraordinary. Their conversation shifted to Sushi's purpose for visiting. Without hesitation, he shared his initial goal of acquiring wood materials to craft a hybrid weapon tailored to his needs. Though, it seems that's no longer necessary. Sushi opened his palm, revealing the heavenly spirit root Li Wanchao had given him. The sacred tree that connects heaven and earth was a treasure comparable to the world tree of Western mythology. With this divine wood as the raw material, his new weapon wouldn't just be powerful, it would grow alongside him, eliminating the need for constant upgrades. Master, I've enjoyed our conversation today, but I should get going, Sushi said, rising from his seat. What? You're not staying to spend more time with an old man like me? Next time, I promise. Bah, get out of here, you traitor. Li Wanchao barked, but his laughter belied his words. The two shared a hearty laugh. While their reunion was joyful, Sushi understood his master's nature. Li Wanchao valued peace and didn't like being disturbed for too long. Then I'll take my leave, master, Sushi said, turning to go. As he stepped away, a storage bag suddenly flew into his hand. There are some cultivation resources in there, Li Wanchao called out. They're useless to me now, so take them. And don't slack off. How can a disciple of mine only be at the nascent soul realm? If word gets out, where will I put my face as an immortal? With a flick of his sleeve, Li Wanchao unleashed his immortal power. Time and space warped, and Sushi was instantly transported out of the serene bamboo forest. When he regained his bearings, he was back in the silver-white corridor. The forest, streams, and Li Wanchao were gone. I can't shake the feeling that something's off, Sushi murmured, staring at the storage bag in his hand. Between the eternal teardrop and the resources he had just received, Sushi realized he was benefiting immensely from those around him, his sister's strength, his master's influence, and the privileges they afforded him. Soft rice really is wonderful, Sushi mused with a chuckle, tucking the storage bag away. Who wouldn't want to enjoy this kind of life? The goal of Sushi's trip had been accomplished. He successfully acquired the materials needed to forge a new weapon. Yet, he didn't rush to leave. Instead, he stayed at the Extraordinary General Administration to finalize his original plan, selling off surplus magical knowledge. The Extraordinary Control Bureau, backed by the country, has amassed countless extraordinary items over the years, Sushi mused. Even if I don't need to exchange for wood materials, the points can be used to obtain other essentials. For instance, grass seeds for cultivating dragon blood grass, monster blood for drawing meditation magic circles, or anchor media related to unsimulated cultivation techniques. Before long, staff from the General Administration arrived to assist him. Using a novel, confidential engraving technology, they meticulously recorded the magical knowledge Sushi offered. In exchange, he earned a staggering 7-figure score and, from that day forward, enjoyed a 20% discount at Extraordinary Home. This courtesy wasn't due to Li Wanchao's influence. Rather, it was a recognition by the General Administration that Sushi's magical knowledge was invaluable. Incredible? How was this even achieved? All the magic level 9 included has been perfectly adjusted to function with the parameters of our world. It's immediately usable. This is groundbreaking? With these new meditation methods and spells, the country's young magicians will thrive. Quick, someone start testing these immediately. The staff and magic scholars, their eyes gleaming with enthusiasm, hurriedly left the trading room to examine the treasure trove of knowledge. Only a few remained to oversee Sushi's transaction. Sushi didn't mind their departure. Having been a dedicated magic researcher in the simulated world himself, he understood their fervor for knowledge. Now, let's see what I can buy. He strolled through the General Administration's storage area, browsing the vast selection of goods on the Extraordinary Home website. Among the items were rare treasures from other worlds and innovative products blending magic and technology. Incomplete sword grass, suspected to originate from the fairy world, though damaged and devoid of its original sword energy. No problem. It's for cultivating dragon blood grass anyway. As long as it works, I'll take it. Dragon blood, extracted from a monster at the Mahayana stage, just shy of transforming into a true dragon. Its cold, mysterious properties hinted at unknown potential. Could Master have slain this one? Either way, it's worth trying. Cultivating dragon blood grass from oriental dragon seeds might yield fascinating results. Buy them all. With a hefty pool of points and his newly unlocked 20% discount, Sushi indulged himself extravagantly, purchasing everything that piqued his interest. The anchor media from various worlds were his most significant and costly acquisitions. To ensure smooth starts in future simulations, he also invested in related knowledge and cultivation methods. It was, after all, these careful preparations that had allowed him to successfully become a magic apprentice in his second simulation. All right, that should do it. Surveying his nearly full storage space, Sushi nodded in satisfaction and left the Extraordinary General Administration. Outside, the landing area was immaculate, with no trace of the damage caused by Sanchez. The red dragon, however, was nowhere in sight. Quick to escape, aren't you? Extending his mental power, Sushi scanned the surroundings. Deep beneath the General Administration, he found Sanchez lounging in a grand hall brimming with gold and silver. The dragon looked utterly content, its face glowing with relief. Let's let him off this time, Sushi chuckled. I've collected enough dragon blood for now. With a wave of his wand, Sushi summoned elemental magic air, thunder, and shadow and soared into the sky, heading toward Yinshan City. Space magic would be ideal for travel, he thought. But my multi-element approach, combined with my domain's amplification, isn't far behind. As he sped through the clouds, his domain absorbed the opposing winds, converting their force to accelerate his flight. The path he left in his wake carved roaring wind tunnels through the air, creating a spectacular display of elemental power. In the midst of this journey, Sushi's thoughts wandered. First, the heavenly sword sect realm. Then, red dragon Sanchez. Finally, master. Figures and objects from the simulations keep appearing in reality. Though only a few individuals from the simulated world had crossed over, the possibility that Emily or Krisha might also manifest was growing increasingly real. If I could see my kind sister again, or meet Krisha once more. The idea of reuniting with them filled him with quiet joy. Past separations and regrets might finally be resolved in the real world. Still, his thoughts carried a tinge of worry. The instability of the world's integration and the emergence of boundary ruins could pose serious dangers. I hope those two remain unharmed. A loud beep interrupted his musings. Looking at his phone, he saw a vivid red warning flashing on the Extraordinary Home website. A super-large boundary ruin with the highest risk level. Recently, the frequency of such ruins had increased significantly, sparking Sushi's curiosity about their underlying pattern. These ruins threaten the real-world stability, but it's not my problem to solve, he reasoned. With true immortal Li Wanchao and other top-tier forces like Sanchez protecting the general administration, Sushi felt no need to worry. He resumed his journey home, his figure cutting through the skies toward Yinshan City. Meanwhile, far away on the blurred edge of reality and fiction, in a realm where dimensions rose and chaos divided, a solitary figure walked along the endless river of time. Cold and detached, she held a blood-stained wooden sword, her posture emanating an aura of unyielding determination. Before her lay the shattered remnants of a world, broken into countless fragments. Brother, it's almost time. In just a little while, Emily can come back to you. The soft whispers carried boundless longing. A cold figure, transcending the immortal emperor and stepping into the realm of the absolute, stood in the chaos. Her presence exuded an ethereal charm, embodying the perfect foundation of the Deo. With serene eyes, she gazed down at the river of time, observing its endless currents. Raising her pale, jade-like hand, she made a simple gesture. Fragmented worlds, severed by her hand, began to align and merge into the gradually evolving blue planet. During the process, some fragments resisted, clinging to their instincts. But Sumoli suppressed them effortlessly. A world without my brother holds no meaning, she declared. With her will, she severed all cause and effect, fusing the fragments into the earth. How many times had she done this? Sumoli no longer kept track. To her, small worlds were like pebbles scattered along the roadside, common, insignificant, and only useful as nourishment for her brother's world. The only time that lingered in her memory was when she severed the fairy world. Its immense size had required her to exert slightly more strength. The outcome had been satisfactory. She sealed the heavenly Deo and primal laws of the fairy world, feeding them into the earth to foster the planet's will and elevate its status. Sumoli intended to transform Earth into a second fairyland, a place where she could bring her true form. Boom, boom, the chaos trembled, and time itself stood still. Her jade-like hand, holding a bloodstained and darkened wooden sword, traced the long river of time. She effortlessly plucked a vast world from its droplets and shattered it. Over and over, Sumoli repeated this action, seemingly tireless. Entire worlds were obliterated and, along with their inhabitants, integrated into Earth to form new world ruins. Most beings managed to escape, finding refuge in other droplets along the river of time. Sumoli paid them no mind. Her focus was solely on the world fragments, the only things that mattered to her in her relentless pursuit to reunite with her brother. The heavens quaked, and the worlds shuddered. Sumoli moved upstream against the river of time, traversing the boundless chaos. Suddenly, her steps faltered. Her brows furrowed, and her deep, piercing gaze filled with surprise. Before her, at the opposite end of the temporal stream, emerged a figure as magnificent as herself. From a mortal's perspective, it was a girl with long, gray-silver hair. From Sumoli's perspective, it was the embodiment of supreme law. It symbolized the genesis of all things and the inevitable return to the void. What is this? Sumoli murmured, stunned. She had never considered herself the sole supreme being within the vast chaos. Yet, she had not anticipated encountering someone of her caliber, especially here and now. Tap. The gray-silver-haired witch advanced calmly, her expression indifferent. Holding an ordinary wand, she navigated the turbulence of chaos, dismantling magical worlds with a serene precision. Her methods were extraordinarily refined, or perhaps it was the sheer nobility of her power. Each motion, each strike. It was less that the witch destroyed the worlds and more that the worlds surrendered to her, willingly breaking apart. Some of the beings within were absorbed into the dimensions of her wand, while others drifted away, eventually merging into Earth through mysterious transfers of time and space. Her work seemed far more delicate and meticulous than Sumoli's. For a moment, Sumoli felt inadequate. The white-clad fairy remained composed. Her concern lay not in comparison but in understanding the other's intentions. Who are you? To Sumoli, the Su family was her bottom line. Because of this, the Earth itself became her sacred boundary. She could not accept the idea of another being of equal strength targeting her brother's world. In the chaos, the witch's voice echoed faintly. A simple word rippled through the infinite void. Noticing Sumoli for the first time, the witch raised her head. Her face was delicate yet expressionless, radiating an indescribable divinity. Earth, wind, water, and fire seemed to perpetually create and destroy around her. Sumoli gripped her sword's hilt tightly, prepared for confrontation. But the witch's calm response extinguished her hostility, replacing it with bewilderment. I'm looking for someone. I just really want to be with them. The voice was steady, yet it carried profound emotion and intense yearning hidden beneath layers of restraint. You too? Sumoli asked, astonished. Krisha tilted her head slightly. Yes. In that instant, the fairy and the witch understood one another. Though their methods and purposes differed, both sought the same thing. Both searched for someone dear. Who is it you're waiting for? Sumoli inquired cautiously. As equals, she could not trace the witch's causality or timeline, sensing only that the other was the eternal sovereign of her diverse worlds. My master, my salvation, my son, the light that taught me what it means to be human, the witch replied. Sumoli immediately realized that their quests were not for the same person. Her brother was a cultivator who had passed before her eyes. The witch, on the other hand, awaited a magician from another realm, someone deeply connected to her. It was merely coincidence that both individuals resided on Earth. Understanding this, Sumoli lowered her guard. Returning to her usual indifferent demeanor, she resumed her journey through time, seeking suitable worlds for cultivation. Perhaps out of a shared empathy for the witch, Sumoli offered a parting suggestion before vanishing into the distance. If your true form cannot yet come, you can project your consciousness to accompany them, she said. The witch's calm eyes revealed confusion. Why don't you do that? Sumoli hesitated before responding, her voice faint. She trailed off, offering no explanation as she departed. Her guilt weighed heavily, a knot tied tightly in her heart. She believed she had harmed her brother, and that belief kept her from fully embracing her own desires. The witch silently watched her leave, sensing the untold pain within her. But the secrets of the fairy had nothing to do with the witch. Turning her focus inward, Krisha resolved to project her consciousness, determined to return to the Side-O. Sushi had moved to a new residence. Upon returning to Yinshan City, he realized that his old house was no longer sufficient. It lacked the space needed to plant dragon's blood grass, and his plans to purchase a larger storage cabinet made the small bedroom seem inadequate. The only solution is to move, he decided. After a nostalgic walk through the old house, taking one last look at each room, Sushi collected his belongings and purchased a green courtyard through the Extraordinary Management Bureau of Yinshan City. The new courtyard was expansive, with serene green pergolas, tranquil pools, and vibrant flowers. Streams of water cascaded down stone steps, forming a series of delicate waterfalls. As the water splashed and shimmered, it reflected Sushi's youthful face on its clear surface. "This is perfect," he said, surveying the land. "The dragon's blood grass can thrive here." With a slight flick of his fingers, the sword grass seeds shot deep into the soil. He then carefully poured both dragon's blood and the red dragon's blood over the planted seeds, dividing the planting area with a small rockery. The sun shone brightly, and the blood-soaked soil radiated a faint, pure red aura. Sushi turned away, satisfied. The initial step of cultivating dragon's blood grass was complete. Now, it was just a matter of waiting for the seeds to absorb the nutrients and break through the soil. The courtyard was quickly transformed. Bedroom, study, living room, kitchen, practice room. Sushi methodically organized his new home. Using his mental power, he rearranged the furniture to suit his preferences. The extraordinary materials and items he had collected were stored systematically, protected by spirit sealing formations to prevent the loss of their spiritual essence. The larger storage cabinet he had purchased found its place. Inside, he arranged his collection carefully. His sister's sugar bowl occupied the first compartment, while Krisha's wand took the second. These two items gave the cabinet a sense of warmth, dispelling its previous emptiness. "A new chapter begins here," Sushi said, gazing at his surroundings. Before initiating his third simulation, Sushi gave himself a well-deserved break to reflect on and digest the gains from the magical world. He cultivated diligently. Using the spiritual power of the Holy Realm, he drove the growth of his nascent soul realm. Small changes came every 3 days, and major breakthroughs followed every 7 days. With the tenfold cultivation effect of the eternal teardrops, his progress was as smooth and natural as breathing. He also turned his attention to weapon crafting. In his training room, Sushi opened the storage bag gifted by Li Wanshao, extracting a wisp of sun essence fire. With the help of fire element sprites from the magical side, he began forging the Jianmu branches. For half a month, the branches absorbed supernatural energies, regaining vitality. Another half-month of meticulous forging followed, during which Sushi used techniques from the withered vine sword lineage to establish a spiritual imprint and magical connection with the branches. "Jianmu is incredibly tough," Sushi remarked. "For my master, with his immortal level power, shaping it would be simple. For me, even refining it requires my full effort." Looking at the strange, unrefined Jianmu branch, Sushi decided to compromise. Instead of reshaping it into a proper sword, he left it in its natural form, trimming it slightly to enhance its appearance. This adjustment wouldn't affect its functionality. The result was a peculiar weapon, neither a sword nor a staff, but something in between. Slender and unassuming, it resembled a long stick. When Sushi infused it with both immortal cultivation mana and magical spiritual power, the branches responded seamlessly. The two systems merged effortlessly, enhancing one another without conflict. "As I thought, combining immortality and magic is the way forward," Sushi said, satisfied. With his weapon complete, Sushi had addressed his only shortcoming. Now he could focus on cultivation with peace of mind. He lived quietly in his courtyard, spending most of his days in seclusion. Occasionally, he ventured out to enjoy fine food or explore the new territories market near Yinshan City. His new status as a holy domain magister brought subtle changes to his interactions. Director Zhang Yaokuo of the Yinshan branch, once a casual acquaintance, now treated Sushi with an unconscious respect. Though Sushi repeatedly encouraged Zhang to maintain their easygoing camaraderie, the invisible barrier of status remained. "I suppose some things can't go back to the way they were," Sushi mused. In the solitude of his bedroom, sunlight streamed through the window like a painting, casting a golden glow on Sushi's surroundings. Sitting in a wooden chair, he gazed at his tall, newly filled collection cabinet. His eyes lingered on the sugar bowl and wand inside. Memories of his sister and the witch surfaced each moment, vivid and detailed. "After spending so much time in simulated worlds, reality feels unfamiliar," Sushi murmured. The warmth of the sun, the cool breeze, and the swaying branches outside seemed to amplify his solitude. In the first simulation, Sushi had lived with Sumoli. In the second, he had shared his days with Krisha. They had been his salvation and companionship, just as much as he had been theirs. Now, in his expansive new courtyard, the absence of their presence weighed heavily on him. Shaking his head, Sushi dismissed the thought. He pulled out his phone and logged into the extraordinary home. Oh, the Earth is expanding again. The latest report on the homepage captured his attention. The general administration had detailed the Earth's recent expansion, noting how much additional area had been gained and the number of newly formed world ruins. The Earth was changing. This was the conclusion of scientists at the Extraordinary Control Bureau. The world ruins fragments of other worlds were merging with Earth, transforming it from the inside out. This phenomenon was expected but still astonishing. The Earth, once a familiar blue planet, was steadily absorbing these fragments, growing larger and more complex. With each expansion, new creatures and extraordinary materials appeared, reshaping humanity's understanding of reality. What was once the plot of a novel now seemed to be becoming the truth. Perhaps, as more worlds merge with the Earth, I'll be able to see Emily and Krisha again, Sushi murmured as he slowly stood up. The empty room basked in the gentle sunlight streaming through the windows, casting soft highlights on Sushi's face and hair. He turned his head slightly, gazing at the rustling leaves outside the window. Sushi's eyes reflected the flow of time, the inevitable changes in reality. When he had first activated the beautiful life simulator and started the initial simulation, it was the height of summer. By the time the second simulation had begun, summer was fading, giving way to autumn. Now, over a month had passed, and the vibrant days of summer had been replaced by the cool, melancholic tones of autumn. Time is truly remarkable, Sushi said softly. It pushes us to grow, yet it makes us linger in stillness. Outside the window, the wind carried fallen petals. Sushi watched with a faint smile. Autumn's chill brought with it the craving for warmth. The thought of preparing a hearty meal of beef and lamb crossed Sushi's mind, and he decided to head out. He left the bedroom, passed through the courtyard where dragon's blood grass was quietly growing, and stepped outside. On the streets, fiery red maple leaves fluttered on either side. Fallen leaves blanketed the ground, and the streets bustled with life. Couples strolled arm in arm, laughter ringing out as they shared moments of joy. Families walked hand in hand, their warmth adding vibrancy to the day. Friends chased one another, their playful shouts filling the crisp air. The scene painted autumn with hues of connection, softening its lonely edges. This warmth reminded Sushi of two small figures standing in the cold of winter, waiting patiently for his return. But such moments were confined to the simulated world, not reality. Sushi brushed the thought aside and turned his focus to his errands. What ingredients should I get? Might as well stock up for a few meals, he mused as he entered the supermarket. He quickly gathered everything he needed and headed home, disinterested in lingering for entertainment or distractions. To him, such pursuits were far less fulfilling than savoring a good meal or advancing his cultivation. Each step home crunched against dry autumn leaves, creating a symphony of crisp echoes. Suddenly, Sushi froze mid-step. It was so unexpected that it felt surreal. Standing at the gate of his courtyard, a familiar figure waited quietly. "I'm back, master." The witch's calm voice broke the silence. It was the same voice Sushi remembered, steady, serene, and devoid of fluctuations, like a tranquil stream flowing through his heart. This reunion came without warning, yet it felt so natural, as if it were destined. For a brief moment, Sushi was unsure of what to say, then his expression softened. "Welcome home, Krisha," he said warmly, extending his hand toward her in a gesture of invitation. Once, in the simulated world, he had met the witch in the autumn. Now, in the real world, autumn had brought them together again. It felt like a poetic echo of fate. "Master." The witch's voice trembled as she took hesitant steps toward him. Her multicolored eyes, black, gold, and red, gleamed with emotions she rarely displayed. Sushi expected her to take his hand, but instead, she began to run. Her footsteps quickened, and before he could react, she threw herself into his arms. Their heartbeats seemed to sync, and time stood still. Krisha clung to Sushi tightly, as if afraid he might vanish. Her voice quivered with emotion. "Master, I've finally found you. I've waited so long. You didn't lie to me. We've truly reunited." The season of autumn, so often associated with endings, now symbolized a reunion long overdue. Sushi felt his clothes dampen. They were Krisha's tears. The witch, usually composed and cold, wept freely. Her face buried in Sushi's chest, her delicate features were streaked with tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pure, unfiltered joy. "Sorry for making you wait, Krisha," Sushi said softly, his voice heavy with guilt and tenderness. He placed a hand gently on her silver-gray hair, stroking it as he had done countless times in the past. Then, a sound pulled him from the moment, a round of applause. Turning, Sushi noticed a crowd of passers-by who had stopped to witness the scene. Some were clapping, others wiping their eyes, clearly misunderstanding the reunion as a touching love story. Sushi sighed, feeling a mix of embarrassment and helplessness. He quickly led Krisha into the privacy of the courtyard. Once inside, Krisha had regained her composure. She apologized softly, believing she had caused unnecessary trouble. "It's nothing to worry about, Krisha," Sushi assured her gently. He wiped away her tears with his hand, his voice calm and soothing. Krisha sat quietly, her gaze fixed on Sushi's face, her usual aloofness replaced with quiet vulnerability. She didn't know why her tears had come so easily or why her emotions had overwhelmed her. She had resolved to not trouble Sushi upon their reunion, but everything had spilled over. Was it the feeling of returning to where she belonged? The joy of finding light in the darkness? Or something deeper, more indescribable? The witch didn't dwell on the questions. What mattered was that the loneliness was gone, replaced by the warmth of being by Sushi's side once more. "Master." "Yes, Krisha? What is it?" Krisha hesitated for a moment, then opened her palm to reveal an ocean blue necklace. Its glow was serene, carrying a deep and familiar light. "Can you put this necklace on me again?" she whispered, her voice almost shy. When the witch was young, she endured all the malice the world could muster, forcing her to retreat into herself, escaping the dirt and darkness around her. Yet, there was one man who dedicated his life to breaking the chains that bound her. He succeeded. With the fleeting years of a mortal's life, he stayed by her side until his final breath. In those few decades, a brilliant and eternal flower blossomed in her heart. The witch found freedom, and the entity known as Krisha Christina finally experienced liberation. But when Sushi died before her eyes, when the only light in her heart disappeared, the witch's newfound freedom turned to ash. The chains that had once shackled her were broken, but with them, she rediscovered the depths of human emotion. She cried silently, her tears marking her return to being a free bird, just as Sushi had always wished for her. Yet, Krisha rejected this freedom. She didn't want it. "Master, please," Krisha whispered, holding out the shimmering ocean blue necklace in her delicate hand, placing it into Sushi's palm. Sushi had spent his life removing the witch's shackles. Now, Krisha chose to wear them again. This time, the chains were called eternal love, heavier than anything in the world, a bond she willingly imposed upon herself. She no longer wished to be separated from the sun in her heart. She wanted to remain by his side, always. "Krisha, why did you take off the necklace?" Sushi asked, puzzled, as he carefully held the necklace. "To clean up the trash for you. I was afraid it would get dirty," Krisha replied softly, her grey silver hair swaying gently. "Trash." Sushi frowned slightly. Something about her words felt off, but he couldn't pinpoint what. He decided to let it go for now. "Krisha, lower your head." In the quiet courtyard, bathed in the warm orange glow of autumn, Sushi stepped behind the witch. He gently lifted her flowing silver-grey hair, the strands slipping like silk through his fingers, soft and luminous. The autumn breeze carried warmth, blending with the golden light. As Sushi held the mithril chain in his hands, he couldn't help but recall the first time he had placed the necklace on her. That New Year's Eve felt like it had only been yesterday. A faint smile appeared on his lips as he carefully secured the necklace around her neck. The soft click of the clasp echoed faintly, signaling the completion of the task. "Thank you," Krisha murmured, her voice as faint as the autumn breeze, yet clear and resolute. "I like your necklace very much. I really like it." The autumn wind grew stronger, causing Krisha's long hair to dance wildly. Yet, instead of disrupting her beauty, it enhanced her ethereal presence. The necklace glinted with a soft, ocean blue light against her chest, exuding a dreamlike glow. "Good, I'm glad you like it," Sushi said with a warm smile. He gazed at Krisha. Her appearance had not changed, a 17-year-old girl with an air of indifference. Yet, her presence filled the space with familiarity and contentment. Though they had been apart for what felt like a lifetime and separated by entire worlds, there was no sense of distance. Everything, the past, the present, the illusion, and the reality blurred together seamlessly. "It's windy outside. Let's go inside," Sushi said, gently taking Krisha's hand and leading her into the warmth of their home. For Krisha, it felt like home again. Once inside, Sushi headed to the kitchen, intending to make tea, but Krisha stopped him. "Please let me handle it," she said, her tone unusually serious. Sushi glanced at her, surprised. Her once dual-colored eyes of black and gold had transformed. Now, they shone with pure red, reflecting his figure with youthful vitality. "All right, I'll leave it to you," Sushi said, yielding to her insistence. Krisha nodded calmly and walked into the kitchen. Though it was her first time using earthly utensils, she adapted quickly. Her gaze swept across the tools and appliances, understanding them as if by instinct. She used no magic or supernatural powers, opting instead to work with quiet precision. It was as if she had returned to their life in the magical world, moving with practiced ease to prepare tea. Soon, she handed Sushi a cup of hot tea, carefully placing it on a small porcelain plate to insulate the heat. "Thank you, Krisha," Sushi said, taking the cup. He blew on the steaming liquid and took a sip. The warmth was perfect for the chilly autumn day. The tea's light flavor lingered on his tongue, bringing a sense of peace. It reminded him of their life together in the magical world. Despite their immense power, they had chosen a simple, tranquil existence. Every moment of that life, no matter how mundane, was cherished. "Krisha, sit down," Sushi said gently. Krisha had been standing quietly by his side, her hands folded neatly in front of her, her posture perfectly straight like a maid awaiting orders. "Yes," she replied, seating herself with grace. The dim autumn light faded as night approached. Sushi turned on the living room lamp, its soft glow casting a warm halo over Krisha's silver hair. Setting his empty teacup down with a soft clink, Sushi finally voiced the question that had been on his mind. "Krisha, how did you come here? I saw your figure, heard your voice, and felt your presence. So I came to find you," Krisha said simply, her tone calm as ever. Her words were straightforward, but Sushi knew the journey must have been anything but simple. "Thank you, Krisha," he said softly, his emotions a mix of gratitude and sorrow. "It wasn't difficult," Krisha replied, shaking her head slightly. To her, as long as she could reunite with him, nothing else mattered. The hardships, the dangers, they were all insignificant compared to being by his side again. The ocean blue gem on her necklace shimmered faintly, as if mirroring the tides of her emotions. Sometimes gentle, sometimes turbulent, it reflected the witch's unspoken thoughts. Krisha, can you tell me what happened after I died? Sushi asked, his tone filled with curiosity. He had long wondered what events happened after the second simulation ended, especially since the simulator's settlement panel had displayed the term Supreme God. Yes, after you left, Krisha began softly, recounting the events in a calm, measured tone. She described how she discovered manuscripts in the study, uprooted the church and its gods, eradicated belief in deities, and eventually fought her way to the heavens. Her words were devoid of emotion, like a mechanical retelling of history. She narrated her triumph over the magical world's crown and subsequent conquest of chaos, all with the same neutral cadence. As Sushi listened, disbelief etched itself onto his face. He could barely fathom that the witch he once knew, the quiet, timid Krisha, had become such an unstoppable force. It's unbelievable, he muttered, his gaze shifting between Krisha and the calm expression on her face. The supreme god who ruled over divine powers. The lord of time and space, symbolizing creation and finality. The eternal one who transcended chaos itself. Sushi's understanding of gods was minimal, limited to the faint divine power released by the god of light during Allinsson's attack. Imagining the vastness of Krisha's current power was like trying to grasp infinity. Strong, super strong, was all he could summarize. It's good that nothing happened to you, Sushi said, breaking the silence. His voice softened as he reached out his hand to gently pat Krisha's head. He didn't care about her strength or titles, he only cared about the risks she had taken. His original wish was for her to live peacefully in the magical world, away from danger. Instead, his death had pushed her to overturn the heavens and embark on a path he had never envisioned. If time could turn back, even knowing she would become the supreme god, Sushi would never have allowed her to take such risks. Her safety mattered far more than any power she could acquire. With a gentle flick, Sushi tapped her forehead. Don't be so reckless in the future. Yes, Krisha responded softly, her hand covering her forehead. But her blank expression made it unclear whether she truly understood. Despite the dim lighting and emptiness of the living room, Krisha felt at ease. Sushi's presence alone brought her peace and warmth, dispelling any loneliness. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics. Sushi asked about Krisha's life after the simulation, her newfound powers, and her position as the supreme god. Then, a thought struck him. Krisha, is the person sitting here with me your true body? He asked, his brow furrowed. The earth was far too fragile to withstand the presence of a supreme god. Krisha's answer was simple. I met a kind-hearted person. A kind-hearted person. Sushi repeated, puzzled. Yes. She taught me how to project my consciousness. The one speaking to you now is merely a projection, she explained. I see, Sushi said, nodding in understanding. The revelation made sense. It was the only way she could be here without overwhelming the fragile earth. I really have to thank that kind person, Sushi mused aloud. Whoever this benefactor was, they must have been an extraordinary being to aid someone like Krisha. Unbeknownst to him, the eternal teardrops on his wrist briefly caught Krisha's attention. Somewhat familiar, she murmured to herself. The conversation shifted again as Sushi showed Krisha around the courtyard. They toured the various rooms, and Sushi even joked about relying on her protection now that she was so powerful. Krisha, however, took the comment seriously. She stayed close to him, following like a shadow guarding its light. Finally, they arrived at Sushi's room. The first thing Krisha noticed was the large wooden storage cabinet. Her eyes landed on two familiar items inside, the scorched grey wand and an ordinary sugar bowl. Master, what is this? Krisha asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. Surprised, Krisha, Sushi said, smiling. He opened the cabinet, retrieving the burnt wand. The wand you lost back then came back to me by chance. I kept it as a keepsake. But now that you're here, do you want it back? After all, it's yours? Krisha shook her head slightly, her gaze shifting to the sugar bowl. And this? She asked, pointing at it. Sushi hesitated before answering. It's a very important memory. It might look like just a candy jar, but it holds meaning for me. Krisha seemed to understand. Slowly, she stepped forward and adjusted the items in the cabinet. When she was done, the wand occupied the first position. Sushi couldn't quite understand Krisha's actions. Adjusting the positions of the sugar bowl and magic wand seemed unnecessary, but he didn't dwell on it. It was just a minor change, and the sugar bowl was still there. Let's go, Krisha. It's time to prepare dinner. Yes, master, Krisha replied. The autumn sun was setting fast, painting the sky with deep shades of orange and leaving a thick darkness behind. The last light of the day brushed softly across the ground, casting a golden glow through the tall kitchen windows. The light illuminated Krisha's pale face, her skin so clear that even the tiniest details were visible. Master, please allow me to handle this, Krisha offered. No, Krisha. Let me do it, Sushi said, feeling that this reunion was worth celebrating. He wanted to cook the meal himself, but Krisha seemed just as eager to take over. In the end, they worked together to prepare the meal. Charcoal grilled chicken, stewed dragon meat, ginseng, and red fruit soup, and stir-fried nectar mushrooms filled the large dining table. The steam rising from the dishes chased away the chill of autumn. With a click, Sushi turned on the overhead light. The sun had fully set, and the moon was rising high in the night sky. Only the bright indoor lights kept the house warm and inviting. I never thought I'd meet you again in the real world, Krisha. This feeling is, Sushi said as he pulled out a chair and sat down, looking directly at the witch seated across from him. Her empty eyes stared back, calm and unwavering. Really good, he concluded, a faint smile curling his lips. The witch's presence filled the previously empty courtyard with warmth and life. Even with her stoic demeanor, her very existence made everything feel livelier. Let's eat, Krisha, Sushi said. Yes, master, Krisha responded, picking up her bowl and chopsticks after Sushi began eating. Sushi couldn't help but notice her dexterity with chopsticks. Before the end of the second simulation, they had been her nemesis. Did she teach herself during the time after his death? Time, ruthless as it is, forces people to grow and learn. Krisha, Sushi said, placing a piece of soft stewed meat into her bowl. Yes, master, she asked, slightly confused. Nothing. I just want you to eat more, Sushi said gently, watching as the immortal witch opened her small mouth and slowly bit into the stew. Dinner was uneventful, yet the soft clinking of bowls and chopsticks created a serene rhythm. For Krisha, this ordinary moment carried profound meaning. It was everything she had longed for. Very good, Krisha murmured halfway through the meal, her voice barely audible, but Sushi's sharp hearing caught it. What's so good? He asked. It's great to see you again, she replied softly. Sushi smiled warmly. Krisha, have you thought about what you will do now that you're in this world? Be with you, Krisha answered without hesitation. Her response was familiar, just as it had been before. I'll be with you tomorrow, the day after, next year, and 10 years from now, she said with quiet determination. The faint strands of grey-silver hair falling across her forehead partially obscured her brilliant eyes, leaving Sushi unable to discern the emotions hidden within. Exactly what you'd say, Krisha, Sushi said, his tone a mix of fondness and resignation. If that's your choice, I won't stop you. Krisha had become a god, and Sushi himself was a holy domain mage. With their abilities, practical matters like food and shelter were irrelevant. After dinner, Krisha cleared the table and washed the dishes by hand. Though she could have used her powers to finish the task instantly, she chose to do it the traditional way, calling it a ritual of serving the master. Watching her move purposefully, Sushi felt his life in the real world had become far more interesting. It's a shame, he murmured to himself. The Krisha here isn't your true body, just a projection. For someone as powerful as Krisha, even her projection was indistinguishable from a real person. But knowing it wasn't her true form, Sushi couldn't help but long for the real Krisha. You don't need to worry, Krisha said, overhearing him. She placed a cup of hot tea on the table and added, I will accelerate the upgrading of this world until it can withstand my true body. Sushi froze, mid-sip. What did you just say, Krisha? Accelerate the upgrading of this world, she repeated calmly. Sushi's eyes widened. He had always thought the Earth's extraordinary recovery was a natural phenomenon. Now it seemed Krisha had been directly involved. As realization dawned, his expression became one of utter disbelief. Wait a minute. Does this mean I crippled myself? He exclaimed, his voice rising in shock. Krisha, standing calmly, shook her head. Before I began upgrading the Earth, the extraordinary recovery had already started. I didn't break your legs, master. That's not my fault. Sushi let out a deep breath, processing her words. Even so, he couldn't shake the surreal thought that somehow, his current life might have been his own doing all along. In the quiet living room, Krisha calmly explained to Sushi her role in accelerating the Earth's supernatural evolution. She explained that when she first discovered the Earth, it was already in the midst of a supernatural awakening. The witch's actions merely hastened its transformation, aiming to expand the Earth enough to support her physical arrival. Please rest assured, Krisha said softly, summoning her wand. The wand looked unassuming, exactly as it had been when Sushi first gave it to her. However, the grey resurrection now held eternal time and space within it, preserving all creatures from fragmented worlds that had become the Earth's nourishment. Only a select few, those with special abilities or unwilling to live within the wand's space, descended to the Earth with the fragments of their magical worlds. These beings became part of the era of spiritual energy recovery, like the Red Dragon. Sushi slumped onto the living room sofa, overwhelmed by the flood of revelations. Good news, my witch isn't the mastermind, he muttered. Bad news, my witch is an accomplice. Krisha's involvement in creating the magical ruins that frequently appeared on Earth was undeniable. This is complicated, Sushi sighed. The emergence of boundary ruins had brought both chaos and incredible advancements. They accelerated human progress, uniting humanity against extraordinary disasters and fostering a new age of technological and magical development. Diseases once thought incurable now had solutions. Stagnant civilizations found new vitality. Even immortality or divinity seemed attainable. The extraordinary disasters of the first few years paled in comparison to the benefits humanity had gained. Sushi closed his eyes and reflected. Ultimately, he decided not to interfere with Krisha's actions. She had ensured the survival of countless beings by integrating their worlds into the Earth. Empty remnants and the corpses of fallen gods were all that joined the planet. It was a win for everyone. But if the Earth truly becomes large enough to accommodate Krisha's full presence one day, what would that look like? Sushi mused. He envisioned an Earth transformed into the brightest star in the universe, marveling at the possibilities. By the time he finished his tea, he felt mentally drained. The witch had shared so much in one day that Sushi knew it would take time to fully process. Good night, Krisha, Sushi said as the day wound down. After freshening up, he bid her good night and prepared to retreat to his room. However, as he walked down the quiet corridor, he noticed Krisha following closely behind him. The moonlight painted her silver-gray hair with a soft glow, making her movements almost ethereal. Krisha, aren't you going back to your room? Sushi asked, puzzled. Krisha stopped, her hair swaying like a silver waterfall. I want to protect you, she said simply. After a pause, she added, at least for tonight, please allow me to do this. Sushi chuckled, remembering the joke he'd made earlier about relying on her for protection. He hadn't expected her to take it so seriously. Krisha, thank you for your concern, Sushi said with a warm smile, but I don't need protection. With my current strength, nothing on this earth poses a threat to me. Not necessarily, Master, Krisha replied cryptically. Sushi shook his head, confident in his abilities and the protection of the eternal tears. Thank you, Krisha, but it's really not necessary, he insisted before entering his room. That night, Sushi decided against practicing. The revelations of the day had left him mentally exhausted. He quickly fell into a deep sleep. The world outside was alive with nighttime activity. Faint noises from the city center blended with rhythmic sounds, making the night seem lonelier in contrast. In Sushi's room, the air rippled slightly, and when it stilled, Krisha was seated in a wooden chair by his bedside. Under the moonlight, she gazed at Sushi's sleeping face. Master, she whispered softly. The witch didn't understand why she felt compelled to call out to him. She simply wanted to speak his name, over and over, as if to confirm his presence. But Krisha hadn't come to Sushi's room out of mere sentimentality. She had a purpose. Brother. The word hung in the air, silent and invisible. At this moment, another presence stirred in the room, a presence that shouldn't have been there. Hidden in the shadows, she observed with trembling eyes filled with guilt and longing. Her gaze fell on the witch, and she realized with a pang that she wasn't alone. The night was unnaturally quiet. Not just the silence of the world settling into sleep, but a stillness that pressed against the fabric of reality itself. A cold, murderous intent hung heavy in the air. Time and space froze as if the universe itself held its breath. The stars ceased their flow, and the rushing streams of light halted, trapped in an eerie suspension. So, it's true. The witch's voice was calm, indifferent, untouched by the murderous aura. Her expression was unreadable as her luminous eyes, faintly glistening, shifted first to Sushi, peacefully sleeping, and then to the figure of the sword fairy by the window. The overwhelming hostility radiating from the sword fairy confirmed Krisha's suspicion. You're waiting for the same person as me. Once could be coincidence. Twice made it undeniable. The faint aura emanating from the eternal teardrops and sugar bowl had already piqued Krisha's awareness that her master might share an inexplicable connection with the Good Samaritan she had once encountered. Fighting for him? Claiming him? Proving superiority? The witch didn't dwell on such ideas. Her presence in Sushi's room was driven by the simple desire to protect him. After all, Krisha knew nothing of the sword fairy's true identity. She couldn't discern whether the other was friend or foe. And perhaps, Krisha cared. More than she wanted to admit. Can we talk? In the quiet bedroom, Krisha rose gracefully from the wooden chair. Her long hair swayed with her movements as she extended a calm invitation to Sumoli. Click, click. The sharp sound of space fracturing echoed in response. There's nothing for us to discuss. Sumoli's tone was cold, her expression frostier still. Her gaze burned with disbelief. The person she had so graciously helped had not only found her way to this world but was in the same room as her brother. While she had been away, things had progressed to an unthinkable extent. Swoosh! The wooden sword hummed sharply, avoiding Sushi's bed with precision but slicing directly toward Krisha. What a hassle. Krisha parried the attack, her face blank yet tinged with faint confusion. Why couldn't the sword fairy talk things out? The one who had once shown such enthusiasm in assisting her was now aggressive beyond reason. In her moment of distress, Sushi's teachings surfaced in Krisha's mind. Krisha, if words fail, sometimes force is the best option. Remembering this, Krisha tilted her head, raised her wand, and issued her own challenge. Fight. Sumoli laughed coldly, angered beyond words. The gall. The sheer audacity of this so-called supreme god to stand so confidently before her. Fine. Let's fight. Sumoli's black hair cascaded like a waterfall as she grasped her blood-stained wooden sword. With a swift motion, time and space within the room were forcefully severed. The fairy and the witch, two eternal supremely powerful beings, vanished into the infinite void of space to settle their clash. The starry sea trembled as their powers collided. Brilliant sword light carved through the darkness, splitting galaxies in two. The flowing Milky Way halted, and the laws of the universe faltered under their might. Is this the so-called immortal way my master mentioned? Krisha mused. She tapped her wand against the vacuum beneath her feet, commanding time itself to accelerate. Stars aged and collapsed, consuming the sword light with infinite precision. Destroy. Krisha's voice was calm as she unleashed an annihilative force, aimed directly at the very concept of Sumoli's existence. But Sumoli was undeterred. Shifting fate, altering the heavens. Her voice was icy, and with a mere gesture, the stars shattered and laws unraveled. In an instant, the collapse of billions of celestial bodies mirrored the might of her power. Yet, just as destruction reached its peak, the two rivals worked in unison to repair the starry sea. Although the battle raged far from the Earth, it still resided within the same universe. Excessive destruction could have far-reaching consequences, and both knew restraint was necessary. Their confrontation, fought with only fragments of their consciousness, was a testament to their discipline. Explosions rippled across the cold void, brilliant and devastating. Stars shattered, reformed, and shattered again in a cosmic dance. This endless cycle created a spectacle that stunned any lucky enough to witness it. But as the battle dragged on, both Sumoli and Krisha realized their stalemate. Their powers, vast and unmatched, cancelled each other out. After one final act of restoration, the two supreme beings stopped simultaneously. Who are you? Sumoli asked, her frown deepening. The question had been asked before when they first met, but now it carried greater weight. The witch's connection to her brother demanded answers. I am Krisha Christina, came the calm reply, the master's only disciple. The revelation left Sumoli momentarily stunned. Her cold, indifferent eyes flickered with astonishment. A disciple? The supreme god from another time and space was her brother's disciple? But how? It was hard to reconcile. A cultivator teaching a god of magic? How absurd. Before she could fully process this, Krisha posed her own question. What about you? What's your relationship with the master? The witch's empty eyes fixed on Sumoli, awaiting her answer. I am Sumoli, his sister. Krisha blinked. Her master, someone she revered as the greatest, had a sister? And not just any sister, a supreme immortal? The two eternal supremes stood frozen in the silent universe, exchanging disbelieving glances. For a moment, their animosity faded, replaced by mutual shock. The same thought crossed their minds. Does my brother really have only one disciple? Does the master really have only one sister? The tension evaporated, leaving only contemplation. Two eternal beings, connected by their shared bond with the same man, now lost in thought. Perhaps this is a unique kind of reincarnation, a gift that belongs only to my brother, Sumoli finally said. Her tone was filled with complexity. For her, it was a bittersweet revelation, a confirmation that her brother remembered her completely. But when her gaze landed on the witch standing before her, the one she had personally sent to her brother, her heart sank. She had been there first. If only she had been more decisive back then. The realization weighed heavily on her, and Sumoli fell into a conflicted silence. Regret for the past mingled with unease about the present. Should she continue with her original plan and wait for her true self to reunite with her brother? Or should she change her course? The hesitation overwhelmed her. Finally, Sumoli's figure faded away, her consciousness retreating to her body, leaving her lost in thought. Krisha's sudden arrival had disrupted the fairy's carefully laid plans. Strange people, Krisha murmured to herself, watching Sumoli's departure. But she is indeed a kind person. For a long time, the witch stood alone in the vastness of the universe, her thoughts swirling. She was someone with indifferent emotions, a shadow dependent on the sun for survival. Sumoli's hesitant and reserved demeanor puzzled her. It was so different from her own. Now that her mentor's immediate troubles had been resolved, the witch made a decision. She would continue to stay by her mentor's side. The universe trembled with a faint hum. Krisha took a step forward, her wand in hand, and the surrounding space shifted. When the ripples of time and space settled, she found herself back in Sushi's room. On the bed, Sushi lay sound asleep, protected by a magic circle. Krisha stood silently, gazing at his face for a long time, as if trying to commit every detail to memory. She stayed there until the first signs of sunrise. Only then did she quietly take the small wooden chair she had been sitting on, disappear into the folds of space, and return to the room Sushi had chosen for her. The witch didn't want to leave a bad impression on her master. She didn't want Sushi to find out she had snuck into his room without permission. May you rest well, master, she whispered softly, her voice vanishing into the dawn. Dreams are silent, a vast and quiet abyss. Dreams are colorful, a boundless sea of swirling hues. As Sushi lay on the soft bed, his consciousness drifted deeper and deeper, until he found himself in a hazy dreamscape. The world around him was white and boundless, like an endless expanse of clouds. Is this really a dream? Sushi wondered. He felt too lucid, too aware. It was more like his nascent soul had left his body and was meditating, communicating with the universe. What is this place? He muttered. Before he could make sense of it, the blank expanse began to change. Colors emerged, swirling and merging, and soon a familiar figure materialized before him. It was snowing heavily. The cold bit through the air, sharp and unrelenting. It was winter in Black Rock City. A small figure huddled at the door of a wooden house, blowing on her hands to keep warm. She looked up toward the distant road with hopeful eyes, waiting for someone to return. Brother, why haven't you come back yet? Her voice trembled with cold. Emily. Sushi whispered, his heart aching at the sight. He reached out his hands instinctively, wanting to brush the snow from her shoulders. But as his hand moved, the scene shifted. The little girl grew older, becoming a frail teenager lying on a bed in a dim cave. Her eyes were dull, filled with tears of guilt and despair. I'm sorry, brother. It's my fault. I'm dragging you down. Sushi watched in silence, recognizing the scene as a memory from one of the simulated worlds. At that time, he had been out searching for medicine, leaving Sumoli alone in the cave. It's okay, Sushi said softly, even though he knew his words couldn't reach her. The dream shifted again. Clouds swirled, and the setting changed. This time, it was Krisha's story. The witch wandered the world alone after Sushi's death, her footsteps echoing through forgotten corners of existence. She filled her days with small, hollow gestures, taming dragons, planting vibrant dragon blood grass, and collecting mundane items in an attempt to recreate the life she once had with her mentor. Master, look. I can use chopsticks now. I won't drop them anymore. At a lonely dinner table, the witch picked up a piece of monster meat with practiced precision and placed it in an empty bowl across from her. The sunlight streaming in was indifferent, offering no warmth. Krisha smiled faintly, using these small deceptions to keep moving forward. Molly, Krisha. Dreams projected their pasts, weaving fragments of their lives together. Sushi, watching these scenes, felt his heart ache despite knowing his sister and his student were safe in the real world. The simulation was real. The emotions were real. These were stories that left indelible marks, impossible to forget. But then the dream shifted again. This time, Molly and Krisha appeared together. Not as children or as struggling figures from the simulations, but as the powerful beings they had become. The two clashed fiercely, their battle shaking the stars and collapsing space. The more they fought, the more destructive their power became, threatening to tear the universe apart. Stop fighting? Don't fight anymore. Sushi tried to intervene, but the chaotic energy swallowed him whole. The dream shattered. Dazed, Sushi opened his eyes to the soft light of morning. He stared at the ceiling, his face etched with fatigue. Was that really just a dream? He murmured. But with my current state, I shouldn't have such strange dreams. Could this be some kind of omen? Enhance your reading experience by removing ads for as low as $1. When something seems off, there's often a deeper reason behind it. Sushi sat by the window, gazing at the early morning sunlight piercing through the mist, wrapping the world in a soft glow. In this tranquil moment, his thoughts churned as he tried to decipher the dream from the previous night. Molly. Krisha. Why would I dream of the two of them fighting in the universe? His brow furrowed as his fingers tapped rhythmically on the chair's armrest. His gaze wandered to the collection cabinet, lingering on the sugar bowl and the grey wand sealed within. He pondered for a long time, entertaining various theories. But each felt too far-fetched. Was the dream merely his mind playing tricks? Or did it have a deeper meaning? The sharp sound of the door opening interrupted his thoughts. It was Krisha. Master, breakfast is ready, she announced in her usual calm, unwavering tone. Krisha looked different today. She wore a simple white dress with a light black overlay, unadorned by patterns or embellishments. Yet, her presence was stunning, her outfit perfectly complementing her ethereal beauty. Even the autumn wind seemed to harmonize with her elegance. Thank you, Krisha. This is what I should do, Master, she replied softly. After washing up with the help of magic, Sushi left his room and walked to the kitchen alongside Krisha. Soon, the two sat down for their first breakfast together in the real world. Krisha, I had a peculiar dream last night. Perhaps you could shed some light on it. Sushi asked as he sipped the millet porridge Krisha had prepared. The witch paused briefly, her gaze steady as she replied, I'm sorry, Master, but I can't make sense of your dream. She spoke as naturally as she poured a glass of warm milk for Sushi. Krisha chose not to reveal the truth about the events of the previous night. Her actions sneaking into Sushi's room to ensure his safety were done out of concern, but she feared they might be misunderstood. Perhaps I've just been overthinking, Sushi mused aloud, dismissing the matter. But Krisha had a different concern on her mind. Master, she began, her tone as serious as ever, I believe your safety needs to be taken more seriously. Sushi chuckled, recalling their conversation from the previous night. Krisha, you worry too much, he said with a reassuring smile. There are few threats on Earth that could challenge me now. To emphasize his point, he raised his wrist, showing her the eternal teardrops, and briefly explained its extraordinary abilities, its unparalleled defense that could even withstand the attack of an immortal emperor. But instead of easing her concerns, it only made Krisha more resolute. Having witnessed Molly's sudden appearance in Sushi's room the previous night, Krisha couldn't help but worry. What if it hadn't been his sister but a real enemy? I can protect you, Master, she insisted, her voice carrying an unusual stubbornness. For a fleeting moment, her expression softened, but then it became blank again. Failed, she murmured. Anointing the Master as a god, failed. A subtle ripple passed over Sushi's body, dissipating into the air. Krisha, what did you just do? He asked, his tone tinged with curiosity. The witch explained that she had attempted to use her supreme authority to bless Sushi, elevating him to godhood. But an unseen force had blocked her efforts. It was the first time Krisha had encountered a power beyond her own. It's all right, Krisha. I believe I know the reason, Sushi said gently, comforting her. As he spoke, the life simulator panel appeared before him, invisible to Krisha. Sushi realized that the simulator's mysterious power was responsible for blocking the witch's attempt. Canonizing him would have inadvertently canonized the simulator itself, a feat even the supreme witch couldn't achieve. Sushi wasn't bothered by this revelation. Becoming a god was inevitable for him, it was merely a matter of time. But Krisha felt differently. Master, this is my gift to you, she said softly. With a graceful motion, Krisha summoned countless points of shimmering light, the divine authority of countless worlds. She sifted through them carefully, testing the limits of what the earth could bear. Krisha, what are you doing? Sushi asked, his tone a mix of surprise and curiosity. Please accept this, Master. Amidst the swirling gray strands of her hair, a luminous necklace materialized. She carefully placed it in Sushi's palm. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining a special item, the Supreme Crown. The Supreme Crown. Item description, the heavens witness his arrival, and all worlds praise his eternity. Celebrate, for this is his past and the embodiment of his glorious achievements. Item effects, magical power increased tenfold. Elemental perception enhanced tenfold. Damage to gods increased tenfold. Damage to dragons and sub-dragons increased tenfold. Law comprehension improved tenfold. Elemental power enhanced tenfold. Time and space understanding increased tenfold. Sushi stared at the necklace in awe. Krisha, this. The witch's serene expression didn't waver. Please accept it, master. It's my way of protecting you. The simulator panel continued to refresh. The abilities derived from the Supreme Crown were demonstrating their unrivaled power in every aspect. The Supreme Crown, the eternal lifespan, is synchronized once a day, granting the wearer infinite and eternal life. It cannot be destroyed, dispelled, or revoked. Even the god of death cannot take this gift away. Time and space perception refreshes once a day, granting the wearer 24 hours of time-space talent. The wearer can manipulate and understand the power of time and space without limitations of knowledge or race. Absolute immunity refreshes once a day, nullifying attacks below the level of great divine power. The eternal supreme favor ensures that when the wearer ascends, they will ignite the divine fire, condense divinity, and become a true god with all powers permitted by the supreme god, guaranteed at 100%. Requirements for use: his only, his everything. Ah, am I relying on others again? Sushi blinked. It suddenly dawned on him why the scene before him felt so familiar. Krisha's act of presenting the Supreme Crown mirrored his sister's gesture when she gifted the Eternal Teardrop. What's more, the Supreme Crown's abilities even exceeded those of the Eternal Teardrop by 1 or 2 bonuses. It wasn't a significant difference, but it was noticeable. The glowing artifact, condensed from concepts and authority, shimmered like a phantom necklace compressed from countless fragments of starlight. It rested in Sushi's palm, connecting countless small worlds. Through it, he faintly sensed the presence of an immeasurable magnitude. The Supreme Crown. It isn't shaped by the heavens and the world, rather, it governs them. Sushi murmured to himself. Feeling the vast power within the necklace, Sushi couldn't help but marvel. Ever since Krisha returned, one shock after another had been delivered. In just 2 days, Sushi experienced multiple earth-shattering revelations. Master, this is my reward, Krisha said softly. Sitting upright with her cold, indifferent expression, her delicate face rivaled the brilliance of the sun. Sushi understood her meaning. The ocean blue necklace she once received was now returned to him in the form of the Supreme Crown. This was the most precious gift the witch could imagine and offer. Thank you, Krisha. I truly like this gift. Under her gaze, Sushi noticed the subtle nervousness in her usually emotionless demeanor. He smiled gently. Would an emotionally detached witch feel anxious about whether her gift would be accepted? Her hesitation reflected in her clear eyes, which followed every movement Sushi made until he finally put on the necklace. It's an excellent gift, Krisha. It's incredibly helpful. His warm, broad palm gently patted her head, brushing away her unease. Krisha's worries were unnecessary. How could he ever refuse a gift from her? First, it represented her sincere feelings. Second, Sushi had already accepted his sister's soft rice, so why would he reject his disciples? I've walked on thin ice my entire life. All my magical achievements have been through sheer effort. Sushi sighed. He extended his right hand, and with a flicker of spatial fluctuations, the glass of water in the living room vanished and reappeared in his hand. Space magic, mastered in an instant. The Supreme Crown's time-space perception and the tenfold amplification of time-space cultivation had contributed to this miraculous feat. Soft rice is truly delicious, Sushi concluded with a faint smile. Krisha blinked in confusion, not understanding his remark, but she could see he was satisfied with her gift, which lifted her mood. After breakfast, Krisha resumed cleaning the courtyard, moving with her characteristic precision and rhythm. Although she could have completed the task effortlessly with a thought, she chose to do it manually, just as she would in the magical world. Meanwhile, Sushi entered the study room. The bookshelves, bathed in sunlight, displayed intricate wood grain patterns. Thick ancient books on magic and Taoist cultivation filled the shelves, each protected by a spirit sealing barrier to prevent decay. Navigating through the narrow passage, Sushi reached his large desk, cluttered with manuscripts and crumpled notes. Sitting down, he retrieved the Eternal Teardrop and the Supreme Crown, comparing the two artifacts. My sister's gift and my disciple's gift both provide a tenfold boost to their respective attributes, Sushi noted. But the most significant change is the time-space talent and the guarantee of becoming a god. The former paves the way from pseudo-omnipotence to true omnipotence. While I've grasped the basics of space magic, time magic remains challenging and will require more effort. He paused. As for becoming a god, this solves the issue of future progression entirely. All I need to do is refine my mental power and naturally reach the bottleneck of godhood. Shifting his focus to the Eternal Teardrop, Sushi contemplated the mysterious presence behind it. What is Emily up to these days? In the past, Sushi had assumed his sister had traveled to another world, leaving only the Eternal Teardrop to accompany the ruins of the world. However, Krisha's inability to achieve godhood made him question this assumption. He vividly recalled a peculiar sensation shortly after obtaining the Eternal Teardrop during his second simulation. At the time, he dismissed it as a fleeting illusion, finding no evidence of anything unusual. But now, reflecting on it, he suspected it might have been a similar experience to what he faced today. Staring at the light red crystal in his palm, Sushi muttered, back then, it wasn't about becoming a god but an immortal. Emily might have been by my side all along. I just didn't realize it and mistakenly thought she was in another world. Sushi's thoughts wandered to the strange dream he had the previous night. He had been puzzling over the conflict between his sister and his disciple. Now, it seemed clear. Whether they were fighting or forming alliances, the reason Emily interacted with Krisha could only be Sushi himself. Emily must have been observing him and the people around him. But if that's the case, why won't she reveal herself? In the silent study, Sushi fell into deep contemplation. The first simulation lasted 19 years, during which Sushi and Sumoli spent 18 years together. The second simulation lasted 79 years, and Sushi shared 73 of those years with Krisha. From a purely time-based perspective, the life experiences Sushi shared with the witch in the second simulation far outweighed those he shared with his younger sister. If one were to exclude the time when Emily was struck by a heavenly disaster and lay in a coma, the time spent between the siblings became even less. So, could one conclude that the bond between Sushi and his sister wasn't as strong as the one he shared with the witch? Sushi didn't think so. Emotions weren't all the same. Some grow and shine through years of companionship, while others become eternal in fleeting moments. In Sushi's heart, Emily, the sister he had cared for since childhood, held an irreplaceable place. She was a foolish child waiting shivering in the cold for his return, struggling to hold an oil umbrella to shield him from the rain despite her small frame, and even in her dying moments, worrying that her illness might burden his future. Foolish? Incredibly so. Silly? Certainly. But how many such people exist in the world? To Sushi, there might be others, but no one like Sumoli, his one true companion in the immortal world, someone who had shared warmth with him through life's bitter trials. Krisha had her own unique memories, just as Emily had hers. Those memories and experiences together shaped irreplaceable emotions, precious and beautiful. The sound of birds chirping drifted in through the window. They flitted among the dead autumn leaves, searching for warmth where new life would sprout. Sunlight filtered through the wooden windows at an angle, casting a glow on Sushi's face as he closed his eyes, the blood-red crystal of the eternal teardrop reflecting its light onto him. Emily, are you upset with me for what happened back then? Is that why you refuse to see me? Sushi sighed, the sound reverberating in the quiet study. He had long suspected that his sister might be nearby. Despite his attempts to reach out, there had been no response. Now, he was certain his clumsy, tear-prone sister was indeed close, yet unwilling to appear before him. Was she angry? Disappointed? Sushi didn't understand her thoughts, but he knew he needed to act. The misunderstandings during the simulation, the harsh words spoken in anger, those wounds needed closure. As her elder brother, he owed her that much. But what could he do to see her familiar figure once again? Sushi gazed out the window, his thoughts carried by the wind along with the fluttering dead leaves. After some time, the door to the study creaked open. Master, I've brought tea, Krisha announced, stepping in with a porcelain cup of steaming liquid. Its light green hue was familiar. Thank you, Krisha. Sushi accepted the cup and took a sip. The sharp bitterness of the Qingshen grass magic drink instantly attacked his taste buds. So bitter, Sushi muttered, feeling his tongue go numb. The drink's refreshing effect enhanced his mental clarity and quickened his thoughts. Yet as a sanctuary mage, did Sushi truly need such improvements? Krisha. Yes, master, she replied, her posture respectful. Please don't use Qingshen grass for afternoon tea anymore. Understood. I'll remember that, Krisha responded softly, her black and white fluffy skirt swaying slightly as she held the cup and plate. Her lifeless yet beautiful eyes reflected only Sushi's figure. Silent. Pure. Unchanging, even as years passed. Yinshan City was cold and quiet in autumn, but the presence of the witch seemed to fill the courtyard with vitality. Under the sunlight, the dragon blood grass glowed faintly, thriving unreasonably despite the season. Dragon blood grass and red dragon blood grass, two entirely different plants, flourished under Krisha's care, each displaying its unique beauty. The former carried a faint oceanic scent and could grant dragon blood, enabling snakes and fish to transform into the lowest tier of demon cultivators. The latter, fiery and crimson, could imbue animals with sub-dragon traits and grant humans fire element perception, making them ideal fire magician candidates. The grass grew so abundantly that Sushi sold several batches. However, cultivating new dragon blood grass required fresh dragon blood. When the red dragon arrived in Yinshan City and saw the witch, it immediately knelt, trembling. Offering its blood willingly, it claimed that as long as it wasn't killed, it would endure any amount of bloodletting. The witch calmly accepted the red dragon's plea, finding Sushi's teachings about the docility of dragons to be surprisingly accurate. The red dragon dared not protest. In the courtyard, Krisha continued managing housework and the dragon blood grass. Yet Sushi's life remained far from relaxed. After obtaining the necklace formed from the supreme crown, he threw himself into training, delving into the complexities of space magic and time magic. Through relentless effort, Sushi mastered several space magic techniques. Short-distance teleportation for combat, long-distance teleportation, space slashes for offense, and space barriers for defense were all within his grasp. The offensive and defensive techniques are helpful but not crucial. I already have plenty of methods in those areas. The true value lies in teleportation, Sushi mused. With space magic, I'll no longer need to travel slowly over long distances. As for time magic, it's far more challenging. I probably won't fully control it until I become a god. Nearly 2 months later, Sushi concluded his training. Not only had he mastered space magic, but he also advanced to the spirit transformation stage, an unexpected gain. The sky darkened, thunderclouds threatening rain. Yet a glance from the witch shattered the clouds, restoring the day to a bright, sunny calm. Sushi left the training room, returning to his quarters. Staring at the collection cabinet and the sugar jar returned to their original places, he sighed softly. Emily, that stubborn girl still refuses to show herself. Woo! The long, mournful sound echoed faintly, blending with the rustling of dry leaves rubbing against each other in the courtyard. Time had flown by. When Sushi and Krisha reunited, it was the early days of autumn, with cool breezes weaving through the air. Now, 2 months later, they found themselves in the quiet desolation of late autumn. Winter would soon arrive, harsh and unyielding, replacing the remnants of fall. The passage of time felt strange, like water slipping through one's fingers. Everyone could feel its disappearance, but it wasn't truly understood until the water was nearly gone. In the bedroom, Sushi approached a tall storage cabinet. His gaze lingered on the sugar bowl and wand inside as he sank into deep thought. Over the past 2 months, he had poured considerable effort into coaxing his sister to reveal herself in the real world, but it was all in vain. Despite his attempts, there was no response from her. Through subtle signs, Sushi could sense that his sister was still around, watching him, but she remained hidden. No matter what he tried calling her name, rearranging the sugar bowl with Krisha's help, or creating scenarios to draw her out, she gave no indication of appearing. Was she still angry about the past? Did she hold on to unresolved grievances? What could it be? Sushi muttered softly. Unable to communicate directly or discern her true feelings, Sushi was left to guess the reasons for her refusal to emerge. But all his assumptions led nowhere. As his third simulation loomed closer, the girl still showed no intention of revealing herself. He didn't even know if she was observing him now or if she was far away, lost in her own thoughts. The gentle sound of wind brushed past his ears. Sushi opened the cabinet, retrieved the porcelain sugar bowl, and placed it alongside the eternal teardrop on a small wooden table in the bedroom. These 2 items represented the sole connection to his sister after the first simulation: the sugar bowl, a gift of candy he had given her, and the eternal teardrop, a token she had left for him. Speaking of which, I've never actually tried the candy inside, Sushi murmured, sitting down and gazing at the cylindrical, light blue bowl with a wistful expression. In the first simulation, nearly all the candy he bought was given to Emily. Sushi himself had never found it particularly delicious, yet Emily seemed to adore it. She always lit up with joy whenever he handed her a piece. Let's try one, he decided. Opening the lid, Sushi retrieved a small white hard candy from the pile. Placing it in his mouth, he tasted a light malt aroma with a faint hint of glutinous rice flour. The candy was hard, meant to be savored slowly. The sweetness was accompanied by a subtle tang. Was it delicious? Sushi thought it was decent, a pleasant snack, but nothing addictive. Did that kid Emily pretend to like sweets just to make me happy? Sushi paused, his expression turning contemplative. He recalled how, during the first simulation, Emily had always been precocious, sometimes displaying maturity beyond her years. She had never openly shown a fondness for sweets at Forest Sword Peak but would always accept them without complaint. Sushi had never questioned this. He assumed she loved candy and continued buying it for her without a second thought. It seems I really was an incompetent brother. Sushi leaned back in his chair, letting his weight rest against the wooden frame as he stared at the ceiling. The reason she accepted them every time was simply to avoid making me sad. Was I too presumptuous? Not only did I rarely consider her feelings, but I also imposed my own decisions on her life, hid her ability to shape spiritual roots, and concocted lies to avoid responsibility. Sunlight poured through the window, casting fine patterns on the wooden table. It illuminated the porcelain jar filled with candies and the warm, blood-red glow of the eternal teardrop, making their surfaces gleam. Sushi sat silently, lost in thought. He felt he had uncovered the true reason why his sister refused to appear. The weight of his actions had likely been too much for a young girl to bear. Especially his decision to leave the Tianjian sect before her death. Those final words he had spoken to Emily must have left a deep wound in her heart. I'm sorry, Emily, Sushi whispered. As your older brother, I failed you. The candy in his mouth released a sweetness that contrasted with the bitterness in his heart. After a long pause, Sushi spoke into the empty room, unsure if his sister was listening but compelled to express his regret. I'm sorry, truly sorry, he said softly, his voice tinged with guilt. With a gentle motion, he closed the sugar bowl's lid and returned it to its original place. Just as he did, a sudden wetness brushed against the back of his hand. Sweat? The cold autumn air made that impossible. Rain? The sunny courtyard ruled that out as well. What was this unexpected dampness? Brother, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's all my fault, all my fault. A weight pressed onto Sushi's shoulders, accompanied by quiet sobs. He felt arms, pale like jade lotuses, wrapping around his neck from behind. The embrace was warm yet trembling. Tears flowed freely as Emily's suppressed emotions broke free, and her cries filled the room. Unlike Krisha's silent tears, Emily's outpouring was raw and unrestrained. It was an eruption of guilt, self-blame, and the burden of years of separation. Sushi was momentarily stunned before his expression softened. He gently held her hands, his voice carrying the warmth of the past. Welcome home, Emily. The girl's sobs grew louder, her cries filled with pent-up sorrow. The years of regret and pain she carried for Sushi's death had shattered under the weight of his apology. The stark contrast between her guilt and his forgiveness broke her defenses, leaving her vulnerable and fragile. Outside the door, Krisha stood silently, holding a tray with tea and desserts prepared for Sushi. Her silver-gray hair gleamed in the sunlight, but her indifferent expression remained unchanged. Normally, she would have entered the room without hesitation, but Emily's cries stopped her in her tracks. Just this once. Only this once. The witch turned away, choosing to leave them in peace. For this rare moment, she allowed time to belong to them. But from now on, the witch who claimed to have no emotions would no longer tolerate such indulgences. The girl continued to cry, her sobs filled with all the grievances and guilt she had held in her heart. Through her fragmented and intermittent words, Sushi finally understood the real reason why Emily had refused to appear. It was regret, the unbearable weight of witnessing the death of someone she loved and feeling powerless to prevent it. It was the burden of believing she was responsible and unable to face the cruel truth. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. I hurt my brother. It was me. It was my fault that my brother lost his life. I should be the one apologizing. Her voice became increasingly mournful until it dissolved into pure, heart-wrenching cries. She buried her head against Sushi's shoulder, her tears soaking into the fabric as she clung to him tightly. Though the once frail and sickly girl had become an eternal, transcendent existence, she still couldn't forgive herself. She couldn't forgive her helplessness on that fateful day, unable to do anything but cry in despair. Emily, Sushi called softly. His voice reached her ears, making her body tremble. Was he about to scold her? Would he reject her for what she had become? But what she feared didn't happen. Instead, his words were gentle and warm, like the light of spring sunlight brushing softly against her cheek. You've had to endure so much alone, haven't you? I'm sorry. I came too late. There wasn't a trace of blame in his voice. On the contrary, it was filled with love and understanding, easing her insecurity. Yet, to Emily, those kind words pierced her heart like a blade. Her sobs grew louder, more uncontrollable, as if every word stripped away a layer of her long-buried pain. The seasons were shifting. Autumn's chill lingered, and winter's sharp bite loomed closer. Time's passage brought changes, both external and internal. Compared to the first simulation's end, Emily's appearance had altered slightly, maturity replacing the innocence of youth, loneliness etched into her expression. Sushi was proud of her growth but couldn't ignore the heavy price she had paid for it. He gently placed his hand on her head, just as he used to when she was a child, and rubbed it lightly to comfort her. It's enough that you're here now. Let go of the guilt and pain. The past is behind us. Sushi's voice remained soft and steady. Emily didn't respond, but her crying gradually subsided. She clung to him even tighter, her embrace firm and close, as though she had finally found the strength she had lost. The helpless little girl, once drowning in despair, had her anchor once more. Brother, will you ever leave me again? Her trembling voice carried all her fear and unease. Never again, Sushi replied firmly. It wasn't a hollow promise, it was the truth. Hearing his answer, Emily seemed to relax, though she continued to hold on to him tightly, resting her head on his shoulder and refusing to let go. The scene felt oddly familiar to Sushi. Where had he experienced this before? I remember, he murmured. It's like those mornings I woke up feeling something heavy pressing on me. It dawned on him that what he had once mistaken for ghost pressure was actually caused by Emily sneaking into his room in the middle of the night. Sushi chuckled, amused by the discovery and his sister's mischievous behavior. After a while, Emily's tears finally dried under Sushi's gentle comfort. He guided her to sit across from him at the wooden table. Now, Sushi could clearly see her face. Strange? No. She was still the same Emily he remembered, a girl who cried easily and relied on him. Familiar? Not entirely. Time had shaped her. Unlike Krisha, who remained eternally 17, Emily had grown, her body and demeanor reflecting the passage of years. She was taller, her hair longer, and her demeanor carried a cooler, more composed edge than before. Beautiful, Sushi whispered as he wiped the tears from her cheeks, restoring her face to its natural radiance. Thank you, brother. Her words were familiar, but her tone was different. In her youth, her voice had been bright and lively, filled with a child's innocence. Now, it carried a touch of hesitation, the awkwardness of reuniting after so long. Emily, have some candy, Sushi said, breaking the tension. He opened the sugar bowl and handed her a brown gummy candy. Okay. Emily obediently took the candy and placed it in her mouth. Its taste wasn't extraordinary, but its significance was profound. The emotions it carried were timeless, and the person who had given it meaning, her brother, was now sitting beside her, watching her with a gentle smile. Brother, this candy is delicious. I really like it, Emily said, smiling softly. Her smile was familiar, a mix of the coquettishness from her childhood and the purity of her vulnerability. It was as though time had rewound, bringing her back to those carefree days. Yet, as she smiled, tears streamed down her cheeks once more, dampening her face. As long as you like it, there's plenty more. We can take our time enjoying them, Sushi said, carefully wiping her tears away. Their childhood during the first simulation had been so happy. Yet, after it ended, Emily had carried unimaginable sorrow in her heart. Sushi hoped to heal those scars, but the girl shook her head. There was no need to cover or hide her wounds anymore. The moment Sushi reappeared in her life, the coldness in her heart began to melt. Simply being with him, simply looking at him, was enough to fill her with warmth and satisfaction. That's fine, then, Sushi said with a smile. He instinctively reached out to pat her head but hesitated. Emily had grown up, she had endured years of practice and hardship. Perhaps she no longer liked such childish gestures. Before he could pull his hand away, Emily grabbed his wrist and guided his palm to rest gently on her head. Brother, do you remember? Remember what? When I was little, I used to complain that you patted my head too much, saying it was the reason I couldn't grow taller. If that's the case, why are you letting me do it now? Because Emily has grown up. I don't need to grow taller anymore. Her voice was soft, her gaze fixed on Sushi, yet it seemed to look far beyond him, into a distant memory. Molly's mood seemed to improve dramatically. It was so sudden, so unexpected, and yet so subtle. Sushi noticed the change but couldn't pinpoint the reason, so he asked, "What's wrong, Emily?" "Nothing," she replied, a soft smile playing on her lips. "I just feel happy to be reunited with my brother." Her eyes sparkled with a light smile, and under the warm sunlight streaming through the window, the icy demeanor on her face softened, revealing a fleeting glimpse of the innocence and charm she had as a child. The moment passed quickly, and she returned to her usual cold, fairy-like appearance. Meanwhile, in the courtyard kitchen, the atmosphere was eerily still. Krisha sat silently, using her time manipulation abilities to pause the passage of heat in the tea and desserts she had prepared, ensuring they would be delivered to her master in perfect condition. She remained seated, her gaze fixed on Sushi's door. "Emily, can you tell me what happened after the battle with the Heavenly Sword sect?" Sushi asked, the warm light in the room casting a soft glow as he sat with her. He already had a general understanding of her deeds in the world of immortality, thanks to Li Wanshao. However, hearing it directly from her would add depth to the story. Sushi was curious how had his sister, once an ordinary immortal cultivator, risen to such extraordinary heights? How had she grown stronger, braving countless challenges, and what led to the emotions that made her shed tears so unnaturally? "Whatever brother wants to know, Emily will tell you everything," she said with a slight nod, her tone calm. She began recounting the events that followed the invasion of the Heavenly Sword sect by demon cultivators. She spoke of leaving the sect, hunting down all the demon cultivators in the immortal cultivation world, gathering heavenly treasures, and creating her own Taoist techniques and magical powers. Her narration matched the information provided by Li Wanshao but included more vivid details and a stronger sense of immersion. Sushi's expression remained steady at first. However, as she continued, his eyes gradually widened in disbelief. Before even becoming an immortal, she had forced her way into the immortal world by opening the heavenly gate with her sword, fighting against immortals from the realm gate without losing. And after stepping onto the immortal path and becoming a true immortal, she had managed to retreat unscathed even when facing an immortal emperor? Wait, my sister is this powerful? Sushi thought, his mind reeling. He had never imagined anyone could rival Krisha's incredible feats, let alone that it would be his own sister. Unbelievable. You fought an immortal emperor as a new immortal and walked away unharmed. Is this real? Sushi's face betrayed little, but inside, he was in complete turmoil. While he hadn't yet ascended to immortality and knew little about their combat capabilities, he fully understood the power and authority of an immortal emperor. An immortal emperor stood at the pinnacle of the immortal world, commanding the heavens and realms, suppressing all under their rule. For his sister to have divided such a being's dominance was beyond comprehension. This is unbelievable, Sushi muttered under his breath as he opened the sugar bowl. Taking out a piece of candy, he popped it into his mouth, hoping to suppress the overwhelming shock. But Emily's revelations weren't over. What followed carried even more astonishing information. The elixir master found was it you who secretly placed it there. And you split the fairy world apart to upgrade the earth. So the mastermind behind everything was you all along. You're the one responsible for the fall of the immortal emperor. Crunch. Sushi bit into the candy, the shards scattering in his mouth as he processed the tidal wave of information. He didn't know whether to laugh at Li Wanshao's so-called luck or marvel at his sister's unbelievable feats. On one hand, it was due to Emily's intervention that Li Wanshao had managed to ascend to immortality. On the other hand, his time in the fairy world had been cut short, his experiences disrupted by Emily's actions. This is just a little overwhelming. Sushi struggled to find the right words. Taking a deep breath, he rubbed his temples, which were now throbbing slightly. Perhaps due to the shocks he'd endured from Krisha's earlier revelations, Sushi quickly came to terms with his sister's deeds. Killing the immortal emperor? Outrageous. Destroying the fairy world? Absurd. But in the immortal cultivation world, where strength ruled all, it wasn't entirely incomprehensible. The fairy world, after all, was just a more advanced cultivation realm. Its destruction wouldn't sever the path to immortality. What concerned Sushi more was another matter entirely. Emily, when you destroyed those small worlds to upgrade Earth, you didn't harm too many lives, did you? Of course not, brother, she replied, her tone calm. Her face betrayed no emotion as her little finger made a subtle motion behind her back. At this moment, cause and effect shifted through time and space. Any innocent lives accidentally lost during the process were resurrected by Sumoli's will. Some were integrated into the ruins of the immortal world on Earth, while others were transported to smaller worlds in the heavens. As for demonic cultivators and savage beasts, they remained forever banished to the netherworld. Good, as long as you're sure, Sushi said, his heart easing at her answer. He wasn't a saint, but he had no interest in senselessly killing the innocent. The destruction of a realm sounded terrifying, but knowing his sister had handled it with care reassured him. Despite everything, she remained as kind and moral as she had been as a child. But, Sushi murmured, deep in thought as he gently stroked the eternal teardrop. It seems that even if I didn't initiate Earth's spiritual energy recovery, it still ties back to me somehow. The evidence was clear, the realms of immortals and magic had appeared on Earth because of him. Whether he wanted it or not, he was a key figure in the Earth's transformation. Emily, I have another question, Sushi said. Please, go ahead, brother, she replied. When you discovered Earth, had the spiritual energy recovery already begun? When I arrived, the visions of this world had already appeared, she confirmed. I see, Sushi said, his thoughts swirling. Licking the softened candy in his mouth, he savored its lingering sweetness. Then, closing the sugar bowl, he leaned back slightly and closed his eyes. Emily and Krisha only accelerated the recovery. So who initiated it? Could it be that the research on extraordinary authority was wrong? Was the first wave of spiritual energy recovery not caused by an invasion but by Earth's own awakening? Or was there some other factor involved? After a moment of silence, Sushi smiled faintly. It's not a big deal. With Emily and Krisha around, even if Earth explodes, they'll make sure it recovers. Love breathes life into the struggles that shape us, filling the hollow spaces in our hearts and giving color to lifeless bones. Love's power may not be infinite, but for some, it is the only force keeping them alive. The courtyard feels a bit warmer today, Sushi murmured, gazing out the window. The chill of autumn seemed less pronounced, perhaps softened by the joy of reunion, or perhaps it was the presence of two supreme beings keeping the cold at bay. Emily, let me take you to meet someone, Sushi said after spending time reconnecting with his sister, resolving their lingering misunderstandings, and understanding her current situation. He led Emily out of the bedroom, intending to introduce her to Krisha. His goal was simple, to ensure the two wouldn't replicate the fierce conflict from his dream, where they had clashed like bitter rivals. When the two finally met, the atmosphere changed dramatically. The quiet of the courtyard transformed into an unspoken hurricane, sweeping through every corner. The warmth dissipated, replaced by an icy chill that seemed to pierce the soul. Sumoli and Krisha stood still, their eyes locking briefly as they exchanged cool introductions. I am Sumoli, my brother's sister. I am Krisha Christina, my master's disciple. Under Sushi's watchful gaze, their first meeting concluded as abruptly as it began. Neither showed much interest in the other's presence. After their brief introductions, silence filled the space. The two seemed to tacitly agree to avoid mentioning the battle in the starry sky. It wasn't entirely quiet, though. Krisha took action, bringing hot tea and desserts to the table. The tea carried a rich, mellow flavor, and the desserts were expertly prepared, but she had only made a small portion. Later, Sushi asked Krisha what she thought of Emily. Her response was succinct, she seems like a pitiful good Samaritan. Pitiful good Samaritan. Sushi echoed, unsure how to interpret her words. While her response felt subtle and strange, it was clear she bore no hostility toward Emily. Similarly, when Sushi asked Emily for her impression of Krisha, she replied, a lucky person with good fortune. But I don't dislike her. Lucky? In what way? Sushi wondered. It was evident the two had crossed paths before, though they harbored no ill feelings toward one another. Relieved, Sushi thought, at least the dream's conflict won't become a reality. Still, how did Emily and Krisha meet? Sushi mused. Could it have been in the heavens or some other world after reaching their supreme levels? The details of their past encounters didn't matter much now. What was important was focusing on the present and future. Sushi prepared a room in the courtyard for Emily. The new courtyard had plenty of empty rooms, enough to accommodate 4 or 5 residents comfortably. Unlike Krisha, who stayed in the courtyard daily, Emily's visits were sporadic. Much of her time was spent working tirelessly on upgrading Earth, striving to descend into her true form over the years. When she did appear, she would either spend time with Sushi or study the dragon blood grass in the courtyard. This rekindled an old interest she had abandoned after leaving the Heavenly Sword sect. Once again, she found joy in tending to flowers and plants. What a peaceful and wonderful life, Sushi remarked, sipping hot tea Krisha handed him. Calm days like these were exactly what he longed for if only he could ignore the peculiar changes in the collection cabinet. Shua. The grey wand of rekindling had moved to the first position. Shua. The sugar bowl reclaimed the top spot. It had become a curious phenomenon. Every time Sushi blinked or looked away, the top item in the collection cabinet would mysteriously change. Gulp, gulp, Sushi drained his tea in one go, choosing to ignore the oddity. He had tried asking both Krisha and Emily to restrain themselves, and while both were obedient and sensible enough not to trouble him, their subtle competition continued. When Sushi was in the bedroom, the collection cabinet would remain perfectly quiet, as if nothing was amiss. But when he wasn't around like now, sitting in the living room, the silent battle resumed. The children have grown up, and it's hard to manage them, Sushi muttered, setting his cup down with a faint clink. He summoned the simulator panel visible only to him and began pondering his next move. What world should he choose for the third simulation? At my current pace, achieving immortality on the cultivation side or ascending on the magic side is only a matter of time, Sushi thought. But there's no such thing as too much strength. If the simulator can assist me across multiple extraordinary systems, it would be a waste not to maximize its potential. Flipping through the descriptions of various worlds, Sushi considered his options carefully. With abundant resources stored in his space ring, he could simulate any world he chose. Immortal cultivation helps me understand the movements of heaven and earth. Magic meditation enhances my spiritual clarity and control over elements. These paths have already brought me profound insights into the essence of the world. Repeating these directions in the third simulation wouldn't yield as much value. After much thought, Sushi narrowed his focus to two systems, fantasy and martial arts. Both systems emphasized the physical body. In these realms, a single punch could break through life and death, and boundless vitality could dominate the skies and suppress the underworld. My spiritual roots connect me to the energy of heaven and earth. Meditation grants me mastery over the spirit. I've come far on the path of understanding, but my greatest weakness lies in my physical essence. After weighing his options, Sushi chose the martial arts system. Though both fantasy and martial arts emphasized physical strength, martial arts delved deeper into exploring the secrets of the human body. It complemented the essence, energy, and spirit he sought to unify, paving the way for integrating multiple extraordinary systems. Alright, let's begin recharging, Sushi decided. He tapped his storage ring, releasing a pile of extraordinary items from the martial arts system. Byte. Martial arts side anchor point media loading degree, +1%, +1%, +1%, +1%.
Hello everyone! As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.